Yes, it's the final day here of Royal Ascot 2020 here on Racing Post Live. Welcome back. If you've been with us all week, what a time we have had. Bruce Millington back for another day. How's the voice?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to it.
Tempted to call you Mr. Scarhill, but
that
has gone down brilliantly, by the way.
Yeah, someone posted on Twitter a picture of me early in the commentary with a normal sort of pallid complexion, and then towards the end of it, I was bright red.
You were the Scarlet Dragon.
I need to remember to breathe. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we all need to breathe a little bit with 3 Group 1s coming up. What a day we have. I'm delighted to say from our sponsors, Betfair, Neil Hubbard is back. Neil, how are we?
Afternoon, Dave. Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really looking forward to today. Looks an absolute belter of a card.
It does, and I'm delighted you're back. Listen, I love Barry Orr, as everyone knows. He's been doing a couple of days for us as well.
Everyone loves Barry.
You were here on Gold Cup Thursday. That's my best punting day so far. I've gone back to my shirt. Do you have like a favourite like lucky shirt or something like that? It's the only day I've been in profit, Bruce, so I've gone back. I need to chase the profit again.
You actually have a lucky shirt?
I don't actually have a lucky shirt, but this week, this is my winning shirt.
On Thursday? Is it laundered?
This is the Gold Cup
Has it
shirt.
been washed since?
It has. Okay. It has. I must admit, listen, this is going to sound a bit awful, but I did phone the missus on the way home and I said, listen, I need my black shirt. So she's come up trumps again. Absolutely. Now, listen, if you're out there watching, get your questions in for everyone. Hashtag RP Live. It's been a long week, but we are fresh and we think we can find you some winners. We have had a race, Bruce. The Silver Wokingham. That's got one minefield out the way for you. You've got the biggie to come.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have enjoyed commentating on that because I, like you, backed Nahar, who led everywhere by the last 75 yards and got picked off. So that was a bit of a blow, but hopefully you were on each way like I was. We had a bit of a shock, didn't we?
Chief of Chiefs won. Charlie Fellows, second winner on the week for him. We've got all the narratives now. Look, let's get to this now. Your members club offer. Let's get the housekeeping out the way. Promo code RACING is back. If you go onto the website, it's very easy to do. If you're not a member and you think a little bit pricey or whatever, listen, we've never done an offer like this. 3 months for £10. You get everything that is there. I can't wait, Bruce, next week to see what our writers are, once the dust is settled, when we forensically go through everything, all the Racing Post ratings, all the quotes and everything. I've not really had a chance to keep on top of absolutely everything. No, so Monday morning, the paper will be great, won't it?
You need a bit of time for the dust to settle. You really do, don't you? Yeah. And it's all there. You get the newspaper every day, 9 o'clock at night, you get the next day's paper. And so for £10 for 3 months, that's 3 copies of the Racing Post. So you've got to take advantage of that. Just clear up the draw, because that's obviously a big thing from the first race, wasn't it? Who was the winner again? Chief of Chiefs. He was drawn 15. Louis De Palma was 4th. He was drawn 12.
Yeah.
The third was Nahar, drawn 21.
Burmese Waltz, was it?
Burmese Waltz was 2nd, and that was drawn 24. So it's basically been the same story as the rest of the week, middle to high.
Yeah, and talking about the ground as well, the rain hasn't really come, as it Gold Cup Day, obviously, and then into the Friday it came, and it's drying out all the time. Paul Keeley this morning was chatting to us and he said, do you remember last year it was Stradivarius was on soft ground, tacky ground. Then on the Saturday, Pinatubo smashed the track record in the Chesham. It looks like we're faster side of good, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, this drains like a sieve. I mean, it's a real fast. It's sort of the greenest all-weather track there is, isn't it, basically? There's a lot of sand there and then there's some lush turf on top. So it dries out really quickly and it's done exactly that. And so I think, if you're wondering about horses that need cut, their chances receded when it looked like they were going to probably boss it today. I think it's just really, really good ground. Not going to be too many excuses. The good horses should be able to absolutely fly on this.
Yeah, good stuff. Get your comments in for the panellists. Let us know what you're thinking of the show so far this week. It's been great to get all the feedback. The numbers have been fantastic. Let's go out on an absolute high. Hashtag RP Live. You can do it on Facebook or YouTube. However you're watching, you're in for a serious ride, I can tell you that much. And they're not too far away from the Queen Mary. That's our first race, 1:15, isn't it? Well, of course, we started earlier. 8 races on the Saturday. A sizzling Saturday it is, and the Queen Mary Stakes it is. And we've got a hot pot. Shall we have a look at the market, chaps, on the screen? What price is more beautiful? Neil Hubbard.
Yeah, she's 2.26, so around the 5 to 4 mark, and all the money has come for her really in the last, 15 minutes or so. So she was as big as 13 to 8, probably around the time of the first race, but the money's come for her. She's into 2.28. Sacred next, Campanella is next in at 6.8, Sacred 7.6. and the market is sort of suggesting it's probably a 3-horse race, but really a 1-horse race at this stage.
Okay, well, before we get Bruce and myself's thoughts on this race and everyone out there with social comments, we put them up on the screen. We give you a shout out. Let us know where you're going in the Queen Mary. Did you perhaps get on Chief for Chiefs? Charlie Fellow double at Royal Ascot. Sensational stuff. I guess, Neil, are you playing this fav? Are you laying this fav?
No, I'm going to play the fav here. More Beautiful, just as the standard sort of £50 back win bet, if that's okay. Bruce, quite happy with that price as it is there. Mate. We know what it's like when these Ballydoyle 2-year-olds get backed. We've seen it in the Chesham before in previous years with the likes of Churchill and stuff. And More Beautiful just looks like a typical sort of 2-year-old. Her dam won the Cheshire in the Moy Glare, and she just looks, based on her win on debut, she looks ready to roll.
And we're done at 2.28. It's possible, I guess, that the money came for her after the first race because what we suspected about the draw bias this week has been confirmed. And if you look at the draw here, More Beautiful's drawn 18, and the 2 Market Rovers are drawn 1 and 5. So that's got to be advantage More Beautiful, hasn't it? And I guess that's just, another reason why she's firmed up. But 11 to 10, I think it's going to be a few gambles today. I mean, Nahar, who we backed in the first, I think you, Strudy's, took 16s last night. Went off at 4s, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, the boys in the gallery were absolutely all over it. I must admit, on the Thursday, I was looking at Aplomb, the other Haggis horse. Like, a lot of tipsters put him up, didn't they? We've been talking about that this week. This is the beauty of this show, real-time analysis, and we can react to all the elements as we're going along. I jumped off this morning. I was going to put him up. I spoke to Keels. I'm not that far away from Ascot, and the sun was beating down. And you looked at Nahar and think, well, one wants soft, one wants fast, and it was very much borne out that way. And you knew that the jockeys were going to come down the rail.
The mad thing was, though, Dave, it wasn't even 4-1 favourite in a 23-run handicap. There was a 7-2 shot as well. So the market is really, really going crazy for these short ones. And obviously that means the long shots are going to get bigger. So don't be afraid to back horses at prices.
Absolutely. And we have seen some late gambles develop in the second half of the week at Ascot. They are out there. Really exciting stuff. Talking about exciting, let's get Paul Keeley's tip.
More Beautiful is a short price favourite for Aidan O'Brien in the Queen Mary Stakes, but this is one of the few top group races in Britain that Aidan O'Brien has never won. She looked good when she won on her debut, but like virtually everything else in her race, she's only run once. We don't really know the level of form, and I'm going to take a chance on a big outsider called Mamba Wamba for Adrian Nichols. Now, Nichols put this filly on the BHA priority list, which means she wouldn't get balloted out early because she needed a run before Royal Ascot. She ran really, really well at Newcastle too. She got bumped coming out of the stall. She was green. She ran one side and then the other. She must have been 3 or 4 lengths behind the all-the-way winner, a furlong and a half out, but she nearly caught her, went down by half a length. She will come on for a ton for that. Now, I don't know what the form is worth, but you can get extra places with bookmakers and at each rate at a massive price. I think she's worth a shout.
Cheers, Keels. All week we've seen some sterling stuff in the Racing Post, haven't we? We're not just saying that because we work for the company. Kevin Morley's had a great week on the trends. Keels,
Siegel, price-wise.
Siegel had a great start to it, didn't he? Mr. Jennings has done well this week, and Keith Melrose has joined the party today. He's done something really special.
Well, this infographic that he's got on page 10 of the Racing Post today is absolutely brilliant, and I don't know how long it took him, but it would have taken a long, long time at the end of a very busy week. What he's basically done is he's analysed the Queen Mary for the last 20 years, and he's split the winners up, and he's actually calculated from their actual foaling day, because every horse's official birthday is January the 1st, but he's looked at the actual day they were born and worked out every single runner's age in days, okay? And he's looked at the winners and whether there's a bias towards horses of a certain age. Because obviously, if you're born on January the 15th, you're probably 10% older than a May foal, aren't you, by the time this race comes around? Of course. So, and sure enough, there is something in it, because basically, if you look at it, I think, looking at it, 13 of the last 20 Queen Mary winners were either 850 days old or older. Okay, so in other words, it does pay to be older. It's like the school when you've got the 5-year-olds and the September kids are much stronger than the August kids. So it's a really interesting angle, okay? Now, Paul Keeley's gone for Mamba Wamba. And that, unfortunately, the bad news there is she's the youngest. And only two winners of this have been born within her kind of age bracket. Equally, More Beautiful is the third youngest here. So
interesting.
Look, I wouldn't not have a bet on it on the strength of that. But it's very interesting. I'll just quickly read out the 4 horses who come into the real hot zone here. The oldest 4 are Wings of a Dove, Sardinia Sunset, Royal Approval, and Star of Emirati. So if you backed any of them, there's an age bias here that will give you encouragement. Okay. It's a brilliant piece of work. It's just a fascinating angle.
And that is typical Keith, isn't it?
Yeah.
I said the word forensic already twice on the show, but that's Mr. Melrose for you. Take a bow, Keith. So look, you're looking for negs now with this Fav, really, aren't you?
Who are you going for?
I've gone for, Keels has gone for Mamba Wamba. I've gone for Dickie Doodah in this. Ridiculous name, isn't it? But she won rather well for Jessie Harrington on the Curragh. And she didn't go for the whip at any point, the jockey on, and I think with Tom Marquand, which it could be, I love these jockey combinations. We've seen him throughout the week, haven't we? Some really unusual associations. Tom Marquand, this is a massive chance for him to impress Jessie Harrington. Look, she's a likely pace angle in stall 9. I think she'll be up there. I just wanted to go away from the Fab. You're laying a couple today as well. We should get to
Not her. I in the Group 1s, there's 3 place lays today. I'm really confident about these. I think if 2 of them don't get placed, I've shown a profit on that particular series of bets. So we'll come to that. In this race, I've gone with More Beautiful. She's shorter than I'd like now. But I've got to say, yesterday I was in the office and Paul Keeley said, come and have a look at this. And he calls me over to his machine and he presses play on a race at Newcastle. First thing, it's a 2-year-old fillies race and this thing gets bumped coming out the start. Automatic, right behind the 8 ball. She's green, she's running all over the place, and then she gets going and absolutely flies at the end. And that is Mamba Wamba, and she was 50s at the time. And I said to Kills, well, that is so eye-catching. You couldn't not have a little each-way bet there on her on the strength of that.
An unfashionable stable, if you like, with Royal Ascot in mind, Ado Nichols. And could this be another Macar? Who doesn't know what I'm on about there? Bruce absolutely went for a filmmaking 2-year-old. I forget what race it was. The Windsor Castle.
It was the Windsor Castle.
And the Queen's horse, a tactician comes and does him on the line, but 100 to 1 it went all the way.
Going well, wasn't it? It ran well, and
extremely well.
I'm not a stable snob. I'm quite. If they've shown form for that yard, they're still in that yard. That's their form. They're not suddenly going to get worse. I mean, I know that when it comes to big races, Stout and Haggis and Gosden and Aiden, they do know how to get them ready. So they've probably got that kind of big race experience that maybe some of the others don't. But I'm never afraid to back one from a smaller yard. You get a bigger price.
And it comes from Newcastle, which is the place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go back to Neil Hubbard then. Neil, any market updates? They're just down at the start now, these 2-year-old fillies.
Yeah, even more cash for More Beautiful into 2.08 now, so around 11 to 10. Everything else pretty weak. Mamba Wamba is 36s, and your shout, Dave, Dickie Doodah, is 26. But yeah, the story of the race is pretty much More Beautiful, who's really, really strong at the top of the market.
Okay, all right. So, Bruce, what price did you expect it to be?
Well, I mean, she was kind of 6 to 4 this morning, I think, and I thought, well, that's fair enough. But I mean, you're getting into the realms now. Probably on the show, she's pretty much 11 to 10, isn't she now? I mean.
She won well at Nace, didn't she? Nace has been well advertised. Battleground, Lipizana, and she had the rail that day.
She's evens. She's evens. I mean, look, I don't know. I think if you back her and she evens and she loses, you don't feel great about yourself because you think, well, hang on a sec, there were 20 or 19 runners and we hardly know anything about the form. That wasn't very clever. But at the same time, when they do come for one like that, then you know that it's being backed with extraordinarily shrewd money, and sometimes people feel a lot of comfort from following in on those gambles.
She's got a proper 2-year-old pedigree as well, you know what I mean? Her dam won the Chesham and the Moyglare, so it's not like she's necessarily a horse that we're going to see her to best effect, when as a 3- and 4-year-old. She has got it in her locker in the family line that she is a 2-year-old here.
Dave Jennings was all over Happy Romance. I spoke to him this morning for Team Hannon. That was well behind Sacred of William Haggis's, who has held a position quite well in the market, I think, for Cheveley Park. Drawn in 5. I guess with Wes Ward's Campanelle. Wes Ward finally warmed up on the week, didn't he, in the latter stages? He had a couple of close shaves, certainly yesterday in the Norfolk Stakes when Golden Power was just taken off. But Kamari went well as well. You're hoping that Campanelle is the hare. I'm assuming when you're calling this, you're going to look for the yellow colours of Frankie Dettori.
I certainly am. I should be looking at the yellow with the red chevrons, and I should be looking at the all dark blue of More Beautiful. And I should be keeping an eye for the Cheveley Park red
He's
with
got
the
another
white.
one in here as well, hasn't he, though, Wesley?
Yes,
as
he
well.
does.
Royal approval.
Yes, absolutely. With Sylvester de Souza on in 10. So from a pace angle, who was, of course, behind the stablemate last time. So look, it's the first race live here on RP Live, the final day of Royal Ascot. Do not despair, though. The action is still ahead of us. 3 Group 1s in the middle of the card, and we've got a real hot pot to sign us off as well. We'll get there at a later stage. Let us know what you're doing out there. Last couple going in for the Queen Mary. Good luck wherever you're playing. Hashtag RP Live. You can get in touch with us. We will give you shout outs, if they're clean, of course. It's been a long, long week for myself and Bruce, and Neil coming back into the studio. Just referencing Neil quickly, you had a really good day, Neil, on Thursday. You were taking on a couple of the hot pots, which you got right, but you got stuck into Stradivarius as well, didn't you? So this could be another one for you.
Yeah, Stradivarius worked out nicely, and we managed to get the winner of the Britannia as well, which was really nice as well. So,
my
we had
goodness.
1-2 in the Britannia, actually, didn't we?
Yeah, that thing was astonishing, wasn't it? I still can't get over how turbocharged that was. I mean, my goodness.
Group horse in a handicap. They're nearly in then, Bruce. All in now.
Right then, 5 furlongs there, not going to hang around. It's the 1:15, it's the Queen Mary, and away well down the near side is More Beautiful. I'm looking for the American horse on the far side, Campanelli, because I was expecting her to inject some pace, but she hasn't. And down the near side in the dark green, it's Caroline Dale for David Lucknane. On the far side, we've got Sardinia Sunset going well for Rog. More Beautiful is tucked in nicely, that's handy. Pelikai is handy on the far side in yellow. Campanelli's really got to do some work. It's getting there now, but it's still just about shading it. It's Sardinia Sunset being pressed on his right by Pelikai. The GV Park colours are Sacred moving through well. The favourite's not going well at all. The favourite is chinned. I'm saying the favourite's officially chinned.
Agreed.
And Sacred looks the likeliest winner from here. Sacred's going well. Having said that, Campanelli's absolutely making up ground hand over fist.
More
and coming down the
coming
near
back.
side, who's this? It's
Sacred.
Gramata. But it's now Campanelle and Sacred.
far
Campanelle
side.
wins it. Frankie wins it from stall 1. And this rips up every trend in the world, because normally these Wesley Ward horses need to jump out and make all. But that one didn't. It's actually tracked them and picked them up. Astonishing.
That was unbelievable. When you said she's got it to do, I was like, are you sure I couldn't pick her out? Now, that's in the colours of Lady Aurelia, of course, won the Queen Mary, was his last winner. And I'll tell you what, in completely different style. That's amazing, isn't it? Frankie Dettori, do you think he'd actually, because this is very unlike Wes to say, just take your time, just take your time.
I suppose, though, not every single one of his horses is always going to need an identical ride, is it? So perhaps they just said, look, that's how we're going to do it this time, and it's worked for them.
And the first thing to say about this, Bruce, these jockeys, right down the middle they are. That's blown the silver Wokingham out of the water when Nahar came all the way over to the stand side, and he thought, right, there's going to be a big bias to high numbers. Do not despair, basically, if you want anything drawn low. Stall 1, that's the 3rd time this week that the 1 poke has gone in on the straight track. I'll tell you what, Sacred was absolutely cruising at this point. Neil Hubbard, story of the race on the exchange.
Yeah, so More Beautiful there. As soon as the stalls opened and she got a nice position, she went odds on immediately and traded at a low of 1.8. But strangely enough, you would think she was in the right position on the near side. But when she just started to look like she was struggling is when Sacred and Campanella really kicked into gear. Sacred hit a low of 1.14. Campanella hit a high of 32. And just to shout out to the 3rd horse there, which I think was Caroline Dale.
It was,
which was a Betfair SP of 206. And actually traded at a low of 22 in running. But shout out for that, 206 finishing 3rd.
It's owned by and bred by the Lowe family. Catchy, of course, you remember, sadly no longer with us, of course. And I saw Dave sent out a message last night, Dave Lowe, a real huge enthusiast of the all-weather, but he loves these big meetings as well. He said, once again, we've been unconsidered in the market. Can we pull it off? Huge run for them. They've got another smart filly.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But it's a disappointing run by the Fav, wasn't it? Really was. And again, that's given punters loads and loads of food for thought. To be fair, you know, the winner has ended up bang down the middle. So Frankie knows that the ground on that far side's no good. But if we look at it, we're looking at the reverse angle now. He's really patient. I mean, he's probably in the back. He's only got 3 behind him. Barely that with 2 furlongs to go. I mean, that is just not a Wesley Ward trademark performance, is it? It really isn't.
So many questions. You're absolutely right. No, it's not. I tell you who caught the eye there, staying on. I think it was Mamba Wamba, you know.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She did. You can see on the far side she's got a noseband, and she probably only got 8th in the end. But I think she's one that up in trip actually will be really, really interesting. So if you've got your Racing Post tracker, I would stick Mamba Wamba in. But I think if you back Sacred, you'd probably be pretty sick, wouldn't you? That a Wesley Ward horse has come from behind to snare you in the final furlong.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess that we might have seen, let's talk about the merit of the form, probably the way they travelled through that, two pretty decent horses. If you remember with Lady Aurelia, she stuck around for the Nunthorpe, didn't she? And Wesley's got Golden Pal, we were talking about yesterday's second Speedball, complete contrast in the Norfolk. Will they be sticking around? There's a result then on the screen. Campanelle, Wes Ward, he never goes a meeting without a winner, does he? Beats Sacred for William Haggis. William so close to that first winner in both our first races. And Carolina Dale, massive run. Don't be afraid of a price at 100 to 1.
I tell you what, if there's any yard that is knocking on the door and not quite getting let in, it's Haggis, isn't it?
William.
So many placed horses. I think that's 5 seconds this week.
Let me try and have a quick look, Bruce.
That's incredible.
What we've
I
got
mean, that
coming
really
up
must be
William's
painful
yard.
for him, because you know what it's like when all these big trainers, when you say who's your best chance this week or what's your main hope, and all they say is I just want one winner. They just want one winner. 5 seconds equal. You'd rather have no seconds than one winner.
One more runner on the day, one master in the Diamond Jubilee, the last of our grade ones. That was that 4:10, I think, isn't it? So a sensational card. How did you get on out there? Let's have your social media comments coming in. Frankie Dettori punches the air. Is that 4 for Frankie now on the week? The guys, I think we'll get the gallery guys. It's so hard to remember, isn't it? I think it is. I think it's 4 winners on the week for Frankie.
So he's putting a bit of pressure on Crowley, isn't he, for top jock now?
Yes.
Still got a couple to go.
Yeah, of course, we'll get the leading trainers and the leading jockeys along the line as well.
Let's look back, Dave, on Keith Melrose's age form. Campanelle was the 4th youngest. So that, and Sacred was about the 7th youngest. And who was the thing that was 3rd at a massive price?
Carolina Dale.
Carolina, that was sort of midfield. So great work, Keith. Took you ages, fantastic, but didn't actually bear any fruit this time. But
Frankie
it was still very, very interesting piece of
Frankie
work.
is on the Magic 4. Could he do it? Could he do it? Absolutely unbelievable. Just seeing what he's got in the next race. He's interesting also in the next race. The Coventry Stakes comes up next at 1:50 here for us. We've got a good half an hour to look, plenty of time to go through everything. Of course, we're looking at eye catchers. We know that so many of you like to just see the informal debates and the chats that we're having in here. We're going to ramp up, don't you worry about that. The beauty of this show, Bruce, isn't it? We have no idea. It's totally unscripted, like a lot of the shows that we do, but this one in particular, I think, isn't it? We've got no idea what's going to happen.
No, absolutely none.
Just guided by the narrative.
He says, staring at you, hopefully, so that you know what's going to happen in the next 10 seconds.
How did you find the commentary? That's what
that was all right. That was all right. I mean, it was unusual because I kind of expected to dismiss the winner because she wasn't up there early, but instead she's come back. It was okay. It wasn't too bad in the end, and I managed to get a breath in as well at this point, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, fair play. It shows you can do anything, basically.
I'll tell you what, though, Dave, there's loads of aerial shots that we're seeing here of Ascot, and of all the days at Ascot now, Saturday is the most vibrant, happiest, wildest, most fun now. Because if you remember, when the Saturday used to be Royal Ascot was Tuesday to Friday, and on the Saturday they had what they called the Heath meeting. So it wasn't a royal meeting. You'd get about 25,000. It was much less formal, but it was still a nice day. Pardon?
Yeah, it was for the locals originally.
Exactly, locals and families. And then they said, look, we might as well just make it a 5th day. And since then, it's probably got the biggest crowds. It's got all the people who can't afford to take time off work during the week, so they're all up for it. And I love the atmosphere on Saturday, and just seeing those empty, verdant spaces between the stands and the track is quite sad. I mean, I must say, I cannot wait till that place is a vibrant kind of hotbed of human excitement and fun again, because the racing's been great this week, but I think everyone who goes to Royal Ascot is missing it like crazy.
Let's concentrate on that for a sec. I was asking the guys that I was with this morning, Keely, Jennings, and a couple of others, when can you? It's very hard to guesstimate at the moment, isn't it? But we kind of hope for the Ebor meeting at York. We might see a trickle of crowds coming in. What's your particular?
Well, there's various factors. If we bet on the basis that the numbers are going to kind of keep going down, albeit very slowly, that at some point they'll reach a stage maybe where daily deaths have gone into double figures from 3, that people will feel it's safe to start slowly reintroducing crowds, and they'll probably start with the owners and maybe the annual members, and they'll do everything slowly and gradually. One slight worry, my son lives in Melbourne, and he said to me today, he said, all these restrictions, the latest batch of restrictions that have been loosened. So it was only 20 people in a pub, and then last week they said you can go up to 50. You can meet in greater numbers than 5. They've rode all of those back because in the last couple of days they've had a load of new infections. So you're going to have to. I don't want to turn this into you've turned on here to escape COVID, but it is relevant to the issue of whether you get crowds. So you've just got to hope that the recent kind of loosening doesn't make things tick up and we don't get jittery, because we do want to get crowds back. I spoke to the senior figure at one of the big jumps meetings, and I said, how are you actually going to get crowds back? He said, I think by September, October, we'll be able to have crowds. It won't be the normal size, but they will get there.
It's a safe bet, and it is very relevant because there will be people out there watching who want to hear from the likes of yourself exactly when you think that might be. Give them a bit of hope, or maybe just keep a lid on it a little bit. So, Neil Hubbard, what's your thoughts on everything out there? I mean, Bruce came into London today a little bit busier. I came in this morning as well. Ebor meeting, would you like to attend that?
I would do, yeah. I live in the north, up in Lincolnshire, so York would be quite a nice trip for me. But yeah, I think one of the things in racing's favour is, of course, you can watch racing. It's an outdoor sport, and so if there's owners there or a smaller crowd there, I know a lot of people like to stand near the winning post or whatever to watch the action, but you've got plenty of room at lots of these racecourses where they can probably still adhere to social distancing and still get a small crowd in there. I mean, when it comes to stuff like concession sales and all of that sort of stuff, that's perhaps a different issue. But certainly in terms of the spectator angle, there should be enough room at lots of these tracks to at least accommodate a small crowd in the short term.
No, I agree with Bruce, actually. It's absolutely imperative that we get the owners back, isn't it? Just a last word on this from me. I was talking to Ross Briley on Thursday, and Neil as well. I said, that they've kept, racing, in the industry, they've kept the jobs alive, haven't they, by turning it over, keeping their money going. They have to go first, don't they?
Completely. I mean, I've always said that the two groups of people who keep the show on the road are owners and punters. And they're the people that everyone else in the sport should be doing their utmost to keep happy. And it's incredible. I know that racehorse owners, by their very nature, tend to be the more wealthy people, so the more COVID-proof, if you like. But there's plenty of owners there who would have felt, the pinch every time they wrote their monthly training fee checkout. But they've almost all kept their horses in full training on full fees. That's enabled the trainers to prevent them from furloughing as many staff as possible, and that has really played a huge part in racing being ready to come back and to come back so efficiently and spectacularly. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We've got to do everything we can for the owners, and we should never, ever, ever forget what they do. Like in the same way, we should never forget punters. If punters stop being interested in racing and start betting on football and other things, the game's done for anyway. But, I think if you look at how racing's been since we came back, I wrote about it in my column on Thursday, it's been brilliant. I think, what we had now, this is just 2 days short of 3 weeks. It's been absolutely superb, hasn't it? Not just this week, but there's been loads of great action. And it doesn't really feel like we've missed out massively on a flat season, does it?
No, very much not. And I was just trying to, in my head then, to work out exactly how long we have been back. June the 1st, of course. Let's hope that when, it comes to July, let's hope that maybe we've shown that we can do it. We've adhered to these strict social guidelines. There's not been many complaints so far that I've heard, that's for sure. There's not really been in print either. Maybe, just maybe back in July. Owners, let's hope you can get back. I know that a few of you are out there listening today. This is Racing Post Live then. Myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington, you just heard from there articulately, and Neil Hubbard from Betfair as well. Now, the studio guys have just put through something to me, which I'm looking for. The My Racing treble. The boys at My Racing have been having a really good week. MyRacing.com. Check out their website, expert analysis and tips. And I think it kicks off in the next. It's probably going to be Admiral Nelson, isn't it? I think is their selection. Now, Alpine Star is the nap as well. There's one more for the treble, which I'll get up in just a sec. Wichita, I'm being told. Thank you, Rob Lee, in the studio. So, okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Is that Ballydoyle? No, it's an Irish treble, isn't it, for the guys? They've had a good week. They napped Golden Horse yesterday, which was...
Good sus there. They've napped Wichita?
No, they've napped Wichita, I think, in the St James's Palace.
Alpine Star, yeah, but they've put up Wichita.
Yeah, they have. You're not sure about that?
No, might win. I think the market in that race is peculiar. We'll come to it, but I can't have the front two in that market.
Just while we're looking forward, we've got 20 minutes until the Coventry Stakes. It's an absolute sizzler. Neil, I just want to let punters and alert them to anything that you're really looking forward to taking on later on the card. Have you got any juicy lays?
It's probably along what Bruce was sort of getting at there in terms of the St James's Palace, and probably be looking to take on Pinatubo. It's not that I necessarily have anything against him. I think he ran perfectly fine in the Guineas, but around his current price, which is 2.54, which is 6-4. Against some interesting ones. Obviously, Wichita actually beat him last time for a start. Then you've got the Palace Pier, who's completely unknown. Threat was a really good juvenile as well. I'd probably just look to take on Pinatubo for all that, we all know how brilliant he was last year. But he's probably one that I'd look to be against a bit later on this afternoon.
An early steer from Neil Hubbard then. He's been on target on Thursday and he's not quite the same with More Beautiful, but let me tell you, Neil will warm up. Here we go then. Dan the Man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've been hearing from you, Dan. Good to have you back. Personally, Alpine Star is a place late. It's one of those races, the Coronation Stakes, isn't it, I think? I put up a quadrilateral earlier. Paul Keeley absolutely jumped on me and Dave Jennings did as well.
Rightly so.
I thought there'd have been loads more love for that.
Why?
Well, she was just really keen, wasn't she? Tongue tie off. I think she settles on the way down to post. That's something that I think the market will really react to. I can see her going off hard ball. It's Charlton first time out in the Guineas. Thought she ran a really big race.
Yeah, but it's not first time out in the Nell Gwyn. It's the Guineas.
I thought
she's got to be fully wound up, hasn't she?
She was third to love. I think that's the hot form on offer. I'm amazed that there's not more love.
Well beat. Got really well beat. No, I'm not. I can't have quad.
Alpine Star.
Possibly, a bit of an unknown. I mean, possibly, but then. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you deal with trainers and say, well, she had that thing in the 1,000 Guineas that bombed out and Millar's bombed out, it doesn't mean this one's going to bomb out. It's like everyone's been saying this week, Wesley Ward's horses aren't any good, forget all them. And then he goes and wins. But I just think with Alpine Star, I don't know enough about her. A 2-year-old form's okay, but I've got to take 8-month-old form on trust there. So I'm not sure I'm mad on that idea.
The time of the Queen Mary, by the way, was slow by 1.18. So it is getting a little bit quicker, as expected. The sun baking down on Royal Ascot today on the straight track. Shall we move on to the Coventry Stakes? It's the 2-year-old colts. Their time for a burn up over 6 furlongs. And I'll tell you what, we're looking at this race earlier on and listening to some of the guys, some colleagues that we were chatting to, and hearing some feedback from you out there, this really does look potentially on paper like a very special Coventry Stakes. Let's get to it then and have a market update. Neil Hubbard.
Yeah, we're getting to the point of having joint favourites here. We have got joint favourites now. Or Kader has just gone favourite, so plenty of support for the Mark Johnson runner here. Admiral Nelson, he's not massively weak as such. It's just against the money coming for the second favourite here. So the market is definitely suggesting it's a 2-horse race, though, between these two, and it's the Johnson horse who's nosing ahead in the market, at least.
Where are you playing, Neil? Let's get that out of the way then and do some trading.
Yeah, so I did think the top of the market, the top 4 or 5 in the market looked the ones to concentrate on. But I'm gonna get with Dark Lion, but I think I'm going to play him in the place market just because of how competitive or how potential those top of the market hold. So I'm going to have a look at Dark Lion in the probably 4 to be placed market, Bruce, if that's okay. And
2.3.
We'll have 50.
Now, it's 2.3 or 2.48 to back. So to lay. So should we maybe try and fill that gap in the middle and see if we get done? We've got plenty of time, haven't we?
Yes,
yeah, we can go for 2.4, something like that.
Okay.
How
much
we'll have
would you like?
£50 place on him, please. Thought he ran really well at Newmarket on his debut behind Creative Force. If you remember back at Newmarket that day, everything that was on the pace were the ones who really benefited, and he was sort of midfield and ran on under hands and heels. So he just looks like this type of horse who's really going to progress. And I'm not saying he's going to win because the money's suggesting this Johnson horse is pretty special, but I can see him hitting the frame at least.
He caught a lot of eyes that day, didn't he? I know a few good judges have put Dark Lion up here. It's one of those ones, isn't it, where you kind of hope you're the only one who spotted it, and then come the day of the race, everyone's all over it. I mean, it was one of those ones where looked like it didn't. People think Newmarket is just this vast, flat, verdant plain that horses just glide over. It's so not. And Richard Hughes was probably the first to expose this in his column. When he was a jockey, when he was a jockey and a trainer, his column was good. But when he was a jockey, it was absolutely world class. And he used to talk about the ridges at Newmarket and just how hard it is. It really kind of little almost not moguls, but just
Okay.
you know, you can put your foot down and you can be on a downslope or you can be an upslope. They're very subtle, but they're there, and they unbalance horses. And I thought Dark Lion looked like a horse who'd kind of got done by the ridges. It was a good run.
Yeah.
Against that, Creative Force, who I think you like,
I do.
beat him. And I don't know, I've looked at this and I've looked at the first race. I think these front two are too short, you know.
Admiral Nelson, I went against him on the fact that I thought he would probably be a 6-4 in a race where there's loads of opposition against him, which we'll get to. Just to concentrate on Creative Force, who beat Dark Lion. Imperial Force, the second that day, who was up there a lot of the way, finished third yesterday in the Norfolk Stakes. So the form that's strong, the time was good. What I liked about Creative Force, he had the rail, and I watched that video thinking, yeah, this Dark Lion can do it. He never really went for him. And I like the fact that Imperial Force tried to soften him up. Godolphin in the Coventry, they got a pretty rotten record, you know. I went through it earlier. It's hard to remember a winner of the Coventry Stakes for Godolphin. Certainly not in the last 10 years. They haven't had one. They had Thunder Snow beaten in it. You know, Dubai World Cup, you know, that calibre of horse. However, Charlie Appleby, he could do with a bit of a fillip, couldn't he, before Pinatubo, let's face it. I think the lowest SP he's had in this race has been something like 14-1. This is the most fancied horse they would have had in quite some time.
And I think that stable form for particular races is interesting, because if we go back to the last race, am I right in thinking that the Queen Mary is one of only 3 Group 1s that Aidan's never won?
Yeah, he was 0 from 6 in the last decade.
I don't think he's ever won it, has
Yeah.
he? So there's only... How mad is that? There's
never
only 3 Group 1s in the whole of Britain and Ireland that Aidan O'Brien's never won. That's one of them. And Peter and what was she called? More Beautiful, short price favourite, bombs out in it. So maybe it's just a race that it doesn't suit him. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't suit his prep. He's not normally got his fillies that forward, has he? I don't know.
And the fillies, there tend to be ones that are going over a bit more ground, I think, probably as well. Certainly if you think some of his top notchers as well. OK, listen, you've heard from us here in the studio. Paul Keeley, he's really keen on one here.
The Coventry Stakes is the 1-2-year-old race where we always expect to see a really, really top-class horse, and it seems to have confidence from both sides of the Irish Sea. Aidan O'Brien's Admiral Nelson missed the break on his debut, came through and won really, really well, and he does seem to be extremely well regarded, perhaps even more highly regarded than Battleground, who won the Chesham Stakes. However, Mark Johnson's Carder made just as much of an impression when winning at Newbury on his start. He really quickened up in the style of a professional horse. He's bred to improve as he goes on as well. He won't just be a 2-year-old. At the prices, I'd just about give him the edge.
Yeah, Carder did look like a bit of a monster, didn't he, at Newbury?
He did. And you know, if you're just watching probably all the 2-year-old races that form the body of form we've got to go with here, you'd have to say Admiral Nelson and Carder are probably the most eye-catching. And they're both, you know, there seems to be a hallmark of quality about the lineups, but they're not that far clear on RPRs. They're not miles clear. Of the front 2, I think I'm with Carder.
Okay.
Just about, because I think that it looked more of a kind of street fighter to me.
He doesn't look a 2-year-old necessarily,
No,
does he?
he
Maybe
doesn't.
a bit more battlegroundy.
He doesn't, but
He's got a 3-year-old career ahead of him, I think.
I don't know. I find this a difficult race. I put up Carder, but I've just suddenly gone a little cold on the front 2, and I'm not sure I want to place lay them necessarily. I think my tactic is I'm going to change my strategy a bit. I did back Carder, but I'm going to mess around with a couple of small bets on horses at longer prices. And
He's at it again.
They're not huge prices, having said that. They're the kind of next wave in the market, and they're Talbot for Brian Meehan, who I thought that debut run was really, really good.
I watched it back this morning.
What do you think?
Well, the second of Archie Watson's, I forget the name. Let me just remind myself, get it up on the screen.
He's come out and won, hasn't he? The runner-up.
He has come out and won, Jojo Rabbit, but he got turned over yesterday, I think, in the Norfolk Stakes. However, Talbot did so much wrong in that race, and you can't do that in Lingfield, and he was right on top of the line. And what I really like about this, I remember Barry Ells once saying this when I was getting into punting seriously. He said, look at the pull-up of horses. You can spot so many winners after the line. This in particular, they couldn't pull him back. So, yeah, he could be a runner. Brian Meehan always used to, back in the day, didn't he, Bruce? You'll remember.
Oof.
He used to have some really top 2-year-olds.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. And the other one I like is Lauded, and the market seems to like Lauded. They've come for that one now. Now, that's a Tom Dascombe horse who was impressive enough on debut that Al Shikab have come in and bought into the horse. I like him. I think 16 is still a decent draw, even though the last 2-year-old race was one low.
Couldn't worry about
and
that.
I'll tell you one thing as well I will say is that Richard Kingscote to me is still the underrated jockey out there. I just think he's brilliant. I'd love him to have a winner this week.
You think still?
Yeah, I do. Well, he's getting the adulation. He's getting more adulation now, but I still think that, you know, if you're looking at when the top races come around, you don't see Richard Kingscote on the card as much as his talent deserves. That's my opinion.
He's brilliant on the all-weather. He's an absolute Mr. Haydock, isn't he? Because of his running style. He tends to keep it simple, a little bit like Jim Crowley.
He's great off the front. He's brilliant at getting horses to settle. I mean, they say he's got notoriously soft hands, apparently, and I just think he's a class act in the saddle. And I think that, you know, I think this horse is a little speedball, and you know, I think that this will go as a decent RPR. So I think if you wanted to look away from the front two, you could probably Dutch, Lauded and Talbot. If you're backing with firms that are offering extra places, you could back them both each way. And, you know, if one of them cops a front four place, you're in. So I don't know. This is a difficult race. This is not a race that I came into it thinking, I've got this sussed. How can you?
Can I put one up
Yeah.
at a monstrous price for a firm that are having just an absolutely fantastic time? And the top three from the race he ran in all reoppose here. Painless Potter for Alan King, who's had 1-2-1, hasn't he, so far, I think, at the meeting, and has got the hot pot of the day. Who dares wins in the last race at Queen Alexandra over 2 miles 6. He's drawn in 2, which isn't great. Martin Harley, it's interesting to see Martin Harley back. He's had a spell, hasn't he, in Hong Kong, and he did quite well in Australia as well. Not quite Tom Marquand-like, but they liked him down there. He won a couple of big races. Martin Harley's a very quiet jockey. This will be flying late, I think. It's interesting that he's ahead of Army of India. Mark Johnson's in the market. Now, James Doyle sits on Army of India. Science was second that day, I should say, for Archie Watson as well. They're kind of all priced around about the same price. If you took one horse from that race, it was Painless Potter. He did everything wrong. It's around Kempton. You know, 2-year-old race at Kempton when they're just out with the washing, aren't they? And then you see something coming late. He flew, and I said, wherever he runs next, he'll be worth a little investment. I wasn't expecting to be the Coventry Stakes, but this is the year we're in. Stall 2. So, listen, we've seen Stall 1 do it. Campanelle did it in the last. I'm not too worried about it. So he's basically drawn very close to Carter. If he can tag on to him, honestly, this horse will be flying. So let's go to Neil Hubbard then and have a little look at the market, Neil. We can get that up on screen, guys, and see if there has been any love for anything away from the market leaders.
Yeah, so Dark Lion has been back. So he was around 11.5 first thing this morning, but he's into 8.6 now. And one Bruce mentioned, Lauder, who was around 11.5, and he's into 9.8 as well. Painless Potter, Dave, that you mentioned, is 65s in the win market.
That could be bigger, couldn't it? That definitely could be bigger.
Yeah, 5 places, he's 5, so that's 4-1. But yeah, you're right. He really caught the eye at Kempton last time, and he's a horse that I made a little note about in my tracker as well. But like you, I wasn't necessarily expecting him to turn up in the Coventry. I was hoping he'd go to a little novice event at Ripon somewhere. But,
well, quite. But there's also another interesting horse in here, Neil and Bruce, Existent. Paul Keeley was talking to me about this morning. He goes, why are they running this here, he said, which is John Gosden. Frankie Dettori is on. Frankie going for a quick double, the 5th winner of the meeting. A son of Kingman out of Shamadal Mare. Very, very green on debuts. He's related to Integral. Do you remember that absolute top-notcher?
Is he running? Are the 2 horses that beat him running here? Is he behind horses that ran here?
That is a great question.
I can't remember the run.
Let me remember the debut.
Bright Devil was one that, I think. And he was then purchased, wasn't he? Did he run on?
He ran a stinker in the Norfolk Stakes, didn't he? I think it was the Norfolk Stakes. Yeah, he ran an absolute stinker in that. Magical Land was second, but he did everything wrong on that Newmarket card where you had to be on the rail, you had to be up there, and it's just interesting that John Gosden's only had 4 runners in the last decade in the Coventry. A couple of them haven't placed, but one of them was Calix.
He ran in the Chesham, didn't he, Bright Devil? But
yes, Chesham, sorry.
Was
yes, it was the Chesham, where Offsheen Murphy and the Team Valor colours. You're right. Thank you, Neil.
That meeting you referred to at Newmarket's been quite relevant all week, hasn't it? And what were was it a tailwind that was causing those front runners to be so suited?
It was, which is what slightly puts the market off about Creative Force, I think, and what puts them more on Dark Line here. There was a tailwind, a fast ground on the rail. Every year, I look forward to the first meeting on the Rolling Mile because you've just had the jump season, everyone's in a bit rusty, woolly, flat mode, and everyone forgets you've got to have a high draw, sometimes the jockeys as well, and you can get some big prize winners coming up there. You've got to be on that rail. Existing wasn't either. So let's see what the social comments are. Let's start ramping it up a little bit. Loving having you out there. Darren Hughes, welcome along, my old son. Carter wins it. Absolutely love it. And Louis Hector, lauded straight win, rowing in with you on both of those, Bruce.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I wish I shared the confidence there, because I mean, I can't look at this race and say Carter wins it, but I mean, sometimes when you're a punter, you know, I wouldn't deny anyone the right to look at that race at Newbury and say, well, I'm just backing that for the Coventry because it was so impressive. It was a really, really good run. But again, you know, you are dealing with 16 horses, all of whom have had exactly one race. They're going to come on in varying degrees from those runs. I don't know. The 2-year-olds have been difficult this week for me. I mean, I had a bit of a joy yesterday with the Michael Bell horse, the Learjet.
The Learjet.
And I almost chopped it right off on the Windsor Castle with that Mooker. But I don't know, it's just...
The boys in the gallery said to me that they were trying to get that on the highlights reel, the Learjet, and apparently we nearly broke the mics.
Did we?
So I was like, aye, absolutely. So
I'm more worried about breaking blood vessels, honestly.
as long as we get a tremendous late rattle in, everyone.
No, I'm not sure about that. I've decided I'm not going to do Desi Scahill today. I'm going to do Graham Good. So I'm going to roll back the years. Yeah, is Graham Good before your time, Neil?
No, I remember Graham.
Okay,
from
fine.
the morning line and stuff like that.
I'm going to try and do a Graham Good.
Rodrigo Di Triano, that's who I always remember with Graham Good, of course, absolutely. You know, if you go up, 40 plus or whatever, you definitely remember Graham. Oh, okay, fair enough.
We'll see. I can't go there again with Des Scahill.
I'm gonna come for you a little bit here. I spoke to Keely about this Scahill impression. He goes, he loves doing that. He said. He goes, he loves doing it. He said he set you up for that, Dave.
I've worked with Keels for 20 years and we watch racing all the time, okay? And every race is on. And you'll always hear one. And there's 3 things Scale does. He does the tremendous late bid. He also, for some reason, I don't know why he does it, but he says, racing across from the stands. Okay. And when they're going down the back street, racing across from the stands.
Yeah, at Leopardstown. Always at Leopardstown.
Yeah, and then the other one, he's got this obsession with 150 yards. No, 150 yards isn't a landmark. Right. It's not a milestone, but he's always racing into the last 150 yards now. Like, what's the 150 yards got to do with it?
We've got in an early Scahill comment, but Keels, he absolutely said to me, he goes, he loves that. And I thought, you know what, Bruce has probably come in here today, in this week and gone, I've got it coming. I had a little nod to Simon Holt, of course, who actually said a little piece in the paper, which I thought was really nice. 3 gold cups, at Stradivarius. I was able to do the 2 gold cups with album photo as well. So it's been great, isn't it? Horses coming back this year and defending their crown. So important for racing. OK, let's concentrate back on the Coventry Stakes then. And the market, Neil, interesting. Carder now looks certain to go off second favourite. They are giving Ballydoyle one more chance with their 2-year-olds. The Admiral Nelson has come back in.
Yeah, clear favourite now at the top of the market, 3.7, 3.75. He's been sort of like solid and really well backed. As I say, he briefly touched favouritism and now he's drifted back out, but he's still been pretty well supported. Of the rest, Creative Force, who beat Dark Line, as we said, he's sort of been nibbled a little bit at the same time. Dark Line just drifting ever so slightly, so they're getting a little bit closer in the market than what they were. The late money is pretty much all coming for Admiral Nelson.
I'm really excited about this because you can see a future star in this, can't you?
You can indeed.
Arizona won it last year, didn't quite go on because of Pinatubo. I mean, take Pinatubo out, Arizona would have been one of the pin-up boys. Calix, absolutely. It's just such a shame we didn't get to see more of Calix as well. Should we go down the winners, actually? Just have a little look at the SPs.
This is actually like the 2-year-old race of the meeting that I always think is the race that, well, like when I think of juvenile races at Royal Ascot, you've got the Albany and stuff like that, but it's normally the Coventry is the race that normally announces like say the 2,000 Guineas favourite for next year really comes from this.
Although I've got to say this right about the Ascot 2-year-old races. Really, if you look back through the last 10 years of all of them, however many there are, 6, there's not that many champions in there. And I think, you know what, the trend towards starting horses in, I'm not just talking about back-end small races, but I'm actually talking about winter races now. You know, you're likely to get your Oaks winners cropping up in some little race at Wolverhampton in December now,
do you think that's just down to different training methods these days?
I don't know whether people think that you can leave a lot of horse behind with a big 3-year-old campaign,
like
and obviously,
Pinatubo,
I was going to say that if Pinatubo doesn't win today, there's going to be people saying, well, he's he's not trained on. You know,
Yeah.
that's the old phrase, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
reference Kevin Morley, for example, who's again, Kev, look at the trends section in the paper. He's had a sterling week. I remember that Guineas meet. The trends boys were all against Pinatubo because he'd started off so early and had so many runs, and the others just catch up, I guess, is the way.
I think the only thing with Pinatubo is the only reason he started so early is not that he was massively precocious. It was just that he was actually not very good at home. He didn't show them anything. So they were like, well, we'll stick him in. You know, they started him off, Wolverhampton in May, wasn't it?
Wasn't even favourite.
Then he ran in the Woodcote, which, I mean,
Yeah.
the Woodcote, there was probably a time when the Woodcote was a relevant 2-year-old race, but I mean, it hasn't been for a long, long time. And then
There's
he just...
probably a train of thought around his 2000 Guineas run as well. Like, if you talk about his... Well, not prep, but the way he started his career, they didn't really know what they had, and it probably took a while for him to maybe warm up. I don't know if you look at his 2000 Guineas run this year in sort of the same way, in that he may have needed it more than they thought, and he might get better as they go on. I mean, like, I'm trying to think of reasons why you might want to forgive that run and get with him, because ultimately he didn't run that bad to be third in a Guineas, did he?
Yeah,
but
but
just in relation to his 2-year-old form.
That's the key, Neil, isn't it? You know, his 2-year-old form was so much better than that, and I suspect he's just regressed. I mean, I've got no interest in him today except for laying.
Apart from Stradivarius, it's not Stradivarius. Apart from Stradivarius, he's probably the big talking horse of the week. I mean, the guys in the gallery. I mean, we've been in all morning. I've never seen them analysing past performances on your race replays like the guys in the gallery have, and they reckon they've sussed it. 3:35. Perhaps the race of the day, Pinatubo taking on Wichita and the Great White Hope, Palace Pier. Last few going in then for the Coventry Stakes here on Race Big Post Live. Absolutely fantastic with the Betfair Exchange. We're learning about the exchange. If you're a novice, a beginner, or even a seasoned pro, you're going to learn plenty with Neil Hubbard. But right now, it's over to Bruce Millington. I think one more to go in, Bruce.
Yes, indeed. There's 6:15 go to post in the Cov of 2020. Let's see where the pace comes from. Obviously, Admiral Nelson favourite is drawn 10. Carder, the second favourite, is drawn 4. And they're often running on the horse on the far side. Thunder of Niagara. Mark Johnson is the first to show. Down the near side, the grey horse is Army of India, going very well. The Godolphin colours of Creative Force are right up there. The red and green of Nando Parado going well.
Centre
and
again.
we've also got Science going well. They're all coming down the middle. Lauded is up there on the near side. Let's see where Carder is. Carder's mid-division.
Cruising.
Admiral Nelson out the back, actually. I mean, that's what happened last time as well. And Admiral Nelson, the market's not mad on there, Dave.
Dark Lion's going really, really well. Existent hasn't played his hand. What's this coming up in the yellow hat?
That's
Nando
Parado at a huge price.
Loads
They've
of
still got
chances.
to get some of these
Here's
long
Richard
shots.
Kingscote for you,
The
Bruce.
favourite's got no chance whatsoever. Richard Kingscote is going well, coming on lauded, but
Come
I
on,
think he's
Creative.
not quite going to get there. Red Line's close enough. Is he good
Creative.
enough? Admiral Nelson will definitely not win. Where's Carder?
Dark
Carder's
Lion.
coming there. Here comes Carder now.
Yeah, he might
but
see
it's
this
still
out.
at a huge price. Nando Parado.
Wow.
Nando Parado going into the final furlong with a lead.
My
Can
Lord. Here comes
Carder mow
Carder.
him down? Nando Parado from
Whoa,
Carder. This is going to
Carder.
be an absolute blowout, this.
Wow.
Nando Parado for Clive Cox and Adam Kirby. Comes home clear of Carder. In third, it's Saker. I don't know what happened behind them, but what I do know is that the bookmakers are laughing all the way to the bank.
My goodness gracious me. We were talking about the Bright Devil race at Newmarket because of Existent, who we thought was interesting for Gosden and Frankie Dettori. We didn't talk once about Nando Parada. He only went off 17-2 for that race on his debut. Why? Because he made a slow start, but he rushed up. He had every chance, showed very little. However, this is Clive Cox and Adam Kirby. 2 days in a row now, Golden Horde took out the Commonwealth Cup. Looks like they've got another top sprinter here, Bruce.
There's going to be a massive story here from the betting in running. Neil, take it away.
Yeah, as you've already sort of led me in there, his BSP looks to be 190, and in running matched at a high of 590. 590
Wow.
for £5. Carder was matched at a low of 1.34. But yeah, all about the winner here. £5 at 590 in running.
And look at the SP, 150 to 1.
Ooh.
150 to 1.
Is that the biggest on the week? Yeah, got to be.
The week and the rest, biggest of the century, mate.
Has there ever been
When was the
150? I'm trying to think if there what shocks we've had this
It's the
week.
biggest in the week. Of course it is, mate. We've had a couple of 33-1 shots. I mean, that's absolutely left it for dead. That's
When was the last
astonishing.
150-1 shot? Like, boys in the gallery, see if
Well,
you can get
I'm
that.
not sure. That will be absolutely donkey's years ago.
Why has that gone off such a big price?
That's
ridiculous,
extraordinary.
isn't
If you've backed Dark Lion each way, you're happy because you got fourth
I
place
think
by
we
the
got
way.
our 4 places, didn't we?
Oh yeah, well played, Jess. Good work.
Yeah.
What was in third there? Seika,
Seika, which was
let's
in
have a
the,
look.
that's a Gozzer as well, isn't it?
Okay, yes.
He
Martin
he
Dwyer.
was in that Creative Force and Dark Lion race. So the third and fourth from that Creative Force race at Newmarket.
have reversed it.
We're third and fourth here.
Creative Force just didn't get home here. Carter was an interesting run, wasn't it? I thought he was going to come and pick him up. Still looked a little bit green when absolutely asked for everything by Jim Crowley, who did ask for absolutely everything. 150-1 shot, yeah, that's absolutely mammoth, isn't it?
Let's see what the spotlight said. Nando Parado faded in the closing stages at Newmarket, finishing 5th over 2 lengths behind Existent. Does not look an obvious player. I think that's fair enough. I don't think you can castigate anyone for not putting that one up. I think it had the lowest RPR, the biggest SP. It was right down the bottom of the Betfair list, and it's come there and it's absolutely done a job.
Yeah, he was last on he was bottom of the Betfair list, and his BSP it looks to be 180.
Wow.
He had Louis De Palma placed, of course, in the first race as well, Clive Cox, and all of a sudden, doesn't it just look very rosy indeed?
I wonder how Mrs. Marie McCartan is feeling, the winning owner. She must be absolutely on cloud 9. Incredible.
I'm just trying to look at his pedigree just to see, because we're talking about future stars of the race, weren't we, and things like that. And then, I mean, look, we said it was a really, really hot looking Coventry on paper. The big disappointment, Admiral Nelson as well. Dave Jennings, if you're watching out there, I know you're really, really keen on that. Did it come too soon for him? The pedigree is Kodiak, isn't he? Out of it doesn't really jump off the page. You look
same sire as Campanella, Kodiak, who has Hello Yumzane in the Diamond Jubilee later.
Not just a pretty face, Neil Hubbard. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, so top 2-year-old sire.
A sire on fire.
A sire on fire. Now we're rolling here on Racing Post Live. Yeah, okay.
It's the Brough advert.
Oh no, they're on the floor, Bruce. Don't worry, everything's fine.
Neil, you're thinking, have they gone mad? Basically, if you've watched Sky Racing,
got the DPR advert.
yeah, exactly. And every
Sorry,
time we look up and see those jockeys on the floor, we're worried that at one of the away meetings there's a jockey mortally ill, and we get all upset. And then Brough comes on.
Gordon's broke her leg about 100 times this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jimmy Quinn in a swimming pool, which is slightly disconcerting.
What I'm worried about is that there will be an actual proper injury, and I'll be going, no, it's just Brough's advert.
Here comes Brough and Haley riding out on the Equisizer. It's all fine. So that's not the case. We think that, okay, so I said, is it on the week? What an absolute shambles that was. It's amazing that Bruce didn't go for me more on that. But yeah, absolutely. Listen, you've got so much going on in your head. We think, says Rob Lee from the studio, that's the biggest winning SP that we can find.
Ever at Royal Ascot.
What?
That's brilliant.
In the Coventry Stakes.
Wow.
And let's just concentrate that a little bit, Bruce. That's got to be because of the year we're having, right? It can only be because of these preps. They're just so freaky, aren't they?
Probably, yeah. I did say on Wednesday, I said, I bet we get a massive prize winner of one of these 2-year-old races.
I mean, I've had
I could have had 13 goes at that.
I've had an absolute shocker. It's coming up on the screen now. They're putting it through to me, the guys. I said on the week. Steve Drown, 100-1 shot in 2008. Flashman's Papers, who I don't really remember. And before that, you've got to go all the way back to 1990. Gary Hine, do you remember him? Yeah. Wow. Fox Chapel, 1990. So... every 10 or so years, something comes around like that. And I guess Clive Cox, if you're Clive Cox now, I remember seeing Clive Cox on the last day, on the Saturday last year. I went through car park 2 and he was standing there. He's such a nice guy, Clive. And he called me over. They were standing out behind his whopping 4x4. And they said, we'd like a drink. I didn't have time for it. And he just had I think he had a pretty good week last year, but he had the second in the, Tis Marvellous finished second in the Wokingham. And they were celebrating that, like they'd had a big winner. You've got to be really sort of thinking, why aren't I getting, a little bit more like the horses I used to get? Do you know what I mean? He used to have some very, very big patronage, didn't he? And it's just been maybe slightly quieter for him.
He could win the St James's Palace.
Yeah, Stable's in flying form.
He
He had a winner at
profitable.
Lingfield
Brandon
last
Spence's
night.
horse, of course. Yeah, the Solario Stakes
He had a winner
winner.
yesterday, didn't he?
Great shout. So listen, all of a sudden, Alan King and Clive Cox have really joined the party. If you've joined the party out there, let us know here on RP Live. Hashtag it is. Dave Orton, Bruce Millington and Neil Hubbard steering the ship and the good studio that is RP Live for the final day of Royal Ascot. We're loving the comments coming in. There's some good socials there. Let's just go back a little bit. Some of the also-rans lauded. I said, here comes Kingscote for you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Probably the stiff finish.
Probably, yeah. I'm just looking out the back to try and find Admiral Nelson. He was well and truly shipwrecked, wasn't he? There's nothing doing there.
It's interesting because Dave Jennings this morning, when I was chatting to him, he said this is their Great White Hope, maybe even more than Battleground. He was second fav when he made his debut at the Curran 1, which makes you think, was that just a bit of a freak performance? But Justin O'Hanlon, I think it was, that did the analysis for the paper that day, said probably the best Irish 2-year-old we've seen so far.
I'll tell you what,
needed.
I do think not just for Royal Ascot, but for all 2-year-old races for the time being, we're just going to have to tread a little carefully, aren't we? Because it's, we've tried. Normally we've got 2 or 3 months worth of evidence coming into Royal Ascot. We've had 2 weeks, and it's very unnatural, this, and so I would just tread very carefully with 2-year-olds in general.
We don't really want to talk about the bounce factor, do we? Because come on, it's something with punting that you've just this week in particular, you've got to take the faith it doesn't happen. But 2-year-old, I totally agree. 2-year-olds, just some of them just aren't going to take that quick turnaround, are they?
Well, he's had 2 shockers there, Aidan, hasn't he? You know.
Oh, yeah, so absolutely. So let's, of course, think about what we've got coming up next, the 225, which is the Coronation Stakes. And actually, the pressure's off him a little bit here. Again, a reference to David Jennings out there this morning. He said, I really, really fancy one here. I fancy So Wonderful, who's actually 15-2, still a maiden. And the other O'Brien horse, Love Locket, who's in there, comes in there a little bit unexposed, maybe with quite a bit to find. William Buick's on. They're both the outsiders, so a complete contrast. Could it happen? Third time lucky has been happening here this week. My goodness me. We'll get some quotes coming on through from what's going on the website. We've got some boys on track for you as well. Of course, anywhere near as much as usually. Massive huddle in that press room. And it's a weird year, but you can still get all the news first. All the race reactions here at the Racing Post. A reminder of the Members Club offer then. 3 months just for a tenner. Promo code racing is back. Look at these replays. I mean, someone out there tell me, if you're looking back at that last winner of the Coventry, did he really show that much on his debut? The market says 150-1. How on earth is that one? The quotes are going to tell us everything later in the day. As soon as they come in, the boys in the gallery will relay them through to us, Bruce.
Yeah, they're quite sort of distinctive colours. Mrs. Marie McCartan must have had some other horses. We better check her out at some point and just see whether she's ever had anything like this before. Look, I think sometimes, Neil, I don't know if you agree with this, sometimes you get a race and you kind of semi-beat yourself up because you think, well, I could have actually had that, or, that was on my shortlist or whatever. But I can't think there's any punter here who's think, oh, do you know what, that caught my eye. Or the only chance you're going to get is if you like Nando's and you had a little fiver on it. But I
Like
don't
the boys
see
in the gallery.
I think what's also quite telling is normally after the Coventry, so let's say Aidan O'Brien horse had won, right away you'd be getting 10-1 for the 2,000 guineas, whatever. Had Admiral Nelson won, that's what we'd be getting. It's just radio silence at the minute. I'm not sure the traders necessarily know what to do with that performance, do they? What do you do? Do you put it in at 25-1 and then all of a sudden you get bowled over? Do you put it in at 10s?
That is interesting. I mean,
head scratching, isn't it?
Going back to Mrs. Marie McCartan, I can only find 2 runners that she's previously had. That can't be right. The website. We have to delve a bit, and they do look. Is she an Irish owner? I think she probably is, isn't she? And I can't find it. We'll have to have a little look as well, see what entries she might have coming up and all that sort of stuff. She's got 2 horses with Dave Evans, Rosie McCann, and Nando Parada with Clive Cox as well. So look, an absolute flyer. Where did that come from? The breeding suggests probably not a Coventry horse, but we've got one. So we'll see what Clive and Adam say about that. And
I'm still fascinated. Before we move on, which we will, we've got plenty of time. I just want to see how much she cost. This is just
165,000 guineas, I think, when I was looking at her pedigree.
The winner?
Pedigree. Oh, yeah, the winner.
165 grand?
Yeah, 165,000.
Oh, Christ, so she wasn't cheap then, was she?
It's a he, yeah.
He, sorry, pardon me. Yeah, of course, yeah.
We're talking about the owner then, weren't we? But yeah,
165 grand.
I mean, where'd you go with him now? Coventry winner. You've got
half brother to Muntadab and Dubai Horizon,
which is mile 2.
It's not badly bred.
It's not badly bred. So look, the money was there. They have forked out a few quid on this, haven't they? And how much have they got back to the winner?
Phone rings now, though, isn't it? With a couple of £1 million for him.
Well, that's a good point, isn't it? I think
You know,
someone
like
might be
Mum's Tipple.
swooping on this.
I know the wowness of the performance wasn't like Mum's Tipple, but you know what I mean.
It's someone like a Cheveley Park or something who Clive's got a very close association with.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. She's cost money. She's not a $5,000 afterthought. She's cost decent dough. So they obviously thought something of him. Sorry, not a great debut by any means, but that's fine. How many plenty of good horses don't have a great debut. So I think really when you think about putting this horse in for future targets, I don't think we should be too snobbish or get hung up on 150. I'd judge the performance. That wasn't the performance of 150 to 1. You wouldn't lay 150s now, would you?
And you've beaten Carter,
Exactly.
who looked like a monster and has backed that up. Maybe it came a little bit too soon. I think the experience from Carter, just watch it back on your replays, maybe just ahead, not going to say it came up in an ungainly fashion.
Stall 6 as well, the winner.
Oh,
Stall
yes.
6.
So we had stall 6, the winner. Stall 3 was the third. And who was second? Carter out of stall 4.
And that's the other thing, isn't
So
it?
here we go, low all of a sudden. We've gone low, we've gone high. No, high, low, low. I mean...
So does that mean in the Wokingham coming up at 4:10, isn't it, the Wokingham? Is it 4:10 the Wokingham? I think it is. Coming up at 4:10, when we're sprint all the way across the track again, what do we actually expect them to do? What do we expect them... Do you think it'll be high again then?
Well, the thing is, although these horses are winning from low numbers, they're not winning from the far side, are they? They're coming across. So in a smallish field like that, well, no, there wasn't a small field, it was 15 runs. You can do that in 24. There'll be 2 groups. I think, put it this way, the key bit here is that for the first time since probably Wednesday, we will see some jockeys who think, do you know what, I'm drawn low, I should be coming across. Everyone's been doing that all day. I'm going to take my chance. I think someone will gamble down that far side.
That's the last
What
big
is
field
interesting
sprint
is
we've
the
got.
favourite is Bielsa, who's normally likes to jump and get on with it, and he's drawn 3. So he's probably going to be a key horse, the favourite, because if he jumps and stays where he is, then everything behind him will probably stay there as well.
That's a good shout. That is a good shout, Neil Hubbard. Let's give you the time of the Coventry Stakes. Slow by 2.81. So that's a little bit slower than I was expecting. It's not a great time. However, we're all shocked here in the studio. The quote coming through from Clive Cox that I've got on my screen coming up. It's not a real shocky one. I suppose he's got to say that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Really. He's got, rather than going, he's turning up for a day out, because they're not having a day out anymore.
But the thing is, I think what's caused the 150 is not that the horse was an absolute no-hoper. It was the way the 2-year-olds are this year is so weird that was going to happen. And I can say that with foresight rather than hindsight, because I did say it.
Yeah, quite
Someone
right.
said to me once that I should have a tipping column called Bruce Foresight. But the only trouble is my foresight is useless, so I can't.
Well, let's talk about that quickly as well, just between us. We've got 225 is the first Group 1 coming up, the Coronation Stakes for the fillies. A really absorbing little race that is, despite the 7 just going to post. Punting this week then? You said it's going to be one of the hardest festivals unless you come out on top today, didn't you?
Poor.
Is that because of the guessing that we've had to do?
No, not really. It's just it hasn't happened. Bit of bad luck, but it just hasn't happened for me so far. But
when
it
you
hasn't
used
been
to
a great
watch
festival.
Football matches when you were young, I'm sure they used to do these loads when you used to go. I used to go all the time to Watford, and they'd stand, and the subs would stand 40 yards out and try and hit the crossbar, and go, and if you hit the, I'd be brilliant at that this week.
Yeah.
I would be hitting every crossbar. The crossbar's massive to me at the moment. It's just how it's gone. Yeah. So anyway, listen, we've got plenty of time to try and call that back. What about you, Neil Hubbard? Been better, hasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose I sort of grade it when we were talking before we came on air. I grade it as sort of like a B minus. It's been okay. As Bruce says, I think in some of these when you're back in 5 places and they're coming 6th, if they'd have paid me 6 places, it'd have come 7th. It's been that type of week. But but there's still a few races left, isn't there? So plenty of time to hopefully land on a couple more winners.
I'd take a B, that's for sure. I was saying to Paul Keeley this morning, I think I've caught your 0-4 virus. I went 0 for 70. I've actually placed in 4 of the races yesterday and didn't really take a B home, so that's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, these things happen, don't they? I mean, it's hard, it's competitive, and we've been dealing with the fact that, the prep for all these horses is so unusual this year. I had a good Cheltenham, and didn't have anything to spend it on because there was no racing after that.
It just makes you think of Goshen when you talk to me.
Fair bit of,
It just makes you think of Goshen, doesn't it? Do you remember that, Neil Hubbard? That was different class, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, especially because the winner was one that Bruce had put up as the each-way, perhaps alternative to
I
it.
can't even remember what won it. What won it? What won the
It was a
drive?
Mullins thing, wasn't it? It was a
Oh,
Mullins
yeah.
sort of
What was it called?
Fifth
Someone
Street.
let us know.
I can't remember.
Burning Ambition. There we
that
go.
was it,
Dan
yeah.
Wall straight in my head there. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Dan. All right, then. Time to move on, chaps. We're going on to the round course.
You're being very good, by the way, aren't you?
What do you mean?
Well, your sneaky little looks at the Watford-Leicester score, or have you got the guys in the earpiece to give you
I am
an
having a
update?
sneaky few looks, I must say.
Yeah,
It's
it's
0-0.
0-0, isn't it?
Apparently we've missed a sitter.
Would you take 0-0?
Yes. And now you've made me say that. I'm sitting here with a Palace fan. We're not really. I don't really consider Palace to be a rival of Watford. We just get a bit uppity, don't we, when we play
I think
each other?
you care more about us than we do you for some reason. We've got in your ear the silly incident with that moron who dresses up as the Hornet
Harry
or
the
whatever he is,
Hornet.
yeah, the Wasp. He's yeah, it's all getting a bit edgy, isn't it?
Sad news from Crystal Palace this week with the Eagle. Did I read that
Yes.
the Eagle?
Oh,
sadly
bring it
passed
back
away?
Kayla the Eagle.
Come on, what's happened?
Don't get excited. This is tragic. Kayla the Eagle, who she's like not like a real eagle. She is a real eagle, and before every game, her keeper comes out with that big gauntlet thing on. And she flies from crossbar to his
course it
forearm with the Palace colours on. She died this week, aged 20, but. It was lovely, and people used to love seeing her doing it. She was a real sort of part and parcel of the club.
I haven't been to Selhurst Park in a long time. I don't remember seeing it actually.
Yeah,
But,
no,
well,
it's
commiserations about that. That's not
Yeah,
nice.
that's all right. But she was 27. That's quite.
I don't know, how long do they let...
Well, 27 years for sure. But I was quite surprised that an eagle would live to be 27, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, maybe. Animals surprise you a bit like that.
They
though,
do, don't they? I think I saw on telly the other day.
Just googled how long do eagles live, and the
Typical
answer is
Neil Hubbard.
around 20 years.
Oh,
So,
right.
yeah.
So she had a great innings then,
Absolutely.
didn't she?
I had a bulldog that went on to 13, so yeah, he was, fantastic old Monty. So
I saw a thing about it was either a turtle or a tortoise. I think it was a sea turtle, and it was like 190.
That's insane.
That's mad, isn't it?
It's always the ones in the sea, like the whales that go on for like 1,000 years. I mean, it's insane, isn't it? Dodos or
Dodos?
They used to live. They used to live a long time. Oh, fantastic.
David Orton, bro.
Absolutely brilliant. There's another highlight reel right there. Put that one about when it all came crashing down on me. Dan Walsh has just said the longest living thoroughbred. 38 years.
Who's the Hampden sprinter who was still going strong? I think Barry Hill's trained him. Begins with M. He only died a couple of years ago. He's like 35.
Yeah, that's right.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was the? Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of 13-year-olds winning races, haven't we? Teenage. So listen, we're digressing slightly, but
David Orton, bro. Gave us
David
Orton. I've got to say, I'm pleased with that.
It used to be. Yeah. Okay. Moving on very swiftly indeed. 2:25. It is 0-0 Watford Leicester if you're watching football out there. And we know you like to have loads of screens out there. It's the beauty of this Racing Post Live. You can do it all interactively. Interact with us. Hashtag RP Live. Let us know you're out there. Where are you going in the coronation? Neil Hubbard.
I'm probably going to side. I think it's a really good race, actually. I think it's tricky, but a really good race. And I'm probably going to dive back into the place market. Right. Like we did in that last race. That's the beauty of the exchange. There's so many different ways to bet, and there's 7 runners here. So if you're placing an each way bet, it's normally only 2 places. But with the exchange, we've actually got a 3 places market here. And I'm actually going to side with the American runner, Sharing, here for Graham Motion. He had a runner in this only a few years ago that came 4th, Miss Temple City. This filly won the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf over there, beating a load of our UK Irish runners over there. So she's arguably the best of these in here. Small question mark about the ground, but I think she's probably good enough to shake them up and get placed at the very least. So that's how I'm going to play in the Coronation Stakes.
How much do you want then? Let's do it now. Let's get our business done early.
Yeah, we'll have £50 and we'll go to 2.1 if that's okay. Just a little bit bigger than what she is there, but we'll get 11 to 10 on her for £50.
It's good actually having that 3 places from 7 market, isn't it? Because I think if there's one flaw in the each way model, well, there's lots of flaws in the each way model, but if there's one, it's that quarter the 2 in a 7-runner race. It's just rubbish value, isn't it? I mean, some firms are now going 5th to 3. I think when the shape of the race is okay, in so much as you don't have a long odds-on favourite and then a couple of absolute dirty each-way certainties, you can do it. But
dirty each-way
that's the sad thing. This is a beautiful card. This is a fantastic card. But the one thing I don't like is that the next 2 races are 7 runners. So it nauses it up for traditional each-way. But as you say, Neil, you've got your 3 places and you can do some place laying as well, which I've done. But unfortunately, Neil, we're not done yet. We're 2.04 to back and 2.1 to lay. Do we sit tight?
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it. What's the time of the race? So we've got 10 minutes, haven't we? So we'll just leave it and just keep an eye on it, and then we'll check back in just before the off, I reckon.
This brings us beautifully onto sharing, actually. Do you remember yesterday we were talking about some people in California that were watching us? They're back on.
Oh, brilliant.
8 hours behind, did you say?
They are 8 hours behind, so it is now 6:30. No, 6:15.
Yeah, well, Ed Cummins has got involved again. Great to have you, Ed. We can reach far and wide. Again, that's the beauty of RP Live here. Whatever jurisdiction you're in, you can come and find us. We'll sign in later on. Early doors USA time, as Bruce just said, but fancy sharing in the Coronation. Graham Motion, yes, he does have some unfinished business at Ascot. I was going to get to that. Very good, Ed. The vibes are good. Good luck. Cheers, Ed.
Ed's got a letter in the Racing Post today.
Is that right?
He actually wrote in, I think. Let's have a look and see if I can find it. Hang on. You keep talking while I try and find it.
Okay, so listen, I'll tell you a little bit about sharing. And Graham Motion, Englishman, training in America, Breeders' Cup. You name it, he's pretty much won it over there. Do you remember he came over with Animal Kingdom, who won the Kentucky Derby? He was an absolute top-notcher. Dubai World Cup, I think, as well, wasn't it? And I was absolutely all over him for the Queen Anne, and it just all went terribly wrong. So Graham has had runners at this meeting. Like I say, he's an Englishman training over in America. Sharing, yeah, she beat Albina and a couple of others. You were there. You saw her do that. Tongue tie on today, which is slightly disconcerting, but there has been some love with her, and they've gone for the big man, Oisin Murphy.
I should think Ed was... Yeah, Ed had a letter in saying how much he enjoys the show. So thank you very much for writing in, Ed. I hope you were at Santa Anita last year. It was the most fantastic experience. Real pleasure to be there. And if I ever get back there, I'll look you up and hopefully we can have a beer. Who are you going for here?
You know who I'm going for here.
Of course, yeah.
He says that with a bit of disdain, doesn't he? It's Quadrilateral. Okay, now, I was amazed when I came in this morning. I said about Quadrilateral. All I saw in the Guineas was a horse that ran extremely keen. I need to watch her on the way down to the start. You need to do that as well, because I'm telling you, if she's settled better here, in contrast to Sharing, who gets the tongue tie on, Roger Charlton in the members section this morning, if you read your quotes, he said, we think that the tongue tie made her a little bit keen. Now, she might be a 10 furlong filly down the line, but I'm looking at this. She's joint top rated with Sharing. Alpine Star, first time out, I don't think the ground's gone her way. Run Wild, I'm almost certain that she is flattered by that run in the Pretty Polly. Cloak of Spirits, okay, she's got to reverse form with her. She probably should be a bit shorter in the market. So Wonderful, she's a maiden. Love Locket, I hate to say it, but I just don't think she's good enough. So I'm looking at a horse who I think should be under 2-1.
Why would you back I can't say Quadrilateral. This
brilliant.
Is really,
yes,
there are certain words. I can't say seminar. I can. I just did, but I normally say seminar. Okay, and Quadrilateral. I go with a quadrilateral. I don't know why.
It's like Leroy Desanimo. Once you do these things under pressure,
well, which I'm going to be, although hopefully she'll be out the back and I won't have to call her. But anyway, why would you back Quadrilateral at 3.4? When a filly that beat her last time, fair and square, is 12 Cloak of Spirits? Explain that to me.
I tell you why, because it's Roger Charlton first time out. I'm always surprised when Roger has anything win first time out, and that's not. It's just the style of training. I always think they come on quite. I mean, look at me as if it's quite controversial to say that. But I genuinely think that Roger Charlton, especially this year, I was expecting Roger's horses to be a bit slower off the mark. He has had winners all over the place, but this is his big hope for the year, I think, isn't it? Probably, I think this is the one. She was unbeaten as a 2-year-old. She won the Fillies Mile despite doing loads wrong. Not totally sure that Newmarket's her track either. So it's a bit of a Pinatubo thing here. I think she just rolls around. I think she did when she won the Fillies Mile. If you remember, it took her everywhere bar the line to get up. Now, of course, lots of people then think straight away it's 10 furlongs with her. I like her drawing 4. Jason Watson, don't be too far off. There could be a strong pace on here if you're looking. Cloak of Spirits, you remember, tore off in the Guineas. She could be a little bit flattered by that. Of the two, I think she'll come on, and I think she was a champion 2-year-old filly pretty much. So
yeah, but that's almost a deterrent. That It's that she's like a little mini Pinatubo. They were both unbeaten at 2, both the champions of their sex at 2, and both finished 3rd in the Guineas, which represents regression.
But she's bifrankle.
And she and Pinatubo are both priced up as if you can just forget that. To me, that sends massive alarm bells ringing for me. I'm sorry, but you may be right, Dave. I'm not saying you're wrong. And as one of my favourite colleagues, the wisest person I've ever worked with is Kevin Pulleen, the football tipster. Yeah. And he's got these phrases that people mock, but he says, in any race, anything can happen. In any match, anything can happen. When he used to write about spread betting, he'd say the worst thing that can happen is the worst thing that can happen. And you can laugh and you say, well, that's very obvious. But people forget these things. And they go, oh, that can't win, that can't win. Of course, quadrilateral can win.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm looking at the prices. I just don't see how. You've got a filly there who takes out 30% of the book, and a filly who's beaten her is taking out 9% of the book. I'm not seeing it.
I have the belief.
Neil, step in.
Yeah, go on, Neil.
I can see where Dave's coming from with regards how fresh she was in the 1,000 Guineas, because she did pull really, really hard, and I think she did quite well to box on for third that day. I don't know. Like, I'd sooner let her win, and so be it. You know what I mean? Because she has got the potential to be really good this year. It's just I want to see it sort of before I put my money behind it, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So, well, we are actually watching them go down to the start.
So that's me
now.
Sitting on the fence.
Well, no, exactly.
Very much so.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We'll give him that one. Listen, we've been talking so much and digressing here, but it is one of those races. They are going down to start. First pony of the week that we've seen for sharing. We said that might be a good idea for the others. And Paul Keeley, where's he going?
The Coronation Stakes is a rematch between the Newmarket 1,000 Guineas second and third, Cloak of Spirits and Quadrilateral, and all bookmakers have Quadrilateral as the favourite. However, I think both will do well to finish better than second and third against horses who didn't run in the Guineas. I thought the Guineas was a one-horse race. Love won it really easily, and I'm not sure the other horses are anything special, so I'll be taking on that form. Alpine Star is a very obvious one for Jessie Harrington. She's a half-sister to Alpha Centauri, who won this race 2 years ago and would beat those Guineas fillies by an absolute mile. She's on the first run back though, and Harrington's horses haven't all run that well, so I'll take a chance on the American filly Sharing. She's won 4 in a row now, including Breeders' Cup last year. She wants fast ground. It's drying out for her, and at the prices, I think she could have a decent shot.
Cheers then, Keels. Interesting thoughts. And Alpine Star, we should concentrate on her a little bit. The nap of myracing.com. We should remember as well. The naps have been going really, really well this week as well. 4-1, a little bit bigger than you expected.
Friendless, 5-1 now on the exchange, 6. So she's actually third favourite. The money's come for Sharing, who's my selection. Not that you care, obviously.
Well, no, don't be. We just went so heavy on. I was defending Quadrilateral.
That's right, mate.
So that's 3 ticks. Ed Cummins as well. You and Neil going for Sharing.
Yeah, I just think that I see more negatives than positives in a lot of these fillies. And Sharing's come over. Everyone I know who knows Graham Motion says that he knows the time of day. He's a shrewd cookie. The form's there for all to see. And this idea that there's kind of some problem with transatlantic travel. You look at the amount of times that Simcock and all these other people will fly across to Woodbine, nick a big prize and come straight back. I mean, it's perfectly doable. The world's shrinking. So I like Sharing's chances, mostly because I'm not mad on Quadrilateral. The market still likes Quadrilateral, but she's really been well back now, Sharing. She's 4.9, and the drift on Alpine Star's huge, Dave. So we've basically got 3.05 Quadrilateral, 4.9 Sharing, 6.2 Run Wild, and 6.4 Alpine Star.
Yeah. We're not going to get our 3 placed, have we?
Hang on, sorry, mate.
Sharing in the 3 to be placed market. She's at 1.67 now.
Oh, no. Well, we did get some done. We got half of it done.
That's
Neil.
Fine. I mean, we're not going to go chasing that price now.
Neil
She's around the 4.6 mark.
No. What's happened?
Yes. Let me see them there celebrate.
No.
Do you know why I turned it off? Who scored? Watford 1, Leicester 1. Aye.
Of course, this is the fixture years ago with Dean scoring in the playoffs, isn't it?
Probably one of the greatest days of my life.
One of the that 3-minute clip, because he saved the penalty. They saved the penalty, go down the other end and score, and the commentator, I think it's Bill Leslie, very good commentator, and he says, do not scratch your eyes. Well, at no point
it
was
does
I planning
say
on
that.
scratching
Yeah.
my eyes. I've never wanted to scratch my eyes.
That
in
is
my life.
one of the greatest pieces of football footage you'll ever see.
Brilliant.
And just quickly, it made your world brilliant, didn't it? Because we were so flat in that playoff final. You would have been there, I was there.
I'm very
One of the
flat
worst
now because
games
I'm
I've ever
all
seen.
over Leicester for top 4, but never mind.
Hey ho! Happy days! I'm back in the game. Oi, oi! Up the horns. Okay, Crystal Palace for Bruce Leighton. Just a quick word for that. BBC back in the game.
Yeah, it's going to be the most watched Premier League game in history.
7:45?
The most watched Premier League game in history. Can you believe it?
Amazing. And I need you to do me a result tonight. Bournemouth, please. Come
Okay.
on.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I've become a Palace fan. It's unbelievable. I napped El Arkham. This has been a weird week.
I knew you'd see it our way in there. Now then, sharing. What do we get? So we're just going to write this off, are we, Neil? We're just going to say, look, we've got 22 quid of our 50 quid match. That's the way it goes, yeah?
Yeah, I think we were looking at around even money 11 to 10, and we got some of that. And now she's been smashed up. She's into like 8 to 13 to be placed now, 1.59. So even 25 quid at around 11 to 10 is better than chasing that into.
And we don't put a
1.6
keep
in
bet
my
up
view.
in the basis that the market gets a bit more elastic in play, and we might just get someone bite on it.
No, I'm quite happy just to keep that 25 quid. It's better than nothing.
Should I cancel or just leave it?
Just leave it.
It'll
and we'll
cancel
just,
it on its own,
the off
won't it?
chance. Yeah, but I mean, like she's clear second favourite in the win market now. 4.1 now she is.
This is a big gamble, isn't it, now?
Yeah.
Right. So look. One
She's been matched
person.
as a high of 9.
One person
She's
who'll
into
really
4.2.
want this to win is Nick Smith, isn't it, of Ascot? This could be an American double.
Yeah.
You know, the chief executive. He will be, who goes all around the world.
Chief executive promoted him there.
Right. Talking about that, there has been a lot of movement going on at Ascot.
There has. Juliet Slott's left, but yeah, Nick.
Has she left?
Oh, she's leaving. Nick,
I know
Nick
someone's
is
in line for that job.
Nick is going to be. Nick is. I don't know. He's got one of those titles.
What is he?
One of those,
Yeah, I thought it was
what's
chief-
it say on his beautifully crafted
It's
business?
a
Goes
job
head
that
of
we want.
international racing development
Great.
executive or
Head of
something.
communications, is he?
What
something
it
like
basically means is that from autumn, he spends his entire autumn globetrotting. He goes to the Breeders' Cup, he goes to the Melbourne Cup, he goes to Japan, he goes to Singapore, he goes to Hong Kong, and he hobnobs with all the big connections of all these horses and says, look,
Amazing
please
job.
come and run at Royal Ascot. And generally does a very good job. Obviously, last year he's probably spent 100 grand on first-class air travel. This is the year when he's got everyone say, yeah, I'll definitely come, we'll bring Winks out of retirement, we'll do this, we'll do that, Almond Eye. And then all of a sudden coronavirus comes and it's all scuppered.
Oh, poor old Nick and Winks. Yeah, absolutely. Never quite happened, did it? Absolutely. In fact, there were some leading Aussies that were due to come actually next year. But I would like to see Sharing win for that reason. I think if Quadrilateral doesn't. And Grand Motion, as I said, he came up with Animal Kingdom. We all thought it was a certainty. It never came off. Will it come off? We're about to find out. 2:25, first Group 1 of the day. Over to Bruce Millington for the call.
For all that Sharing has been strong, Quadrilateral has been really, really strong. She's going to go off 2-1 favourite, 3.1 on the exchange, and they're off. It's a mile on the round course, so they should encounter slightly softer ground. All week it's been softer on the round course than it has in the straight, and Run Wild, not surprisingly, given front-running tactics paid off last time. Cuts out the early fractions from Cloak of Spirits. The Guineas runner-up in third in the dark blue is Love Locket. The second string, according to the market, coming up on the inside there's a colour change. That's done me. Oh no, it's not. It's Alpine Star, isn't it, for Jesse Harrington?
Yeah.
And then we've got Quadrilateral. Settled okay, Dave?
Okay. It was a little bit keen early. Did the market pick up on that, Neil?
Market likes her 2.7, 2.8.
I'm surprised by that.
The market's spoken positively.
She's got a lovely position on the inside, Bruce, but for me, still just a little bit keen. Alpine Star now rowing away.
But the market also likes Run Wild at 4.7, and Run Wild has got a really handy lead as they begin the turn into the straight. 3 lengths clear from Cloak of Spirits.
Come on,
On the
Quad.
inside, Alpine Star cruising through, really impressive. He made a very early move. Is Jason Watson on Quadrilateral. On the outside, being rowed along his Love
on,
Locket.
Quad.
That's going to do well to win.
on,
And out the
Quad.
back, so wonderful. And
Come
now
on,
Sharing
Quad.
is trying to make its run. But Quadrilateral's worked
Come on,
her
Quad.
way onto the
You've got
shoulders
this.
of Cloak of Spirits. It looks like the Guineas form is going to be upheld at the moment. Cloak
Has
of
she been
Spirits
too
is
keen?
really, really cracking on though. And Quadrilateral's lugging across the
Sharing.
track. If she's going to do it, she's going to take her time. Here comes Sharing on the outside.
Alpine.
But bursting through on the inner
Ah.
is Alpine Star for Jessie Harrington, and she nicks the spoils.
Wow.
Sharing is second. Quadrilateral only third. Cloth of Stars has dropped right away, but that is really impressive. Alpine Star, and I missed my chance to do my Graham Good going 3, 4, 5 lengths clear.
Look, absolutely you did. It was the mynracing.com nap. If you wade into them, lots of tips. Were keen on her. I know some punters that were. I said to Keely this morning, Bruce is getting in on this one. I said the problem that I've got with her, they didn't know where to run her. It was supposed to be our guineas. They didn't want to do the travel thing. French guineas. It was Irish. Is she the third? I mean, that was impressive considering that they thought the ground might have gone against her. The market certainly thought the ground had gone against her. She was the first of the principals beaten. The way that she has come back and quickened, that was a bit special.
Neil, what happened to her in-running graph?
Well, she was matched at a high of 95. Alpine Star.
She looked a little bit cooked when Quadrilateral made her move. It looked like she was struggling, but she didn't. She hung on in there, came up, hugged the rail.
Yeah, 95. Obviously, and she's a half sister to Alpha Centauri, who won this as well, didn't she?
She is, yeah.
Quadrilateral hit a low of 1.5. And Sharon ran on for a place, didn't she? So we got that landed. Run Wild, yes, she got on the easy lead, 3.05, so she didn't go massively short.
She was beating half the track in the end.
Yeah, so but it's quite interesting. Like we didn't really talk about it pre-race, but it was quite interesting the jockey bookings here in terms of like after Run Wild won at Newmarket, Frankie still didn't ride her. So he must have chosen not to ride the Gosden thing and instead ride the Jessica Harrington thing. And even Ocean Murphy, who rode Run Wild, got off her to ride Sharing. So despite the market being pretty positive about Run Wild, the two jockeys, presumably who could have rode her, both got off of her for four fillies who finished in front of her.
She does look good. And Alpha Centauri, that was Kills' angle, I think, this morning. He said, look, if Alpha Centauri was in this, she'd win 5 or 6 names. Well, me and DJ were slightly worried about the ground drying up, as I've previously mentioned. Quadrilateral's run was really weird, wasn't it? She was keen early, which I think if I was analysing this, I probably would go back to that and say she's just going to need to settle down and she might just be caught between trees. You'd almost argue, having watched that, Bruce, into the home straight, she's got the pace to be a sprinter. You know, she's made that lovely sweeping move.
Was that done too early? Did he go too early? Or did he just feel that because she was pulling, he thought, I may as well give her a head and try and make a winning move? But she went really, really early. I mean, if you're going to start pressing your foot on the gas that hard when you haven't even straightened up, you've got to be on a really good one because otherwise that petrol tank is going to run dry, which is what happened.
Even on the soft ground, even on the fast ground this week, anyone who has been going for home, gung-ho, cavalry behind me, the only horse I can think of that's done it is Huckham. For Jim Crowley in the handicap, which makes you think that Kipps may be a bit more of a thinker because he kicked that horse for Hamdan Albert and went. You're right. I don't. She's reversed that form with Cloak of Spirits, hasn't she? So you wouldn't say that Love's form's been harmed there, but I tell you what, this is a very, very nice horse.
Is this an Oaks filly now?
That's what I'm thinking. See the Moon, she's by. So look, See the Moon, a German Derby winner. His progeny are. I always like See the Moons. And you do think of them with a bit of cut as well. She's got away with it there today, I think. The fact she's
10 to 1 for the Oaks.
What
10
price?
to 1.
10?
10.
Yeah.
She can't be 10, can she?
That's what she is,
Well,
according to Neil Hubbard.
She can only be 10 if she's got a sprint pedigree.
Well, no. She's Alpha Centauri, right? Which is, as we know, the top miler of her generation, really. I think we can say that. And See the Moon, it's all stamina. They've got to go for the Oaks.
10s is a ridiculous price.
What price is Love,
What's
Neil?
the Oaks? 2 days away, 2 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 days I wouldn't be taking 10.
Hold on, I'll get the
So you've
price.
got Love, you've got Frankly Darling, and you've got this. The Oaks is shaping up into an absolute
Sizzler.
belter, isn't it?
Yeah, she was 33s and now she's into 10s, Alpine Star. But I'm just getting the price for the Fiat.
Am I missing something, David?
Hold on. 13 to 8, Love. Frankly Darling 3s.
I mean,
Peaceful 8s. Quadrilateral 8s. Alpine Star 10.
I mean, how can you have? Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy price, isn't it? I mean, that's so. Why wouldn't you back her at 10 to 1?
Well, I would.
Yeah.
I just would. I mean, to be
Because of the
honest,
buzzers?
I hate being one of those idiots who goes, "Oh, I've backed this at a massive price," because it's just boasting. But you know, when you've had a week like I have, you need to be able to boast. And I backed Frankly Darling at 20 to 1.
Yeah.
But that's great. But I mean, I definitely add that to the portfolio at 10s. I don't get that at all.
100%.
Do you, Neil?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think that's a very decent price. Obviously, Love's a worthy favourite, but at 10s there, considering that was her first start of the season as well, you know, you would hope there'd be more to come as well.
Well, and also, if you look at what she's done to
Yes,
Cloak of Spirits
Quadrilateral.
and Quadrilateral.
Yeah, exactly.
It's no different to what Love's done.
Love is the breeding. Everything about it wasn't guineas. That's why it was so impressive. And she's obviously trained by the right firm. The time, slow on the first race on the round course, of course. We've got the St James's Palace coming up 3.21, so we're looking at good ground.
That's good, is it? Or
that's a good
with
ground.
a bit of soft in?
That's a good ground.
Okay.
But yes, slightly softer, absolutely. Hasn't quite dried out quite so much on the round course, but we know, or if you're new to Ascot, that's usually how it is, invariably on the round course there as well. Thanks, Rob Lee, for the time coming through in the gallery. What I really liked about that, you watch it back on your replays in your members section, you're going to think, she's not a mile of this horse. If you think, she beat Santiago last year.
She did. That's right. That's right. That race could conceivably produce the Oaks winner and the Ledger winner.
Absolutely fantastic. Was that at Galway? I think it was.
It was Galway.
Yeah, so
incredible.
Again, we've got Galway coming up as well on RP Live.
I'll tell you what, Dave. Every single race that takes place, well, not quite every single race, but all the proper action, the listed and the graded and the graded action, and the group action, pardon me, is throwing up so many intriguing new clues, isn't it? That race there was absolutely fascinating, wasn't it?
And you've got the Breeders' Cup winner who came to have absolutely every chance. We've got the International, could be a Breeders' Cup later on. If you were able to go, do you thought you might go, or is it just...
Where is it this year?
It's back at Santa Anita.
Keeneland.
It's Keeneland, I was going to say, yeah.
Strange old area, Keeneland, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. Where is it?
Yeah, it's down where the surf meets the turf, they call it, isn't it? It's down in...
that's Delmar, isn't it?
Oh, is it
Keeneland?
Yeah, of course it is.
Keeneland's at Lexington.
Yeah.
Lexington. So Kentucky.
Yeah,
it is. I remember Ron Wood went there, and he went with the press junket, and they're all right. Where do we go? He says like Uxbridge. So
yeah, exactly. I went to the 2008 Ryder Cup in Kentucky, and we stayed in Louisville, which is the big city.
Right.
And they made an effort. I went with Steve Palmer. It was the funniest time I've ever had. Honestly, I promise you, I could write a book about it. But your entertainment was created in spite of the fact it was in Kentucky than because of. So I'm not sure I would. Having tasted the brilliance of Santa Anita last year, I'm not quite sure Lexington's going to do it.
It's Wes Wardville, that is, isn't it? Kentucky there as well, Churchill Downs.
Probably won't be allowed to anyway, and the way I'm punting, I won't be able to afford it either. But anyway, that's another story.
Listen, whether it can turn for you now or not, I don't actually know.
It started to turn, and oh my goodness, I'm looking at Pinatubo's price. He's so short. I'm laying again.
Okay, come on then. Let's get on. Let's move on. That was the Coronation Stakes. Really good performance. What did you make of Alpine Star? Can she travel love in the Oaks coming up? That'll be our next show here. RP Live, the first weekend of July. We've got a small matter of the Eclipse as well. Enable coming back. It's all happening. We're raining future stars at the moment. Oh, and never before, I would wager, as Bruce just said there, back it up, has Royal Ascot been so informative.
Incredible. I was looking forward to this day all week, and it's delivering already. I tell you, it's not delivering for, though, is Aidan O'Brien. He's had a shocker, hasn't he? They've both got ironed out there. His two-year-olds were not sighted. I mean, but again, that doesn't mean they can't all win. They're not all running badly or anything. It's just the way it goes. And, he's got one really strong chance to atone here in Wichita. Yeah,
MyRacing.com, I've got plumping for that as well, just to let you know. Their nap. How many naps is that, MyRacing.com? Let us know. We know you're out there watching us. Is that 3? I'll make it Circus Maximus, Golden Ord and Alpine Star as well. They've got a huge following on Twitter, myracing.com. You can get on there. And, of course, they're going for Wichita here, who was ahead of Pinatubo in our Guineas. We've just been talking more classic time. It's now the Colts' time to shine. Said to Paul Keeley earlier, is this the race of the day? He nodded.
Oh, it is.
I think it's got to be, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I've been looking forward to this ever since Palace Pier went bananas at Newcastle. And I'm so pleased that, the second and third in the Guineas are back in Wichita and Pinatubo. You've got Positive, who has really, really strong 2-year-old form, well beaten by Pinatubo last year. But now you'd say 5 lengths is not insurmountable. Threat is a really interesting horse. This has got so many angles in it. I can't wait.
Shall we see the market then? Neil Hubbard, please take us through it if we can get it up on screen, guys. Bruce said he's gone short. Just how short? Pinatubo, the biggest talking horse bar Stradivarius this week.
Yeah, 2.42. So that's around the 7 to 5 mark. So yeah, he has been backed. He was 2.7 this morning. So he's definitely shortened up during the course of the afternoon. Wichita 3.45, Palace Pier 5.8, and then bigger prices the rest. But as we've just sort of alluded to, we don't necessarily want to be ruling them out. But definitely the support has come for Pinatubo. But I'm with Bruce. I want to be taking him on. So let's look to lay Pinatubo
You place laying
here.
him? Are you that brave?
No, we'll just lay him in the win market here. So he is 2.44 to lay. So if we select that, then in the backer stake, so unlike a lay, unlike when you're backing in here, you actually put how much money do you want to win. So let's go £50 here. So we put £50 in there. So our liability is £72. So if he wins, it's going to cost us £72, and it's all like displayed for you there on the market. Green is good. So £50 is what we want to be seeing on every other horse. So yeah, confirm all of that.
We've just missed it. Should I chase the 246 or will we get done?
No, it's all right. Let's just leave that there, and hopefully it's just there waiting to be back. So we'll just leave that for a little minute.
Okay, fair enough. What about, are you not having a side order of a place lay as well, Neil?
No, I'm quite happy just to keep him laid in the win market and have the other 6 boxing for us.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. So
is that what you've done?
I've laid him to win 2 places and 3 places.
There you go.
I really have. Look, and don't get me wrong. I would take no pleasure. Well, I'd take a small amount of financial pleasure from Pinatubo running badly. But you know, when we did the show over the Guineas, we all were desperate for him to be as good at 3 as he was at 2, and it was a real shame when he wasn't. But the fact is, on that run, he's not going to leave that run behind and go back to being what he was like at 2. That just doesn't happen.
Okay, I want to go back to this morning when I was sitting in the studio gallery and the guys were going through it. And you know what? Rob Lee, who's been sterling work producing this show, and he knows his onions, this chap. He started the Nahar gamble in the first day. He's looking at Pinatubo. Do you know who he likened him to? Altior. I mean, that which look at me as if that's like me saying Dodo, isn't it?
Yeah.
But 150 to 1, when was the last one? But the reason being, and he's in my ear saying, watch back the videos, which you can do in your members section. He thinks he takes time to warm up. And he which I was agreeing with Rob. We were musing about it, and he's watching every single one of his runs. And he goes, "Watch back the Chesham last year. You can't call him the winner until 2 furlongs out." And he really gets to Lope Fernandez, and he hits there. And it's borne out that in 2 things: the homework, they say, don't they? He doesn't really sparkle at home, and he didn't go off a favourite for that Wolverhampton debut. And I'm not trying to be derogatory to Wolverhampton there, of course not. You don't see classic winners coming from Wolverhampton. You don't usually see champion 2-year-olds coming, and certainly not starting favourites for Godolphin. And the other thing, we had a great piece in the Racing Post approaching the Guineas. Charlie Appleby, the secret to Pinatubo. The secret is he's never trained a horse, Bruce, who's got that burst that lasts for as long as it can, but he's got to take it up. Now, the other thing that Rob Lee said, which I do agree with because I analysed other Dewhurst, I'm not sure that he likes Newmarket. If you look back at that Dewhurst, again, you can do that right now. He takes quite a long time to get up on Arizona, who made the running that day, and Wichita, who had the rail, albeit Wichita like slightly faster ground. And go back and have a look at the Guineas. I got excited when you were calling that Guineas because I thought he was coming. I've spoken to one very good judge I know who was at that meeting. He said there was nothing wrong with Pinatubo that day. He looked sparkling. And the flat track is the way to go with him. I think they would have liked slightly softer ground. You've got it on the round course. I'm not mad keen on taking him on.
Are you saying this is a flat track?
Flatter track. It's a flatter track. I mean,
it's a brutal uphill
I know it
kick.
has got that stiff finish, but it's not Newmarket, is it? With the
no,
what you were saying,
it's not
the
it's
moguls,
not the bridges,
if you like.
No, but it's a steady old climb up from the bottom there. And I look, if Pinatubo comes back, hallelujah, I'll be so pleased. But I just don't see it. I just think, in actual fact, it's possible that the Dewhurst run was actually the start of his decline because he definitely wasn't as impressive as he had been at that point. And then the form in the Guineas, it was the same again. It's just I think he's going to be a good Group 1-2 horse this year.
If one horse
we saw on the Guineas,
if one horse got unlucky, Bruce, with the delay to racing coming back. because they do say it's the last 2-year-old race of the season, don't they, the Guineas? Oh, I think with good reason. It's probably Pinatubo, isn't it? Because it had the Pinatubo of last year turned up. And what was it Paul Keeley said about 3 years in horse racing, in horse age, you'd like them to be 18, sort of a 16 to an 18-year-old, isn't it? Or 13
no, it was a 13 to an 18-year-old.
Okay.
So from what you do as a 2-year-old in October to a 3-year-old in May. Look, no, I'm really sorry. I love you. I love Rob, but nothing you've said there has convinced me that Pinatubo is going to do it.
I'm not on
if he
Pinatubo.
does, all well and good. Okay, who are you on?
I'm on Palace Pier. I was with you that day. What I love about this, there's a bit of sniffery going on that he ran in a handicap and Acquitted absolutely blew out, but we know that Acquitted wasn't right at all. Earlier in the week, the horse that finished second to Pinatubo in the new, was it the Copper Horse Handicap, I think, the Mile 2 that opened up the Thursday card. He just didn't turn up at all. And again, one of these horses that just physically couldn't handle it. What I love about this is the Gosden factor. They know they've got one here. You're talking about Kingman's trainer here, trainer with the greatest performance in this race in the last 10 years. They've been very, very... This was their Guineas horse. John didn't go to the Guineas because he was worried about that being too soon for a horse that had his injury. I love the fact that when Acquitted quickened, a horse that acts really well on the all-weather, he came back, and I was worried about soft ground for him, having backed him like you did after that run. Albeit we've got another 7 run afield here. I'm on 3 places each way, but I was a little bit worried about the ground. I'm very happy about that now. So I'm not on Pinatubo, but at the same time, what I'm trying to say is I know some judges that I respect that have weighed in, and that's why I think he's so short.
Okay, fair enough. I'm with you on Palace Pier. You're trusting potential and you're trusting Gosden, but you've also got to trust your eyes sometimes. And that visual performance there was just so damn good. I mean, from 100 yards, from the final 100 yards there, he's absolutely left Acquitted for dead. He really, really has. He's absolutely pulverised him. It was a brilliant performance, and it's funny because he actually looked like he didn't cruise to Acquitted, did he? He still had to be bustled along.
Yeah.
But again, he might be like Pinatubo, one of these jumbo jets that has to roll along the runway quite hard, and then it absolutely goes into overdrive and takes off.
And you remember that graph with him at Newcastle, the Betfair graphs. Acquitted was all the way in. You couldn't get rid of him. I think they opened him up about 6-4. What was the SP that day, Neil? It was around about 11-10, wasn't it? 11-8 on Betfair.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, Neil, if you're taking on Pinatubo, which we know you are, Bruce has gone really strong on the laying of Pinatubo in the place lay market as well. What is the horse that you think is it Wichita, or is it Palace Pier, or perhaps something more left field?
Yeah, I like Palace Pier. So he's one that I would sooner have on my side. Just, he's just total potential, isn't he? And so I'd sooner have that on my side. It's interesting that they're pitching him straight into, well, I say straight into Group 1 company, but he won a handicap last time, so they could have gone softly with him, but they haven't. Threat is a really good horse. He was 5th in that middle park where Golden Horde was 2nd. He came out and won the Commonwealth Cup. I just think there's a couple in here that, look, I sort of sound familiar to what Bruce is saying. Like, I haven't got a problem with Pinatubo at all. If he comes out and wins, it'll probably be really good. It'll be really good for racing. It will set up a great Sussex Stakes probably against Shishkin. It would be, probably for the narrative of the season, it would probably be ace if he could come out and win. I don't have a problem with him. I just think that, I just want to see him bounce back properly into form. And whilst the 3rd in the Guineas wasn't terrible, he should have been winning that really. And so I'd just sooner let him win this if he's good enough, and then we can look forward to him the rest of the year. Until he does step forward again, I'd sooner have the other 6 or 7 against us, and so be it. I'm not really bothered which one it is. But Palace Pier is probably the obvious one.
Just under quarter of an hour away, and thanks, Neil, to the St James's Palace Stakes for a lot of people, the race of the entire meeting. Let's give you some juicy stats to help you further. Some juicy stats then. Do you know what? Listening to Neil Hubbard then, I got really excited then for a minute. Be it Pinatubo or the winner of this race, Circus Maximus versus Siskin and versus the winner of this race, and maybe even something coming from the fillies as well in the Sussex Stakes.
Yeah, absolutely superb. Will we be able to get to Goodwood this year? I don't suppose we will we?
Don't think so. Again, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? When will they let us back in? I mean, we're talking about the end of July. So in July, just to remind you on the RP Live, we've had Royal Ascot week. It's been absolutely sizzling. We'll be back. Worry not. We'll be back for the Derby on the first weekend, and we're going to top and tail July. We'll be back for the entirety of Goodwood, and we'll be chucking in a little bit of Galway as well. Barry Orr was really keen on that. Barry Orr's gone off to do a bit of football today, I think, Neil, hasn't he? You're stalwart in his position. You're having a really good week. How's the market looking?
It is looking pretty solid with Pinatubo. I think we've probably got matched, did we, Bruce?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we got done, mate.
Back into 2.42, so that's fine. He's out to Well, I say he's out. He's now at 2.44, which isn't, which is fine. 3.25 Wichita. Pretty solid all morning, really. Palace Pier 6.6, bit weaker compared to what he was this morning. He was a little bit shorter than that. Threat is really weak. He was 13 first thing this morning. He's out to 20s now. But the others, pretty steady. So I guess the story of it is Pinatubo, really, who's been steadily backed all sort of early afternoon and through the afternoon now.
I'll tell you another story I've got, Bruce, just quickly. Why is Arizona so big?
I was just going to say, I think, I'm looking at this market, and I think it's one of the most lopsided markets I've ever seen. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to pay for it. But I think Pinatubo's too short. I think Wichita's too short. I think Palace Pier's too big. And I think Positive Threat and Arizona, they're all really big. They're all they've all got damn good form. Arizona won the Cov last year. Arizona, has got close proximity to Pinatubo last year.
He was his nemesis, wasn't he? He was the one that he had to keep beating, absolutely.
I honestly, this is a race where if you're sitting at home and you're looking at this screen, I would not put anybody off trying to build a little portfolio around either laying the front two with emphasis on Pinatubo or looking at some of these longer prices. My main tip is very much Palace Pier, but if Positive Threat or Arizona won at 18, 20 and 40 respectively, I think to myself, hang on a sec, I should have backed that, so I have.
When Bruce hones in on a long price one. He hasn't got one over the line yet, but boy, have we gone close. How are you getting on out there? Let us know. RP Live, that's the hashtag. Myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington and Neil Hubbard in the studio. We're really warming up here. What have we got? Another 3 or 4 races, haven't we? Another 4 races, 3 races, on the card. Or is it 4?
4, we got 4. You're not getting away. It's been a long week for you, Dave. 36 races.
I said the word dodo earlier. It's been a long week.
I think you might start completely falling apart. In which case, expect to be mercilessly put. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You were almost out of the game on day one, weren't you?
Absolutely. It stood up there.
But a little bit of your claret on the background there.
I can see it sort of testing. It's goading me a little bit, but don't worry. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see the highlights reel of this week. Let's talk about that as they go around. We have had a right crack though, and we've had real fun. But some of the stories as well. I don't know. The highlights reel of this one I think will be absolutely special, and rightly so with Royal Ascot. And I don't know, highlight performance, bar Stradivarius.
All right, okay, so if we all agree Stradivarius was the one, Calusi, I mean, I just thought that was absolutely absurd. I've never seen... I backed Finest Sound and I was thinking, here we go, Finest Sound, those bright yellow silks come bursting out the pack, I'm counting my money, and then all of a sudden I looked to the right of the screen and this thing is like an absolute exocet coming down the near side, Calusi. Yeah. It was a phenomenal performance. And, because these handicaps are so high class, the bridge between that and group class is pretty negligible now, and that will be a Group 1 performer. I cannot wait to see that next.
He's got a beautiful pedigree, hasn't he? And these horses that hang and still win, I'm really always attracted to them. If he'd have kept straight, how far? Where would you go with him now? Group 3, just gradually up?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they'll do with him next, but I mean, I quite fancy him tilting at windmills and going for something really big, because I think he'd be a price.
Throw him in the Sussex against
I was going to say that, yeah. I mean, they won't, because that's not how they operate, and there'll be too many stars in there. Yeah. They'll probably take the view that they need a stepping stone. But if they did, it'd be a huge clue anyway, wouldn't it? Because they're basically saying, look, we knew he was that good, and this is what he is. I mean, I just wish someone had told me beforehand how good he was.
Star is born. Ross Briley was absolutely all over him. It's the only race, Neil Hubbard, isn't it, that we've had a celebration out of Ross, and that he's had his arms up.
Yeah, he's doing all his punting. Do you remember the group Sparks back in the day?
Yeah, right, okay.
He's like the keyboard player out of Sparks, isn't he? He just sits there absolutely motionless. I'm going red, bursting blood vessels, having a commentary. And he's sitting there just serenely tapping away. There's something wrong with the division of labour on this firm.
We've got Scarlet Dragon in the studio. Scarlet Scarhill. There we go. Scarlet Scarhill. Brilliant. We've got it. And we've got Sparks Brierley. Neil Hubbard, your highlight of the week, bar Stradivarius.
Yeah, I think Calusi is worth a shout out, but also in the same colours. I think Malatham was quite good in the jersey as well. So it'd be interesting sort of headache if they go, if they want to go up in trip with him. In terms of the way Aidan O'Brien's 2-year-olds have been running or not been running, I thought Battleground was really good in the Chesham, considering he was weak in the betting as well, wasn't he? And Batash was really good on day one, wasn't he?
He was.
He just sort of jumped and went, and that's the sort of Batash that we want to see, and he delivered.
That's the thing, isn't it? When you run on the Tuesday of Cheltenham or you run on the Tuesday of Royal Ascot, you've sort of forgotten, aren't you? It's like the Eurovision, isn't it? You go first, you could have the best band, but it's always the one at the end that get the vote. So
hang on, we've got 2 analogies so far. We've got the dodo living a long time.
I've just got
We've got
Eurovision.
Pinatubo is Altior, and now the Queen Anne is the Eurovision Song Contest.
It looks that way, doesn't it? Absolutely. Yeah, indeed. Focusing back on the St James's Palace and back with Paul Keeley.
The St James's Palace features another Guineas rematch, this time with the 2,000 Guineas second and third, Wichita and Pinatubo. Wichita just held Pinatubo for second that day, but Pinatubo went for his effort this early, and last season's champion Juvenile is fancied to come out on top of those two. There are others to consider, though, and they include Palace Pier. He only won a handicap at Newcastle last time, but in a really, really good style. He was 3 lengths behind the leader going into the last furlong, and he finished it 3 lengths ahead, showing a serious turn of foot. He's my fancy, but don't rule out threat either. He's become a big price. His 2-year-old form is rock solid, and he is bred to stay.
His confidence this morning with Palace Pier, having said at the start of the week, I remember speaking to him and he was like, I just can't wait for Saturday. I said to you, you've got a little bit lukewarm on this now. And that's probably, for whatever reason, I don't know, but Kills has, but I wouldn't let that put you off at all. He's still going for it. We're still going for it. That backdrop is fantastic with the tips, isn't it?
Yeah.
You remember we had him in the office and then they were like, no, let's get him in the studio for the rest of the days. And they put him right underneath the crown. He's done us a little bit there. Ross Briley had some great lines on the week and he said, does he bring in his own background?
Yeah. Oh, he would.
King
No,
Keeley.
that's his wallpaper. He's been decorating all through lockdown.
I heard that on the first postcard that you did back. It was brilliant. Polka dot carpet, wasn't it? That's absolutely fantastic, yeah. And Kills is having a really good week. He started, would you believe it, 0 from 15. There's a lesson there. Marathon, not a sprint. He's been back with some really good winners as well. We're hoping Palace Pier here in the studio. Right, they're going on their way down. I think we talked about pretty much all of the runners, but we haven't really concentrated on positive very much, have we?
No, we haven't, and it's interesting because obviously Clive Cox has had 2 winners, so the stable's banging form. And if you look at what he's done, he was obviously beaten 5 by Pinatubo. I can't remember which race it was. Was it the Vintage? No, it wasn't Vintage. It was the Vintage. But then he's finished well clear of the others. So if Pinatubo hadn't run there, he's dotted up in the Vintage, and he's much shorter for this. His last run wasn't great, but I think it was the Solario. He was probably his most impressive performance, wasn't it?
Beat Kamiko, so
exactly. But that's not too sad, is it? So
no.
Honestly, I would rather. I know that he's got 5 lengths to find with Pinatubo, but I promise you that regression, the way that some horses can thrive from 2 to 3, others can stand still and others can take a step back. 5 lengths is nothing. So I promise you, I would not be remotely surprised if Positive finishes in front of Pinatubo.
And I think the reason why they didn't really go to Newmarket was because they thought perhaps, I think in the duos, he was kind of rolling around a little bit as well. So they're coming here and they're on a right roll, aren't they? The Cox, just looking at his pedigree very quickly, he's by Dutch Art, who is a kind of 7 furlongs to a mile, really. It's a speedier influence, if you like. 7 furlongs he ran over. He's a Solario and he should be fine. The Dam 8 up a mile and a half, and she's by McPhee, a Guineas winner as well. So he could have a lot to say, I think. And look, they've had a 150 to 1 winner, would you believe it, in the Coventry. Do not be put off. We must mention Royal Dornoch as well then, because the one times every time I said, look, listen guys, we've got to mention a rag, they've actually gone really, really well. He was 40 to 1 in the Guineas. It was just an absolute no-show or whatever. I was really surprised his son of Glen Eagles wasn't more prominent.
He's
that
got
day.
the odd bit of form, hasn't he?
He beat Kamiko in the Royal Lodge, and that day he was right up there. And it was a bit of a funny race. That Iberia was really well fancied for him. I think Kamiko, that's the run that put me off Kamiko. You know, back at Newmarket, egg on face there. But Royal Dornoch, they've got 3 in the race, haven't they, O'Brien? 3 of the 7 tactics. That should exactly where we should go next. How do you you see this? How do you see this going? Arizona, we know he likes to get on with it. Could he be the hare?
Well, the interesting thing, of course, will be normally that Aidan's got his own crew around him. He's got Ryan Moore and he's got Shamey and he's got Podrick Beggy and he used to have his sons, but he's got his crew there, and you see them, don't you? They walk the course fastidiously, checking where the best is, and you can always see that Aidan's chatting away and he's saying this and saying that, and they get their tactics all sorted out. Now, is Aidan going to be able to do a Zoom chat with Ryan Moore, Tom Marquand, and Sean Levy, and have the same kind of instructions? I'm just not sure. I don't know. I'm really not sure what's going to happen with the tactics. I'll defer to you on it, Dave.
Well,
how do you see the race unfolding?
Well, obviously I mentioned Arizona. Palace Pier is a horse that he doesn't like to sit back on him. And I mean, he's quoted in some places as Derby, wasn't he? Which John poo-pooed. Wichita is another horse that likes to get on with it. Threat, you have to assume that he'll be held up. Positive, I imagine, because he's trying the mile for the first time, will be the same. Royal Dornoch, I just don't know. I would have said before the Guineas that he probably might be one to try and set it up, maybe. I'll tell you what, if you're Sean Levy, started his career at Ballydoyle, classic winning rider, as you said earlier on the week. If you'd have said to him this time last year, you'll be riding the Coventry winner of the St James's Palace.
For Aidan O'Brien.
I know,
it's brilliant, isn't it?
So, the narratives are out there. We're watching Pinatubo go down. He's sort of nice and zigzaggy. He definitely knows he's about to have a race. Will Buick is just nicely getting him down there. Neil Hubbard, is he still really, really strong for the punters?
Pinatubo, 2.38, so just ever so much shorter than what he was when we sort of started previewing this at around 11 to 8. I think talking about the pace is an interesting one, because there doesn't seem to be an obvious angle here, and it could lend itself to something like Arizona, who's really good, getting a bit of a soft lead here, and they have to be careful to not let a horse like such as him with his quality get a soft lead, and you could get a surprise here if they do go slowly and a horse with his quality is able to kick from the front and dictate things.
Who's the weak link now? Is it Palace Pier?
Yeah, Palace Pier's out to 7.4, and if you think he was around 5.9 first thing this morning, he is weak. He is weak.
Threat's 27 now. I mean, that's absolutely enormous. Threat's the same price as Arizona now, 27, and there's been money for Arizona in at 28.
Yeah, Threat's doubled in price.
I was really surprised when I was getting a few marks from the Hannon Yard that they weren't putting this up as the bet of the week, as their best of the week. I mean, Mum's Tipple, he must work the house down, Mum's Tipple, mustn't he, for them to keep going for him. And that was the word we got. OK, Bruce, they're going in. It's the big race of the day, the 3 o'clock, the Royal Ascot Group 1. They come thick and fast, the St James's Palace Stakes. Whoever you're on, be it Pinatubo or a rag, all the very best out there. We're going to learn a lot here.
Yeah, and the other element to look out for here from a news angle is that if Frankie wins, he joins Crowley on 6, doesn't he? I mean, Crowley must have gone to bed last night thinking, wow, this is cool. Unless something mad happens, I'm going to be top jockey at Ascot. But,
never write off Frankie.
He is at the moment, but Frankie is flying. And obviously, Palace Pier does have a great chance. I think Palace Pier, if there's no pace, I think he'll look to kick it. I don't think he'll sit around and wait. He won't die wondering, I don't think. Good money for Positive. Positive's really popular. They jump off, and on the outside, Wichita is prominent in the purple colours. On the inside, stablemate Arizona next to him. Pinatubo's absolutely fine. He's settled well, and it's the O'Brien trio who are making it. Royal Dornoch's pulling very hard to get to the front. Arizona's going hard on the outside. Also very keen in third is Threat. On the inside, we've got Arizona, and then Positive, and then Palace Pier and Pinatubo is sitting out the back. Any early market moves, chaps?
This is very interesting for Pinatubo now.
Out to 2 to 1, out to 2 to 1, and Wichita is clear favourite now.
Now, Ryan Moore's just dropped anchor a little bit. They're not gone slowly. They're just got a sort of medium pace, is what I say. It's interesting that Tom Marquand's trying to push up Royal Dornoch to go outside him. Threat's in a horrible position, and Oisin Murphy's looking to try and get in. Palace Pier was a little bit rusty from the stalls gate, Bruce, but he's now in what I would consider the best position.
Well, if there are tactics here, then I think O'Brien's basically set a 3-man wall here, but the trouble is Royal Dornoch can't go with them. So they're turning in, and Wichita is being pressed on the outside by Threat. Positive is going very well there in third. Yes, Pinatubo's been pushed along at the back. He's been pushed wide. He's managed to get out.
Wow.
The race is coming to life now. Wichita on the rails, being pressed by Positive. Pinatubo is shaping really well. Palace Pier's coming on the outside. Pinatubo's got a double handful. Is this the old Pinatubo coming back?
Come on,
it's
Palace.
Pinatubo and Wichita pushing on.
Yeah.
Palace Pier's not going
Positive
away.
not done
Positive is not done with. But it's Pinatubo and Palace
we
Pier
go.
and Wichita.
Palace
Pinatubo,
Pier.
Palace Pier.
Come on, the Palace.
Come on, Palace.
Palace Pier.
Come on, Palace! Get in there, my beauty! Palace Pier wins it. Pinatubo second. Wichita third. Come on, you Palace. Hopefully that's not the first time today I'm saying it. What a win!
Oh, Bruce
Frankie
Millington
joins Crowley as top dog, and that was bloody brilliant.
Yes, happy days. We saw him at Newcastle here on RP Live. We called it. We said, didn't we, performance potentially of the entire day. How impressive was that? What a race. What a finish. Neil Hubbard brings some calm back into the room.
Yeah, Pinatubo hit a low of 1.23, and you can certainly see why. I thought halfway down that home straight it was his there. Palace Pier, 36 in running. So a big price in running. But yeah, Pinatubo, 1.23 and just beat. But he seems to, he ran perfectly well again, but just not as good as the progressive Palace Pier at his stage of his career.
John Gosden, take a bow. When they know that they've got one, and the training of this horse, if you think about it, after the injury layoff they had, they wanted to go Dewhurst. That was what it was. It was all about the Dewhurst. They had to pull stumps, draw stumps. And if you're watching this back now where we are, we're just turning in, Bruce. Watch this sweeping move. And I'm thinking, this is quadrilateral. It's gone too soon.
This is such an awesome race. I could watch this 10 times and find angles. It's so good. Wichita's got the perfect run on the inside. Ryan Moore's done absolutely nothing wrong. The first challenger is Threat. He falls away. Positive looks like he might come there. And then Pinatubo and Palace Pier appear on the outside, both travelling powerfully. Palace Pier, as at Newcastle, needs shoving along to get going, but he gets going in then. It looks like Pinatubo's got this. Wichita's going nowhere on the inside, but Frankie just keeps plugging away. It's another epic battle. It was Ryan Moore versus Frankie on the opening day, and this time he just gets it. It's a great performance at Palace Pier. Frankie's really confident. He's given him a great ride. Wichita's done nothing wrong. He's only just got beat. I'd say it's a length and then a short head. But Palace Pier beats Pinatubo, beats Wichita in a really, really great St James's Palace. I love that.
Yeah, and a word for Positive as well, who tried his very hardest to get back into the race and probably will come on a ton for that.
Threats run really well as well. Threat's not a million miles away.
I just wonder about Threat, whether they'll think about the mile now and maybe have a think about him going back in trip, I think. Yeah, we could, and they'll be excited about that as well.
Yeah, because the sprint division's wide open now, isn't it?
Absolutely
Six
wide
furlongs
open.
I mean, we saw a horse getting quoted by Barry yesterday. I can't think what it was. And I was like, 7-2. It can't be.
It
But anyway,
was Golden Horde, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Back to this. Wasn't that great? I mean, look at Frankie. Poetry in motion. 48 years old. Just absolutely the don. The king of Ascot. 3 winners on the day, 6 on the week. Him and Crowley are locked together as joint head of affairs on 6 winners. It was a great race. And I tell you what, also, I know it's a bit nuts, but I love single colour silks. And you have the silver against the Godolphin blue. It's just classic. I hope Edward Whittaker's got a great shot of that.
He's bound to, isn't he, Ed? Absolutely. If you don't follow Ed on Twitter, by the way, and Instagram, you are doing something wrong.
Interesting one there with his official SP of 4-1, but on the exchange, his BSP was 7.78 for Palace Pier.
I mean, so much to take out of that race. Of all the races this week, that's the one, isn't it? We build it as being one of the races of the week, the race of the day. That hasn't disappointed whatsoever. Pinatubo, let's concentrate on him. He's absolutely run a barnstormer, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's come from last. You called it in running. You thought he's on the bridle. He was the last to come off the bridle. He's reversed that Guineas form with Wichita, albeit very narrowly. Wichita, he did all the donkey work, if you like. It's not the thing to be doing at Ascot this week, is it? And the way he came back at the line, I think we're talking about the three. I think there is still probably a top prize in Pinatubo somewhere down the line.
And look, you add these to the Sussex mix, Goodness me.
Neil Hubbard, can I request that you get onto your trading room and see if we can get a Sussex market, because this could be one of the races of the century. Genuinely, I say that not at all lightly. Usually, you think about the Sussex Stakes, Glorious Goodwood next month, about being a jewel, don't they? The jewel on the Downs.
Palace Pier 2-1 for the Sussex Stakes.
Ooh. Ooh, despite the fact he's never been in a classic.
Isn't he going to win the Derby?
Lots of people have said, is he a Derby horse? He's a son of Kingman out of a Naif mare, so that's,
He probably looks an Eclipse horse in a normal year, but of course it's not
good
a
shout.
three-year-old.
This year, yeah, he
It's not
can't
a
this year.
3-year-old race, though,
No.
is it?
Good
This year,
shout.
sadly.
Hopefully.
Maybe
Has Gozzy
Judge
got
Mark-
another Derby contender?
No. I'm going to say no.
I bet he goes for it. I bet he goes for
That
it.
could be interesting, couldn't it?
He could turn out to be a classic sort of Juddmonte Irish champion.
When we
sort
were
of
talking
horse.
about Santiago yesterday with Barry Orr for what price is he for the St Leger? Palace Pier was in the betting when I was looking at it. We just don't know, do we? Frankly, Darling, it makes you think about her as well. John's got some absolute top notchers potentially. The Oaks looks like it could be great. Would you go to the Derby with this then?
Yeah, I would.
You would? And
I
then
think
if it
I
didn't
would.
work, Sussex.
It's 2 weeks today, isn't it? If he's come out of it, okay. The only thing is, obviously he did have a little setback, so perhaps Gosden will want to see. He won't make any decision now, will he? But he'll wait and see. And looking again at that race, by the way, Threat is going to be a decent sprinter. Threat's going to be a right good sprinter this year.
Arizona looks like he's gone now a bit, doesn't he? I don't know what they'll do with him. Maybe they just might think about going back and trip with him as well.
They
When
finished
turned
well
him-
clear, those front three,
Yeah,
haven't
they
they?
did.
You know? So this is good form.
It-
You know,
it
sometimes
is.
when you get a big race and it's not won by a huge margin, you can think, well, hang on a sec. You don't feel disappointed. But I just think what I like about that race is you've got three brilliant colts all going at it hammer and tongs. And that to me was the race of the week now.
My old
Brilliant.
mentor, Mr. Graham Dench, he taught me, one of the first things he taught me, when the principles come clear, three, I said this to Kills this morning as well, I said the principles came clear, and that means the three horses coming clear. That usually should be a decent form race.
Oh, yeah.
The old red pen, I wonder if he's watching. Graham Dench, one of the greatest judges that will ever be. And let's have a social comment then. Sorry, Neil, just before we come to you. Dan the Man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Best race to watch. Palace Pier is a monster. You enjoyed calling that one, didn't you?
really did.
The
I loved
Scarlet
that, yeah.
Scahill was back
Yeah.
in that. Yeah, I mean, if the boys can use that, I don't know with the microphones. I'm not 100% sure.
It's the first time I've ever said, come on, Palace, not being at Selhurst Park or in front of my TV. It was
Do you know
great.
what? Until you said that, I hadn't actually quite clicked on the link as well. It's a good omen for tonight. Okay,
Can I just pick up on one tiny other little thing here, and it's important. Gosden, whenever he wins these big races, he always makes a point of going up to the lad or the lass with
Yes,
the
he
horse
does.
and congratulates them. And it's only a little thing. I remember once there was a quite a well-documented incident where I think the owner grabbed the
was at
reins. It might have been Oppenheimer. Grabbed the reins off the groom. Charged
Was it
in.
Golden Horn?
It might. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but it charged
I
into the
remember
winner's
this.
circle. And I remember Gosden made a point
It
of
was
getting
Epsom.
the lad and guiding him in with his arm around it. And It's
Yeah.
so important. And that to me, like John Gosden is a class individual in
Yes.
everything he does.
Yeah.
And that just epitomises that. So it's not a big thing. It's not a punting thing, but I think it's important. And I think other trainers should take a note because that's how you keep a happy ship and you keep your staff on board.
I mean, we're looking at Kingman here, aren't we? We're looking at 1-1-1-1-1. Okay, they couldn't get into the Guineas. A handicap winner, by the way, has just gone and won the St James's Palace. That's the year we're having. I know some good judges that were on that in the analysis department. They've all been really keen on that. So well done, boys. If you're watching, you'll be popping the corks now. Are you popping the corks at home? Are you having Royal Saturday at home? Send us your pictures. Let us know. We'll try and get them out there. We love to watch you. We love to know what you're doing out there. Hashtag RP Live, Facebook, YouTube. Let's get the numbers up. It's been great feedback. Proper celebration now, isn't it? Okay, we were on it.
Pressure's off now.
But the pressure's off now. Happy days. I must admit, I did. Well, I have to say, with the crossbar hitting that I've been doing, when Pinatubo came at him, I was like, here we go. But listen, if you're on Pinatubo, you're going to feel disappointed there. But he's shown himself to still be one of the top boys around, hasn't he? The others have just caught up.
Yeah, that's right, and we'll see what he does next. I think he'll go on and he'll be consistent, hopefully, and he'll do okay. I mean, they're not going to go up in trip. Are they going to? They're probably not. They'll just run him in a mile. They'll run him, where you'd expect him to.
We raised the decibels there, didn't we? But people will be doing that at home. That was the one race of the week, I think. The finish of the week, definitely 100%.
That's absolutely brilliant. That.
Have you got dents in your plaster ceiling? Let us know. We'd like to see it. And listen, we were raising the decibels. This is a fly on the wall, real-time, interactive show, Racing Post Live. Neil Hubbard, Yulea Pinatubo. How's the day looking then so far with the trading action?
Not too bad, is it? That's 3 from 4 for us.
Yeah, you're going
Three in a
well.
row. So we had Dark Lion, obviously more beautiful in the win bets have started off, so that didn't work. But Dark Lion to be placed worked, Sharing to be placed worked, and Alea Pinatubo. So 3 from 4. So
we're trying to get the time of it as well, guys. That race, yeah. Well done, Neil. That's 2 days now that Neil Hubbard has come on when Barry Orr's been elsewhere, and you have literally knocked it out the park. You called Barry Orr bloody genius yesterday. I mean, Neil's not too far behind him at all, is he?
No, very smart.
And do you know what?
Smart.
They're different characters. Okay, you've got Barry, more the salesman, if you like, but they're both steely punters.
Very much
one. You
so.
can't sway them, can you?
No.
I'm very much. I was thinking about this. I'm very much Ian Bell to Barry Orr's Kevin Peterson. I think is how I. He's a lot more brash than me, but yeah.
He's got a very dry sense of humour. Okay, so Neil, I can tell you that the winning time, guys, was Slow Boy 3.38. So yeah, there's definitely still juice underfoot there. I think that probably helped Pinatubo. Again, the debrief on these races are so important, aren't they? The quotes, we can't hear them at the moment in the studio, but you will get them first in your members section.
Sorry, if they wanted to have another bash with Arizona at something, they've obviously tried to make him into a miler, and he probably isn't. And it might just be that he hasn't trained on, but something like the July Cup with the fifth, sixth
I
furlong.
don't think that's the craziest thing out there.
And
I agree.
Aidan O'Brien has done that before with horses dropping back in trip.
US Navy flag.
But US Navy flag as well. And Arizona on quick ground over 6 furlongs. And if that doesn't work, then maybe he just hasn't trained on. But that would
He'd have to beat Threat, though, Neil. I think, if you were looking at a horse in that race to take out as a sprinter, it's Threat. He travelled fantastically, still right there a furlong out, but just ran out of gas up the hill there.
Just before we move on, because we've got another Group 1 for you coming up, it's the Diamond Jubilee. We're back on the sprinters, and this leads us nicely into it. Pinatubo, if they wanted to experiment with him, I don't think they're going to stretch him. If anything, he's just got outstayed there by Palace Pier. When, at the start of the season, when everything looked rosy for the year ahead and the COVID hasn't quite kicked in, the Everest at Randwick in, is it November or late October, the most valuable sprint anywhere on the planet, Godolphin got their slot. And do you know who they mentioned for it first? Pinatubo.
Did they really?
They did. They did, and all the Aussies were purring about it. Your son will know about that down in St Kilda.
Yeah.
So yeah, and maybe see if we can get the word on that, because that is a very, very interesting angle. The way he was in the bridle there, I wonder if they try and drop him back. What a sire he'd be, wouldn't he? If they could drop him back and nick a Group 1.
Breeders' Cup Mile's an obvious one for him as well, around a turn as well.
Interesting.
I'm claiming Randwick, where that takes place, as a track I've been to, but I have to admit it's in the most ludicrous circumstances.
Okay.
I was down in Sydney with a colleague, and we went for this great long walk from Bondi Beach down to Coogee.
How long ago?
Beautiful week, 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we went for this walk, and we had a few beers afterwards, and found this cricket match on an oval, and we just sat there and had this little barn, so we sat and had loads of beers. And on the way back, we had to get a bus back, and I didn't know, I just got the bus back to the central business district, and it just so happened that the bus went past this race course while a race was going on. We're going along on the top deck of the bus, and there's a race going on. And I looked, I was like, and then it said, "Welcome to Royal Randwick." So does that count? Have I been to Randwick on the back of that?
I'm going to say you have. Do you know what? A Randwick fact. I used to do the track announcing there.
Did you?
In 2000, 2001. It's one of the things that got me into horse racing, believe it or not. It's one of these little known facts. I was a professional percussionist at the time, and I went to Australia with a band, quite a well-known band. I won't go into it. And
who? You could be like Dave Brent here and say, well, we supported Texas.
It was Basement Jacks, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was, yeah, which is, I don't know if you know who they are out there. Listen,
you
all
were the
my
drummer.
mates and my family will be going, oh, he's managed to get that
You were the drummer on Basement Jacks?
I was the original percussionist of Basement Jacks, yeah, and I left it to go into horse racing, would you believe? Yeah. No, that's a true fact. That's a true
that is.
I can't believe I've got into this. It's been a long week.
That is actually not the only Racing Post music link.
Go on.
We've got a brilliant customer service team, as you know, down in Newbury, and it's headed up by a guy called Will Pepper, a lovely, patient fellow who used to play bass for St Etienne.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was on Top of the Pops twice.
All that time I spent in that Compton office with Will Pepper, I didn't know that in Newbury.
That's amazing.
I didn't know that. St Etienne, a good band, Basement Jacksy like. But I was with a chippy, basically, a carpenter. We were travelling around. The guys went off. I stayed to sort of travel around, basically, see what it offered. And he started working. He needed the cash. And some of the guys I bumped into, they were responsible for doing all the... And they said, we love the English accent, mate. Would you mind coming down? And I used to call them on. And I think... I saw Lonhro make his debut there and things like that. So listen, that was a different moon ago.
God, your Randwick story's blown my one completely out the water.
But I can say you have been. It's in a weird position, isn't it, in Sydney? Have you been to Royal Randwick? Let us know. Will Pinatubo.
It's got that gorgeous old grandstand, hasn't it?
A beautiful, beautiful track. And they do so many things that we could learn from down there. 72-hour decks, we've had that. That's Australian, isn't it? We're going back to 48-hour decks. We're going back to normal next week, but not for now. We're ramping it up. The speedsters, Will Pinatubo be joining these guys down the line. The Diamond Jubilee at 3:35. So what are we on now? Around about 15 minutes away. Beautiful. We're really getting going here. RP Live is the hashtag. Comment on YouTube. Comment on Facebook. We're picking them up, the social comments. Dan the Man 1 2 3 4 5. You've been with us all week, haven't you? It's nice how you get these little people that sort of, I say little people, these names that follow you and everything like that through the week. It's nice, isn't it? You see it on some of the racing channels. They give them a mention. Nothing like they used to, but it's a chance for people to have their voice, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's great to have people along with us this week. Hopefully, we're trying to do something a bit different. It's a complimentary service. You can watch the other channels if you want and hear us prattling away.
Yes.
I am, however, I've spent the last 30 seconds Googling Basement Jacks.
Yeah.
There's no sign of you anywhere.
No, there isn't.
Felix Buxton and Simon Ratcliffe.
Yeah,
There's only two of them.
They were DJs. And, and I did the first ever gig I did with them was a place called The Crypt, which is opposite the Fridge in Brixton. It's underneath the church. And they were very, very clever guys. They're basically not musicians, they're DJs. And they used to play all their record. I can't believe I'm telling this story. My wife's watching this. She's going to be like, no, don't indulge him, don't indulge him. And I think, actually, there are some cruel friends of mine out there that are like, how's your career going, Dave? Because Basement Jacks are doing all right, aren't they? You know, I think it was a New Year's Eve gig that I decided to part ways with them. It wasn't actually in Australia. So it was the gig. You know, you have these sliding door moments. There is a Dave Orton out there somewhere who is still playing percussion on these world tours and all that sort of
when
stuff.
When you say the percussion, do you mean the triangle?
The horn was actually all the bongos and all that sort of stuff.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so if you want to hire me as a bongo player, sorry, you've missed your boat. Okay, let's get on to the Diamond Jubilee then. Let's have a little look at it.
The oddest segue of all time.
I know, exactly. It has been a long week. Actually, some of my friends said to me last night, you know what I love about your show, Dave? You and Bruce and Neil and Barry and everyone. It's genuinely like you're just sitting down in front room or in the pub or something like that. We've got a pint on the go. We don't know where you're going to go. Sorry, that was to the market, guys. Sorry. We don't know where we're going to go. Let's go back to the market. Is sceptical, that's how we can say it, Neil Hubbard, clinging on to favouritism.
Yeah, pretty solid at the top of the market at 4, so that's 3-1. Drifting ever so slightly sort of in the lead up, but now he's sort of been nipped back in again. So he was 4.5 this morning. So he was a 7-2 shot and now into 3-1. Hello Youmzain 5.9, One Master 7.2. She's weak, but that'll probably be on account of the ground. Dreamer Dreams, who was just touched off in this last year, 10. Cardem, who won the Stewards Cup, 8.4. Speaking colours, a little bit of money. I mean, the outsider here, Breathtaking Look, is only 30. So it has a pretty sort of condensed look to it, the market. But yeah, Sceptical is still the favourite at the minute.
Breathtaking Look is interesting, actually, for Andrea Azzini and Stuart Williams. She won the group, I think it was a group race at Doncaster last year, where she kind of looked like she nicked it and bossed it. But I said she's got to prove she's a group filly. But she did that in the Abernant behind Oxford, who doesn't turn up here for Roger Teal, of course. Sceptical, would this be one of the greatest bargains of all time? I mean, it already sort of is, isn't it?
No question.
$2.5 grand, didn't make the track for Godolphin, is a son of Jealous Again, who won the Queen Mary here for Wes Ward. Was that Wes's first ever Royal Ascot winner? I've got a feeling it was, when they just came and blew them all away. Looked like Godzilla in the paddock up against My Little Pony, didn't it? And just came and did it. So, look, the breeding is there. What do you make of it?
But yeah, I mean, just to fill people in, so basically this was a Godolphin horse, wasn't it?
They have loads of cast-offs, don't they?
Yeah, they have a load of cast-offs, and they put them through a fairly low-key sale, and people go in there and hope to snap up a bargain. And generally, you know, you're playing for small stakes, aren't you? You're buying them fairly cheaply because Godolphin aren't that fussed about, you know, they're not putting flashy reserves on them, are they? So
no.
So they've gone out there and they've paid $2.5 grand for this horse. You know, you can barely get a saddle for £2.5 grand, never mind a horse to put it on.
Yeah.
And this thing has absolutely been transformed, and it's just phenomenal.
Dennis Hogan, the trainer, he's got a couple of these, isn't he? What's the horse? Is it Make Believe? The horse that runs in the last today at Navan. I'll get to that. And Make a Challenge, of course, who ran on Champions Day. He can pick up these horses. I remember Dave Jennings once said years ago to me, when he first came onto the scene, and Patrick Mullins backed this up as well, one of the shrewdest men in Irish racing is Den Hogan. And this guy's been winning at Dundalk. Don't let that put you off. Polytrack horses, to Peter horses. Another Newcastle winner, Palace Pier, comes to the party. Newcastle have been having such a good week with their winners, haven't they? And having looked like he was drifting out, Neil Hubbard, 3-1 looks under pressure to me now.
Yeah, he's very, very solid at 3-1, but he is darting just under that as well. Hello Youmzain is really solid as well, around 6. One Master sort of nibbled back a little bit. I think she's stabilised around that price as well, because she has got form on quick ground as well. I just think her best form is on slightly softer ground. But as we've said before with the ground here today, there's pretty much no excuses ground. There's still a little bit of juice in it, which would probably be okay for her.
Where are you playing, Neil?
I'm going to play One Master. I really like her. I think she's a really top class animal. And as I say, she won a Prix de Forêt on good ground. She was third in a Queen Anne on quick ground. So whilst her absolute top-notch form potentially is on slightly softer ground, this potentially isn't, a top class Diamond Jubilee. So I think she can definitely make her presence felt and get involved. So I want to back her in both the win and place market. So yeah, we'll take the 6-1. So there, and we'll have £25 on her to win.
Come on, 25?
Yeah,
come
on.
on.
Come on,
It's for charity, don't forget. Just a reminder about the charity, guys. Barry put it out there. We're going to put it up for the COVID, like the Buckingham Palace handicap. Do you remember that? The Britannia, sorry. They put the profits to that. And I think we can happily say we knew it would happen. We are in profits.
Yeah, come on.
I'm going to split my 50 across 25 win and 25 place.
Is that all Barry's allowed you to spend, 50?
Responsible gambling.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, I get that, but it is for charity.
And we are rolling it up a bit. That's the one thing we can say.
Okay, no, come on. No, responsible gambling, I agree. £25 at 7, which is 6-1. And we've actually, because I prevaricated there, we've got 7.2. So we're going for the
tactics worked out.
Are we going for the if we hadn't had the Basement Jacks conversation, you would have taken 5. Right, classic place, 3 places.
Yeah, just the classic 3 to be placed.
And how much here? 25 again?
Yeah, and 25 here as well.
At 2.3, place bet confirm. And there you can see, again, if you have a place bet, just to explain to people who aren't necessarily familiar, you can see where my cursor is circulating. Neil, the green figure is what we would win if it was placed, and the red figure is what we would lose if, she wasn't placed. So 32.50. If she hits the front 3 and 25, if she doesn't, there you go, back to the win market. And Sceptical has nudged under the 3-1 barrier.
I've had a couple of messages come through. One from the wife saying, "Look, you're just going to have to point people towards your Facebook page." I'm really reluctant to do this actually. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll probably find me there. I'll have now like 100 friend requests going on. I'm trying to keep a lower profile. I'm not on Twitter, as you well know. There is a video of me actually doing a DJ set with them, playing all the cowbells and all that sort of stuff. So look, she was like, "No one's going to believe you madman." I can't believe that Bruce got out of the other message I had was from Stephen Edwards, who I maintain in the analysis department. Sorry, other guys. He's the shrewdy. He's just Palace Pier equals horse and in capital letters. I think that's got him a bit excited as well. So listen, an endorsement from the racing world. Where are we playing here, Bruce? Who have you put up?
I've gone for Hello Youmzain. I think if you take out the last run, when probably had enough for last season.
Big time.
I just think that this horse has got the form. I've put it up as a win bet, but I think it's a rock solid place.
I like him.
3 places.
I put him in my 10 to follow, and I've not gone for him here. And that has been a precursor for a lot of my punting this week. I've jumped off horses and they've kind of gone in. Not so much as Paul Keeley, by the way. The Cliff horse has been referenced so much this week. It's quite unbelievable. I'm definitely want to keep Hello Youmzain on side, and I have done. You're right about what you say, Bruce. At Champions Day, I was there, and you just got the feel in the ground. Even though he has got soft ground form,
he does, yeah.
It was brutal ground, that was, and he went just too hard. He got taken on the far side, and Kevin Stott. I think we have to forgive that run. I've gone for Cardem. who is the talking horse from Charlie Hills, as you remember in the Stewards Cup last year, absolutely blew them away. And it was a performance at Newbury where the form stacks up very strongly indeed. And I've been referencing a little bit earlier in the week when we've been looking ahead for horses. He was around about 16s at the start of the week, maybe going into the weekend. He's now halved in price. Charlie Hills trains Muharat for Hamdan Al-Maktoum, one of the best sprinters I've seen. Remember, he loved Ascot, didn't he?
He was brilliant.
Commonwealth Cup
He won
winner.
the first Commonwealth Cup,
He did, that's right, 25 to 1, because they tried to make him into a Guineas horse that year when the 3-year-olds were just absolutely on fire. Perhaps the last year, actually, when they were all on fire. And he's obviously got Patash as well. And he said, I've never been so excited about a horse. OK, let's see what Paul Keeley, does he back it up?
Sceptical has been favourite for the Diamond Jubilee ever since Frankie Dettori was booked, but that is the only reason he's favourite. Yes, he's been impressive, but he hasn't beaten a single horse of Group 1 calibre, and now he's going in against plenty, even if the sprinters aren't really that good. I like the chances of Shine So Bright coming back from sprinting. He was a 7-furlong horse last year who goes seriously well fresh. He won first time out of 2, he won first time out of 3 when he gave weight and beating to Space Traveller, who won the Jersey Stakes next time out. He also won after a break in the City of York Stakes at York in August, where he beat Lawrence, a multiple Group 1 winner, and he had Kate Byron back in 3rd and Speaking Colours 4th. Now, those two won Group 3 races over 6 furlongs next time out, but after 3 furlongs, they couldn't keep up with Shine So Bright, who went so fast. He looks like a sprinter, and he can prove it on this drop back down in trip on a stiff track.
Doesn't like the market leaders thing, Keels. He's gone for Shine So Bright. It's just one of the, again, another horse that I've done some dough on in the past. Good to see Sylvester. Good to see SDS have a winner, wasn't it?
It was indeed, Joe. I think he's a great jockey.
He comes in for a lot of stick at these big meetings, doesn't he? People saying, why is he not on the Group 1s?
Not for me. I think he's brilliant. And I think Shine So Bright, now that one's price begins with a 2, is backable. But there's another one to whom that description applies. And I know David Jennings, our colleague, is very sweet. And it's the old Tin Man. Oh. Because I tell you what, I make this race. You know when you get a hard race and you just don't fancy it? Sometimes you don't fancy it because you just don't like the horses, or you can't get a hand on it. Yeah. This is a hard race, but it's one of those races that it's hard because you can actually fancy too many horses in
Absolutely.
this. If that makes sense.
But like a Wokingham like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
We know these horses very, very well. Unlike the St James's Palaces, unlike the Coronation, we've got these are hardened sprinters. It's a case of taking a view, isn't it? That's what
my view is that this isn't a great race, okay? I mean, you look at last year, Blue Point, and you know,
internationals.
All the great horses that have come over here down the Ishwazir, etc. There's nothing like that here. And he's 8. He's obviously knocking on. He's hopelessly exposed. We all know what we're going to get. But what we are going to get, that's a good thing in a way, because we are going to get a horse that's going to do his running, likes it here, a tiny little bit of cut, that uphill finish. I think the Tin Man, and there's a 4-place option here. Let's just see what the Tin Man is with 4 places.
Can we get the market up, guys?
There you go. He's on my screen. He's 3.55. So I could back the Tin Man at better than 5 to 2. And what I'm saying there is that for me to lose, 4 of these horses have got to beat him. 4 of his 9 opponents have got to beat him. I'm not sure that's going to happen. So I'm having a speculative win bet on the Tin Man and a slightly bigger bet there. Are you endorsing that, or do you think I'm just showing blind faith to a horse whose best days are behind him?
No, I think you've summed it up quite well, because I think that you can't knock him out. He absolutely loves the gaff, doesn't he? And it's not the strongest Diamond Jubilee. Had the Aussie Raiders have come up, if you like, and we'd have had the internationals, then I would be saying, a 5 market.
But this is Group 1.5, isn't it? This
absolutely. And Oisin Murphy gets on really, really well with him. I remember when he won this race, was it 2016? I had a good bet on him that day. Yeah, it was 2000. It was 2017. Sorry, yeah. Let's look back at some of the winners in this. Then, as you quite rightly mentioned, the brilliant Blue Point, probably the highlight performance last year, wasn't it?
Definitely, it was brilliant.
The massive double Black Caviar. Talking about what a dramatic race
that was one of the maddest things ever.
Can you remember what finished second to it?
Oh my goodness me! Come on, no, I've no chance.
Moonlight Cloud.
Okay, yeah.
Who turned out to be a top notcher, didn't she? Massive price.
I watched that with a load of colleagues right down on the grass between the stands and the course, and everyone was craning their neck. It was a huge crowd down there, and it was mad because as they scorched past us, the horse was absolutely cantering.
Luke Nolan
just couldn't win, just couldn't lose, and then all of a sudden, I turned away to go to the winners' enclosure, and everyone's like, whoa, 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 and you look back on the big screen. It was absolutely memorable.
He nearly shot Bambi's mother, didn't he?
Astonishing.
He completely misjudged the winning post, and he'd somehow, the horse was just so brilliant that she got away with it. And Peter Moody, her trainer, was now back training in Australia as well. But there's an air of Frankel about her, obviously, wasn't there? And the jockey never really recovered from the whole career. Tom Quealy, we're forever associated with Frankel. It was amazing last year. Didn't he go something like 100 rides without a winner or something? Something insane, wasn't it, Tom Quealy out there? And again, well, obviously Sir Henry Cecil, but Peter Moody, it took him a long time to recover from the brilliance of that. So we have had some brilliant winners. What about Dream of Dreams? Second in this last year, nearly would have touched off Blue Point. I saw Mikey Holding on Sky this morning, Stoutie's great friend, and he was suggesting that this is ready to run a big race, all 9.
Well, this is another one that falls into that category of horses that have done stuff in the past that really endears itself to you, and you like, but you can't back them all. And I just thought, I don't know, the form after that wasn't great, so it's got to prove it's recovered its form. Sceptical, I'm looking on the show.
It's bundles for it,
2-1.
Yeah, wow,
What's that all about? There must be Frankie Ackers happening here, isn't there, Neil?
Yeah, there could well be. What's he got? He had Campanella, didn't he?
He's had Campanella
and Palace Pier.
He's had 3 winners.
So the treble's on, yes.
No, he's had 3.
He's had the last 3 winners. No, sorry, he's had 3 of the last 4, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Whoa. He's had 3 of the last 4, yeah.
So that's what's happening here, isn't it?
Whoa.
So they're all smashing this up. But
this is Gold Cup day again.
But what's not happening, and this is what goes on here, when you get these accumulators, the traditional odds, the traditional fixed odds bookmakers have to run for cover, and they have to do what they can to shorten the horse's price.
Turgenev
but that's not
last
really
year.
getting reflected on the exchange. So, is Sceptical as strong as he is in the market because Frankie happens to have won the first 3? The answer is probably yes. I don't think it reflects confidence in Sceptical. It might be that this makes him an interesting lay.
Often the exchange, Neil, really tells the truth. Well, always it tells the truth tale, doesn't it? But he looks pretty solid to me still. He looked like he was going out to 7-2 this morning, having been as short as 5-2 earlier in the week. This is the story horse of the week, without question. He still looks pretty solid to me.
Yeah, he was sort of 7-2 this morning, but the majority of the volume that has been matched on him, of which there's just been, so there's 2.1 million that's been matched on the race so far, and 1.1 of it is all about Sceptical. But it's all been done at prices at around 3-1, which is pretty much what he is right now. So he's been pretty solid at that price, all day really. Hello Yumzane is pretty solid in there as well. He's just come in a bit from around 6 into 3.5. Cardem is actually, there's a bit of money for him. He's into single figure prices now. He's an interesting one actually, because he won the Stewards Cup and then he ran in 2 Group 1s after that. He ran in the Betfair Sprint Cup up at Haydock and then the Champions Sprint. In one of them he was sent off favourite, and then in the next one he was sent off at 50-1.
The ground was all wrong for him,
which is a bit of a quirk. But yeah, I think now the ground has dried out. He must have a massive chance here. And Keely's tip, Shine So Bright, very good as well. And Speaking Colours, I think, as Bruce was saying, like he put the Tin Man up there. I think the Tin Man, Shine So Bright, Speaking Colours, all of those are around similar sort of prices, albeit Shine So Bright's on the drift a bit. You can all give them a squeak, running into a place at the very least.
Shine So Bright is actually the outsider of the field now, which I find extraordinary. Breathtaking look down the bottom there is actually coming in for Stuart Williams. You mentioned that one earlier on, didn't you? And Sands of Marley, okay. Now this is horse, well, you have to touch on him because Fahi's always really rated this horse, and on his best form, he's really, really good. I mean,
Harry Angel, didn't he?
Exactly. He's run against some horses that are a good bit better than these in the past. Now, he's 5, so he's not completely gone at the game. The fact that his price is holding up, you could take as a little bit of a positive.
Second in the Commonwealth Cup, beat Harry Angel later that year on the Champions weekend. It hasn't really gone his way since, but this is only actually amazingly his 5th run since 2018.
Yeah, Breathtaking looks really interesting here. Been matched at a high of 44 and is now into 17.
For one of the shrewdest men I've ever met, Stuart Williams.
Well, she ran really well behind Oxted, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
I mentioned her at the top of this feature.
And they were miles clear of the 3rd as well, I think.
She's a whopper. She's a really, really big sort. And I just, like I say, she's a pace angle in the race, as Bruce says. Sansa Marley is as well. I think Tom Segal's put up Speaking Colours, hasn't he? I seem to remember.
Yeah.
I think he's gone for that.
Keels has gone for Shine So Bright. This is honestly a race where I think whatever wins it, you'd kind of think, do you know what, I could have had that. I can't put a line through any of these. The one I'm keenest to oppose, just at the prices, is Sceptical. I really am. I just think that, you know, he's up against a load of, not necessarily out and out Group 1 performance, but he's going to have to be really, really good to beat all these. And the form's there, but it hasn't really given him a huge ratings edge, has it?
Well, amazingly, he got a figure of 115 for beating a 68 horse, albeit giving it tons of weight on his penultimate start. He's a 5 and 6 furlong horse. He can go. This purpose, I'm sure, will be absolutely fine. The one thing that he does in his races, he travels like an absolute dream. So at some stage in the race, I'm pretty sure he probably will dip under that.
Just an interesting one, just to nip back to the Coronation Stakes very quickly. That was the first time Frankie had won the race, which means there's now only one British Group 1 race that he hasn't won.
I'm going to go, is it a sprint?
It is.
I'm going to say...
Is it Nunthorpe?
It's not the Nunthorpe.
It's not the...
Sprint Cup?
No.
Neil
We're
Stubbs.
running out of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the July Cup. Is the only British
never
Group
won
1
the
race
July
he hasn't
Cup?
won.
Wow.
No.
That's
remarkable.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's especially
good
considering
quiz
who
question, that.
who he's run for. All
Do
right.
we think there's a draw angle here, guys?
Stat pack quickly, guys.
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
being told
yeah.
we must do a stat pack. They're going in. Right, then there's your stat packs. Then we're pretty close to the off here. We've gone really close. Dream of Dreams going in, Bruce. And hello, Zane, your pick as well. Fast and Furious, Diamond Jubilee.
6 furlongs. It's the last group race of this brilliant Royal Ascot, and away they go. Hello, Zane in the black and yellow is away like a bullet.
Yeah.
Out on his right is Sands of Mali going nicely early on. Also, Breathtaking Look is up there. In the bright colours, Sceptical is nicely settled in 4th outside the grey, which is Shine So Bright. But on the far, they've split into 3 groups here. So we've got Sands of Mali going out alone down the far side. Ben Curtis fancies that bit of ground. On the near side, we've got Breathtaking Look, who's leading Carden. And then they're all coming over. So we've just got Sands of Mali testing that far side trip. That would be amazing if that works for him. But if we assume until we hear otherwise the action's on the near side,
Carden,
Breathtaking Look is just about in front, but he's probably just about getting swallowed up
Carden.
now. Hello, Zane. Sceptical's there.
cruising.
Cardame's work going well as well. Trying to get
Come
onto
on,
the premises. His Dream of Dreams. Sands of Mali not gone away on the far side. Sceptical now from Hello, Zane. Sceptical takes it up.
Frankie.
Sceptical from Hello, Zane. Here comes Dream of Dreams.
Come on,
Can he get there in time? It's Hello, Zane trying to come back at Sceptical. Sceptical and Frankie. Can they land it? It's neck and 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 neck. Hello, Zane.
Whoa, Bruce Millington, a quick fire double. Hello, Zane. Solid in the market, but loads of tips has jumped off him, including me, Kevin Ryan. Whoa, the pressure has gone right off his shoulders. What a race that was. Another neck and neck finish, as you quite rightly said. Got a feel for Dream of Dreams. Touched off in the race just again by the narrows to margins.
Let's just tidy up the order. Hello, Zane has just held on from Dream of Dreams, who was thrusting late. Sceptical's run a great race to be 3rd, beaten half a length. On the inside in 4th is Cardem. Coming up in 5th is Speaking Colours, and following that one home is One Master. What a race.
So much to talk about in that race. Near side again, and that's because Breathtaking Look under Andrea Azzini and Cardem went faster than the other group. So Hello Zane has covered a lot of the track there, and he's really shown something that he's not yet done in his career, and that is exactly how to battle. When he won the Sprint Cup, it was on heavy ground and he got the run on them. He got an easy lead and they just couldn't peg him back. I felt certain he was going to fall in the hole. I'm loving that performance all the way. Sceptical with Frankie Dettori comes there. Cardem was the strongest traveller, last off the bridle by a long way. He probably just pressed the button a bit too soon, but Breathtaking Look fell in his lap. He didn't have much of a choice. Dream of Dreams has absolutely rocketed. One Master, the ground against her. She's run well. Speaking colours, Tom Segal's pick has not disgraced himself, and the Tin Man just lapped the legs.
What's the in-running story there? How short did Sceptical get there, Neil?
Hit 1.13.
Wow.
So 8 to 1 on.
You did say
Hello,
come cruise.
I mean,
Hello, Youmzain was hit a high of 34. Dream of Dreams, did pretty much what he did last year, but he was never that low in the market, 3.25. Interest in Sanzamali, just to see what the market made of that. He hit a low of 6.4 when he was over there. So the market was obviously a bit unsure about how big they should leave him, and he was backed into 6.4 in running, but ultimately he was probably in the wrong place.
Very kind of the jockeys, very kind of Ben Curtis to let the jockeys in the Wokingham know not to go down that side. But man, this was a fascinating race, this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good grief.
I think if you're leading Sanzamali early, you're going really, really quick. So if you think about, the sectionalistas will now be going absolutely mad because he pinged out like an absolute bullet, didn't he? And we've seen all week it's not very easy to maintain that. For me, the gutsiest performance of the week, it's hard to remember, maybe Circus Maximus, I suppose, was up there as well. But that is so gutsy. Looking good in my 10 to follow now. Bruce, you put him up there. He's just one of these horses, isn't he, that it's easy to say that it gives his all. Was he top rated in the race? I'm going to look down. He was as well, so handicapper will be happy.
And Racing Post ratings, which is an essential service, I swear by them. They've had the forecast there because the two with the black figure, which indicates highest, are Hello Youmzain and Dream of Dreams. Kevin Stott with a Royal Ascot winner. How about that?
Fantastic. Yes, we've seen some ducks broken, haven't we? There you go. Then there's your result. Hello Youmzain, 4-1. The original anti-post favourite for this. Dream of Dreams. Izzy Buchanan, he was just in front of
God, he would have won 2 more strides. He would have won.
Unbelievable. And Kevin Stott, absolutely.
He's given that the big one, and you've got to be delighted for him there, haven't you? That's really good. He even sponsors himself. Look at his breeches. He's sponsored by K Stott.
And you know what? It's so. This horse was purchased off Jabber Abdullah, wasn't it, by Hamas Stud, and they're carrying those colours, and of course there's an Emirates influence in there as well. But
a lot of emotion there.
To
in
not
Kevin
go
Stott
for one of the
there.
big race jockeys is a brave move from Kevin.
He's
Ryan.
in tears. He's been led back in tears. This is what it's all about. That's fantastic. And obviously, he'd love to have 60,000 people cheering him on, but that's brilliant.
Oh, okay. So. Bruce, apparently there's a slight issue with your mic. Don't worry, we'll get the guys in. Listen, hello Youmzain there. Neil Hubbard, I'm going to come to you. We've been talking about the July Cup. Golden Horn won the Commonwealth Cup yesterday, the 3-year-old, who will be getting weight off this, guys. He was 3-1 when Barry Orr came to me yesterday. We went, not sure about 3-1. We then saw a performance earlier in the day. We thought maybe a 2-year-old might come up, maybe something like that in the sprint ranks. None thought later on, things like this. Has it had a ripple on the July Cup market?
Just waiting for prices to come through at this stage. Interesting, they didn't run in it last. Oh, here we are. Yeah, he's 6 from 12 for the July Cup. Hello Youmzain. He didn't run in it last year, did he?
No.
I don't know if that was them. They wouldn't have been avoiding really quick ground with him.
Well, this has now dispelled the myth that, again, they do think he likes a bit of juice in the ground. This has dispelled the myth that he's a Haydock horse, hasn't it? I know he's got the Ascot form, but I think that I can see the July course really playing into his hands.
It's another one for Kodiak, who had Campanella and Nando Parado.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 on the day.
The 150-1 shot, as you can hear, the Bruce's mic's been scrambled about. Don't worry, we'll get that fixed for you. We need our big race commentator. He's also on a treble going into the Wokingham. Couldn't possibly pull it off, could he? We'll get to the tip sooner or later. Perhaps a fitting moment to just take a slight pause and to remind you, this is Dave Orton here on Racing Post Live in conjunction with the Betfair Exchange. Today couldn't have been much better for me so far. Bruce Millington, can we hear you?
I don't know. Can we?
Can we hear him? Can
Are
everyone
we back?
out there hear Bruce?
How are we doing,
I'm
lads?
being told that I think that's a yes, isn't it? Yeah, all good.
Basically what happened there was, when you're an F1 car and you go in for tyres and they change your tyres in about 2 seconds. That was the batteries, but then they realised that there was something else wrong. So it was like the nose cone had gone. But anyway, it was very quick work by the pit crew, and I'm back.
Great pit crew, Rob Lee.
Or something.
He looks a lot slower than he actually is, let me tell you. And so Neil Hubbard from Betfair. Neil, what was the story of that? How did we play? Remind me how you played. You went for master.
We bet one master winning place, and I think she probably got about 5th in the end. I think so. We just missed the places there. The ground probably was just a little bit too quick for her.
Yeah,
but she ran okay. She ran fine. And there'll be other days for her later in the season, I imagine.
She finished ahead of Hello Youmzain, of course, on Champions Day, but that was when she had her deep ground. So William Aggis Oh, maybe a quick mention for the yard. They've hit another, like me, crossbar.
Absolutely.
That was their chance.
I think they've had 5 seconds.
They will be bemoaning the clouds. You can't really do it, can you? But a Dave, do you remember that? And it's just the ground.
Not quite enough rain.
Not quite enough.
If that
rain.
race had been 2 days later, it probably would have won.
Yeah.
Well, is that...
No. I think I think of all the performances, if I wanted to take 10 horses out of it, a Dave would be on my radar. I love the way that he ran in that. We've seen on the round course as well, haven't we? Anything that attacks has not managed to get home. And he still ran an absolute belter in the Prince of Wales. Proved himself a proper Group 1 horse. I'd be happy with him going forward. And one master, I think, there as well. It's been a frustrating week for William Magish. James Doyle's had a good week, hasn't he? 3 winners on the board?
Yeah.
I think it is. So let's just remind ourselves of the jockey rankings now. Is Jim in second place? No, there's Frankie.
That's 6 all. Because Sceptical didn't win that, I'm pretty sure it's 6 all. And let's see who they ride in the Wokingham.
Yeah, good shout. Our next race.
Blimey, there's that many of them, isn't there? Who's Frankie got?
There is.
I don't know if
He hasn't got a ride, has he?
Oh.
Mind you. And who's Crowley got?
Mugtacker was a non-runner.
Even Jim Crowley, I don't know.
Oh, no, because
they're
Crowley
both
was
out.
supposed to be on the thing that Stouty pulled out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no! So hang on a minute. That means Queen Alexandra. Hang on a minute. I think Jim was supposed to be riding Mekong in
Jim's
that.
on
Jim's on Fun Mac.
Okay, all
And
right.
Frankie's done now.
Frankie's done.
Frankie's
Oh,
done, so
my
it's
goodness.
a dead heat unless Fun Mac, who's a 10-1 shot
So-
roughly, can get the job done.
So Ascot joins Cheltenham, and we had Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins. It was countbacks. Willie Mullins got it on the countback, didn't he? So, oh goodness gracious me, who'd have thunk it? And at that point, Jim Crowley, a furlong out on Cardem there, must have thought, I'm back, 7th winner of the week. Whatever happens, the countbacks will be there. You have to probably think that Frankie might just about nick it. I mean, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard, but Frankie's probably has had
He must have done, mustn't he? Yeah.
Good few places, I think. Hard luck, Jim, if that's the case. What a week it has been for all of you. What a week it's been for all of us as well. So we're moving on then from that sizzling Diamond Jubilee. We had the sizzling St James's Palace. And we were talking earlier, Bruce, about performances bar Stradivarius of the week. Palace Pier, obviously, you've got to give it. He's near star performer today, isn't he? I think, if not the. But the more I think back about that Alpine Star, I just saw a little replay of it earlier on the screen. She took a lot of pulling up, you know.
Do you know
I think
what?
Frankie's his comments you're going to read on the Racing Post website, I think they're going to be really bullish.
Dave, this card, the way that they've reframed it with those 3 Group 1s, we were hoping for something special, weren't we? But that last hour and a quarter of racing has just been mind-blowing,
Can you
brilliant,
remember a better
hasn't it?
Saturday card than this?
I'm struggling
At one race course.
I'm struggling to, but that hour and a half, how good has that been? You know, Alpine Star was superb. Then you had the thriller in the St James's Palace, and then that was a fantastic sprint as well. It's just been brilliant. It's been so damn good. I've loved it. And, you know, you would love there to have been tens of thousands of people there cheering them home to add the atmosphere. But you know what? Royal Ascot have put on, Ascot Racecourse has put on such a great show. And they didn't have to. Everyone was cancelling stuff, left, right and centre. Stuff taking place in July and August and September.
They sat quietly,
but
didn't they?
They sat quietly and they said, no, we're going to go ahead. And they could easily not have done. But the fact they've done it, they've given racing fans and they've given the sport the most brilliant show to a worldwide audience. It's meant that the sport's prosperity is rescued to an extent because there's so much betting turnover, and that equates to prize money and to, you know, which is the lifeblood of the sport. It's been a week, in fact, it's been 3 weeks, where racing can look back and be so proud of itself.
Passionate views, Bruce, and a word for Nick Rust as well in the BHA, who just when it was looking like it was getting really, really tricky for them. Lee Mottershead did a great piece during lockdown saying, unlike the French government, who got some principality involved, and Macron, their president, he was like, I'm not for racing at all. And the higher power came in and said, we must have racing, and they went and did it. Paris back in the green zone, by the way. We should say that's a Longchamp and Auteuil back next week. Great news. Our government's very different to that, isn't it? They're rather sensitive, if you like, in comparison. And the BHA just sat very quietly. And Lee Motter said, hinted without saying they could have played an absolute blind here. Everyone, quite rightly so, you can understand in the industry saying we should. Why can't we race? But at the same time, they've waited, and they have come back with an absolute bang. Nick Rust, take a bow.
Well, exactly, and I mean, you know, those people calling for him to go. Well, I mean, imagine, you know, what's he done wrong? He's done nothing wrong. Now, to be fair, normally this would produce a massive squabble. Racing can have a fight with itself in a phone box,
absolutely.
you know. And I know that Rafe Beckett and Mark Johnson didn't cover themselves in glory by calling for Russ to go. They felt that because he's serving his notice, he's not going to be as energised as he should have been. But Russ and Richard Wayman, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the BHA, who basically has tackled this huge task of producing a revamped fixture list that isn't just to give us top-end racing, but also to make sure those patient owners get as many chances and as many races as possible.
Yes.
And everyone, and the racing professionals, and the jockeys, and the trainers, and the stable staff, and the racecourses, they've all combined. Now, yes, there was a bit of a kerfuffle with Beckett and Johnson, but beyond that, really, it's been pretty harmonious. And so, like I say, I, as a racing fan, and as someone who works in racing, I'm very proud of the sport. I think it's absolutely superb. Let's get back to top jockey, because we can see on the screen, Frankie and Jim Crowley both locked together on 6. But on the all-important countback, Jim's only got 1, Frankie's got 4 seconds. And so that basically means that Crowley needs to win the last race to wrest top jockey back from Frankie Dettori. Ryan Moore's got 4, the Doyle's got 3, Murphy, Buick, Kirby 2. The cream rises to the top.
It does. I was just about to say there's no big shocks there, are there? And we said on Tuesday when we were in, and on Wednesday with yourself as well, we said it's looking likely, isn't it, that it's going to be the Ryan and Frankie head-to-head. So I'm delighted to see Jim Crowley up there.
Question for both of you. You've got a Group 1 performer, or Group 2, you've got a group class performer who's coming into the race, and you've got the choice of all the current jockeys. Who do you go for? And don't start all this, well, if it's a sprint, I like him, or if it's that. Come on, name the jockey.
It's hard not to say Frankie, isn't it? I think it is. But that's the obvious one. So I would say Oisin Murphy. If I had a horse, any sort of race, I think I'd be telling my agent or his agent, I need him on my horse.
How about you, Neil?
I think I'd go Frankie at the top table. I think his race reading, especially, on front runners and stuff like that, is probably still Frankie for me.
I think Frankie there, even though he was beaten on Sceptical, he's shown exactly why he's the top of the pops, isn't he? He can just ride anything, can't he?
He's given it the best possible chance, hasn't he?
Riding moment of the week, looking over his shoulder for where Technician was. It was like a jumps race.
Yeah.
It was like Dunwoody, it was
jockey
unbelievable.
there of Sceptical. Obviously, he's been ridden in his last 2 by Joey Sheridan, the £7 claimer, who obviously couldn't ride him here because £7 claimers, well, obviously because he couldn't travel across as well. But it would have been a big race for him to miss out on, considering he'd ridden him in his last 2. But yeah, just worth a shout out for him because he's done this steering on his previous 2 wins.
Yeah, he'll be looking on from afar. Like all the Irish jockeys, we're with you guys. Hopefully soon you'll be able to travel over and vice versa.
But Dave, I know that there's that initial bitter sting of defeat, but for £2,500, you get a horse that gets beat half a length in third in the Diamond Jubilee. It's not bad. It's still an astonishing buy, isn't it?
Money,
and they're going to have a ton of fun with this horse,
yeah,
aren't they?
absolutely. Let's hope that things get back to normal sooner or later. Prize money, not what it was, but still quite remarkable. Just had the time come through, 1 minute, 13:42 seconds. So that was slow. Best time of the day by quite some way, 1:02 seconds. Absolutely sizzling stuff. And listen, the sprint division now looking like it's starting to take shape again. What an absolute pleasure to be thinking about things like the Nunthorpe going forward, Breeders' Cup sprints, all this sort of thing. Absolutely brilliant. And just as you think it can't get any better, I bet the drama's about to ramp up here. What sort of reaction are we going to have in running to the Wokingham Stakes? The 4:10, about 15 minutes away. We've actually been catching up it's quite tricky, isn't it, sometimes when you've got all this time to talk about, but it's almost like we have not got enough time, is it, to talk about races? So we've got to move on. Here's your market. Kevin Ryan, all of a sudden going for a quick-fire double. Absolutely brilliant stuff. SDS, is this Art Power? Who yesterday absolutely took apart for King Power Racing, the same colours as Bielsa, whom they've bought in the closed season. A horse that likes some cut, but this should get away with this. He's drawn in stall 3. Could that be interesting? Neil Hubbard, what price would we expect him to go out to? He's held his price all day to my eye.
Yeah, he's been very solid. He was just shy of 6.0, so he's just shy of that this morning. So he's been very solid around the 9-2 mark. The low draw is an interesting one. There's a couple of single figure drawn horses that are on the slide a little bit after that last race, which seems a bit of an overreaction. Because I think what you did see in that last race, yes, Sansa Marley was well beaten, but it was where the pace was in the race, right? So we've seen today that when the pace has been centre, it's been fine to be up the centre. It's when everything has come over to the near side rail, like they did in the Silver Wokingham, and that's where you start to get your biases. So I mean, if the majority stay up the middle, then I don't think being drawn low is necessarily a bad thing. But with them being creatures of habit, whether they'll all make a beeline to the near side, we don't know, do we? But he is very solid at the top of the market.
I shall add some weight to that shortly, Neil. But let's go with this is the way, the order of things today. Quite rightly so. With Barry Orr as well. Why? Because you out there watching Neil Hubbard, he's successful. You want to have time to react to what he's doing. So let's get our trading out the way on Neil.
Yeah. So like the Britannia, we're going to Dutch 4 runners in this race. So what that means is back in all 4.
Hang on, whoa. Dutching is 2 runners, isn't it?
Can you as many as you want?
Can you?
Well, I must admit, I thought it was 2. Do you mean I would call it grouping? Wouldn't you?
Because I thought it was like going Dutch on a meal where you both
double Dutch.
Yeah.
Well, this is like if we let's just put them into the bet slip and
all right.
We'll see what we make it. So if
Oh,
we
that was
you've got
Neil
your
being
work
polite,
cut
saying,
out.
"Shut up and put my bets on." Go on.
So let's take Jonathan, then Spanish City, just below it.
Yeah.
Angel Alexander, just below that, and then excuse the pronunciation, but Arecibo is that?
Very good.
Yeah. There. And then if you go up to the stake box, Bruce, where it's in the blue writing just above at the top, type in 50.
Oh wow! I've never done this before.
And then that'll split your stake across all selections, so you don't have to work it out.
Oh,
So
I
regardless of
see.
what happens, you're going to win the same amount if one of those 4 win.
So it doesn't split your. You don't have the same amount on each, but you back it to win the same amount.
Yeah, exactly, and it does the calculations for you, so you don't have to worry about all of that. So if we can just confirm that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is advanced, isn't it?
But it's quite simple in terms of like you don't have to worry. You just choose what your liability is. In this case, is £50. And if you look at the red and green numbers on the market there, they should all be relatively the same for the green. For the horses that we want to be winning.
I can't see the numbers here. Here we are. It's all happened right. So let's go down here. They're slightly different, aren't they? Why have I got slightly more on Angel Alexander?
Just have moved a little bit.
Okay.
I think Angel Alexander was 18.5 when we put it onto the bet slip. But
Neil Hubbard's great, isn't he?
Right. So Neil, this is going to save me loads of time, right? So because what I like to do on a golf tournament on Betfair sometimes, if I think it's going to be wide open, I want to lay the whole field at 15. So to do that, could I just basically go in, select them all, and then put that stake box in, and it would evenly? No, it wouldn't do it, would it? No, because
you wouldn't do the odds. It'd do the stake.
Yeah.
You can do that for laying. You can put in what your liability is, and then it will spread it across all of the selections evenly.
Very
a bit
interesting.
like what we've done there.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thanks.
The
You
design
live and
team
learn.
at Betfair are thinking to themselves, we might be onto something.
Yeah.
The unflappable Neil Hubbard. We're always learning something new here about the Betfair exchange. We sort of promote that, but there's a classic example of it. I'll tell you what, you've been Scarlett Scahill and you've been Value Vorderman as well.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've been putting the bets on so far, and unlike the keyboard player from Sparks, I actually remember to do what I'm
Ross
told.
Briley, do you remember that? What was that the other day? It actually got us back in the game.
It was Battleground, and it worked for you, didn't it? Because you want to place lay.
Yeah.
You wanted to lay some back, and he forgot, so you won the lot.
He had an absolute touch, didn't he, with Ross Briley, probably putting some of his own bets on at the same time.
When it comes to betting, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Normally
you need a bit of luck
against you.
sometimes, don't you?
The unflappable Neil Hubbard there, showing exactly how he's going to play. And it's that sort of race, Bruce, isn't it? Where have you gone?
I've gone for a horse who, when I see big race handicaps and he's in them, I back him with a bookmaker offering as many extra places as possible, because he doesn't always win, but you can't get enough horses past him, and he's called Summergand.
Oh, I was going to try and have a guess at it. I would have gone for Spanish City, actually.
Well, Spanish City does fit that profile, but Summergand, I just love this horse. He was great in Dubai over the winter. Just wherever you stick him, he will run an honest race. And some bookmakers are going 6 places here, so I've backed Summergand each way. Not ultra confident about getting the lot in terms of the win, but I'd be amazed if 6 other horses beat. I wouldn't be amazed because it's 24 runners. But, I really like Summergand. He's a trustworthy horse. Tom Siegel's gone from, which is never a bad thing. He's solid third favourite. So it's a boring selection in so much as I haven't tried to suss one, a dark horse. But I'm comfortable with Summergand.
Drawn in the middle, and he's
drawn
going to
in the
run his
middle.
race.
Doyler in Summergand, we trust.
He massively deserves it. I remember charting the horse's career when he was younger, and I remember they ran him a lot on the all-weather one winter. And I don't know, I thought to myself, could this just be one of David O'Mara's special projects? And he's yet to really, this will be the biggest prize he's ever won if he gets this on top. But he's a 7-to-1 shot, a lot bigger earlier in the week because Tom Segal absolutely steamed into him. Where have I played? Let me remind myself of this before we go to Paul Keeley. Stone of Destiny. Oh, this is a horse. Andrew Balding, what a week he's had. What a season he is having so far. Oisin Murphy, Andrew Balding, straight away it shouldn't be a 2-to-1 shot, a 22-to-1 shot, sorry. Drawn in 4, that's the slight worry. I'll be open for plenty of pace over there. And going back just quickly to what Neil Hubbard said there, if you're drawn on the far side, it's all about the pace. What worries me, it's not so much a ground bias, it's the jockey bias, if you like. They might all want to get stand side, which means they will go faster on the stand side. So that's why if you're taking your medicine and keeping out there, you'll be like, I haven't got that leader that I really want. Stone of Destiny is a horse that, trust me, he doesn't often win. But this is exactly the sort of race that he might come good in. Oisin Murphy was the icing on the cake for me. I looked at the market leaders and thought, he's King Power's second string, if you like. Bielsa might well be a group horse waiting to happen. They've got Hello Youmzain, haven't they? And they're going for the quick double. They might well know he's well handicapped, but as it was drying,
he's drawn 3.
So again, they're right next to each other. So we'll look for the pace setters for you. Before that, let's go to Paul Keeley.
I backed Wokingham favourite Bielsa earlier in the week, but he's drawn in stall 3, and if the Silver Wokingham tells you that you still need to be on the stand side, then he's sure to drift. In any case, on the day with extra each way terms, I want to back a couple of bigger prices. I like the look of Lethal Lunch, who dropped back to 6 furlongs at Kempton when last seen and was a length second to Harry's Bar. James Fanshaw's Sprinter's a really progressive sort who's won against since and is £9 higher now. Off a £1 higher mark, Lethal Lunch must have a chance. He's got good form at 7 furlongs and he's won at this track. Mr. Lupton is the other one I like. He's just a good old-fashioned sprinter who's got really solid form at his best. That includes winning a Group 2 last year from Speaking Colours, who runs in the Diamond Jubilee. Now, Mr. Lupton has always gone well early in the season. He's won at least once in his first 3 starts. He was 6th off a mark of 106 in this race in 2018. He's off a couple of pounds lower now, has a £3 claimer on board, and if he puts his best foot forward, he's definitely well handicapped enough to win.
I'll tell you what, that sparked a bit of a raging debate between David Jennings earlier and Paul Keeley. Why? Because you're not tipping it again, Keels, are you? Said DJ. And this is one of those horses. Dark Vision, we've had it. Scarlet Dragon yesterday. Paul Keeley's on the Cliff hat-trick. He had to go for this, didn't he? He's extremely well handicapped. But, I mean, how many times do you think Paul Keeley has tipped this? Every time he's run?
Oh, he does, yeah. But, I mean, Paul and DJ, there's a reason why both their marriages are intact. They're the most loyal people based on the horses they like. Because once they back them, they never get off them. They can't leave them go. They're just the most loyal people of all time. I like the case for Mr. Lupton in a funny sort of way because I think he's just coming down the ratings. And I also think that with these handicaps now, you've got to be so good to get into it. They're so compressed that the only way you can really kind of not play about with the horse, but maybe have an edge is by, and we see this with these Cheltenham handicap hurdles as well, say Arctic Fire and Wicklow Brave and horses like that.
It makes you think of the jump
If you've got a decent horse, you can come down in the ratings and know you're still going to get in. But for everyone else, you're so desperate for the ratings to be high enough to get in. You can't really, I don't like to use the word mess about because it suggests, but there's not a lot of flexibility within the handicap.
You have to remember that the Wokingham is still open to 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
You can't get one in unless it's, you'll be running in group races, won't you?
Yeah.
Gone are the days of Jeremy Nacida getting 2 years in advance plotting this up for the Wokingham. And you're right, Bruce, absolutely right. Back class is what you're looking for with Mr. Lupton. Conor Murtagh claiming 3. Always like claiming jockeys in the sprint races. Let's just have a little look at his horse career. How many times has he run at Ascot?
Where do you stand on the... Oh, sorry, actually, one question we do need to ask Neil. He's back 4 in the race. What is his pecking order?
Ooh.
Probably Gulliver would probably be number 1. Angel Alexander, Spanish City, Arecibo.
Okay.
And so that's why I've also done, just personally, the old TriCast, just in case you land it.
You've got to do it, haven't you? Where do you stand on the Fav, Neil?
Quite like him. The one thing that niggles at me is just his run in the Portland handicap. So another one of these heritage handicaps last year, when he was just a complete no-show, really. He bounced back to win after that, but he's obviously quite a hard horse to keep right because he's only had 5 runs. He's fine, like 7-2. I don't know. I think, if you're backing each way or you're backing place markets, you can probably back in the place market and have as much chance of landing something at 7-2 with 6 chances of winning as you can with him just as a one-off spot of winning. Something interesting here. Kevin Stott was due to ride this horse and they bought him on the 15th of June, King Power. So, on Monday. I wonder if it was a tat sale. Would it have been one of those? That might, because we always have the Eve of Ascot sale.
They have the London sale, don't they?
Yeah, that's usually in the car park, don't they? It's a great. Have you ever been to that?
I used to always get invited. I'm not important enough anymore, and I never used to go. But I did fancy it. But the trouble is, it's the night before Royal Ascot, so you're smashing away getting the next day's newspaper out.
That, and you don't want to peak too early, do you? Let's face it, because there's a lot of bubbly going around.
And you don't want bloodstock people jabbing their finger in your chest and telling you not to write about.
That used to happen.
Various goings on in the bloodstock world. Oh my!
Would Newmarket Tattersall's ring be your absolute no, the pit of fire, if you like? Yeah, fair enough. I think the mob might be baying for you out now again. The Tweed Brigade. So we mentioned Cheltenham throughout this. Actually, David Jennings likened My Tent or Yours to Mr. Lupton earlier. He was like he's got more chance of My Tent or Yours winning that. Can you believe that? What are you going for in the Wokingham out there? Are you enjoying the show? We've had an absolute barnstormer of a Saturday afternoon. Sport is back, isn't it? And racing really leading the way. Could it have been any better? They put everything into this Saturday card. They jiggled all the races around, and it has worked. An absolute treat. Are you serious? A Silver Wokingham, a Queen Mary, a Coventry, a Coronation, a St James's Palace, and a Diamond Jubilee, and now we've got the Wokingham.
Incredible.
And even the last race, while DJ this morning to me called it a terrible race.
It did.
But we have got
it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
We've got a horse who should be really odds on. He's around the even mark.
And that's what the meeting should end with, an even money shot that says, come on, punters, come and have a go.
And brilliantly named, Who Dares Win.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't make this up. Absolutely fantastic. Hashtag RP Live. Let us know. Social comments have dried up a little bit. Let us know. Get them in. Now's a great time for a shout out. How's your week been? Are you up? Are you down? Anything you want us to muse about here? It's like being with this fly on the wall, sort of like real-time analysis. We react as it going. Talking about reacting, we better get ready. But Bruce, this is going to be a serious call, man. Are you
a piece of cake, mate? Honestly,
Graham Good, the unflappable.
No, it won't be Graham Good because nothing will be going 3, 4, 5 links clear. But
it might be Bielsa, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I hope not. I've laid him for the 5 places.
Have you?
I have, yeah. I just thought that he's just too short. We've seen some handicap favourites absolutely waltz in, but we've also seen some get left behind. And I do think that draw in 3 is no good. It's funny actually, isn't it? Because if you look at the market, you've got Bielsa Fav in 3. Yeah. Jack's Point is very well fancied, but he's in 1.
Oof, yeah.
So there's a few your one is drawn 3, isn't it?
So, yeah. Let's talk about Jack's Point because it's been some week for Willie Muir, isn't it? Second in the Buckingham Palace. When was that? On the 6th? That was the opening race, wasn't it? Neil's saying, yeah, it's hard to remember, isn't it? But it was the start of a great week for Jim Crowley, Richard Hannon off to an absolute fly. Jack's Point. If he a 66-1 shot for Willie Muir, he must have thought to himself, "Oh, come on, how much closer am I going to get?" Of course, Pile Driver went and won later in the week for him. Was that on the opening day as well? Pile Driver, I think it was. Might have been, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it was.
It was. Thanks, Rob. So he's turning out 4 days later.
How long ago does that feel? Pile Driver.
Aeons ago, doesn't it? But this is a potential pace angle on the far side. Jack's Point. He's dropping back from 7, so he's got the pace to lay up. I mean, they're rolling the dice again with him, but he's well fancied, isn't he?
Neil, I've got a question for you here with regard to what Dave said there about pace. If you've got all these shorties drawn low on the far side and they form a kind of high-quality peloton out there, you're not going to see the relative positions to the 2 or even 3 groups until quite late. So do you potentially think that they could actually, if they are racing on unadvantageous ground, they could actually get very short in running? It's going to be fascinating, isn't it, depending on how they split?
Yeah, and I think that's what we saw a little bit with Sanzamali. I think there's an element of like Leia's not wanting to let him get too big because he could be ahead. And he was probably let down a little bit by it just being him. But if you've got a gang of them out there, 3 or 4 of them, and there's a couple of them who are, up there in the betting, so they have the ability to last there. You could see those on the far side. If they do split, they could get quite low before like the masses on the near side sort of break away from, in the peloton their side.
And there's another one as well. Sorry, Neil, there's another one drawn low who could join that peloton who's been well punted. Is Silent Echo for Tom Marcon. That's down to 16. That's really been well backed. Angel Alexandra is well backed as well at 13.
They pay bundles for Silent Echo, Peter Hedger. I should remember the owner's names. Apologies, not doing so. It's PCF Racing. I'm trying to remember the guy who owns it. He's been a long supporter of Peter Hedger. Like I say, they paid bundles for this horse, so he could go quite well. Tinto's another horse that could go well. Dazzling Dan, I know Dan Walsh in the studio, obviously, funnily enough, likes that. Hey Jonesy's horse that could go well. Spanish City, Dan Zeno, Air Raid, likely pace angle. Highland Dress, we haven't mentioned that. Simon Turner, Racing Post handicapper, runs Hambledon Racing. And this is a very, very progressive horse. And just had the 6 starts. Could he be the fly in the ointment? Anyway, we're all in. Over to Bruce.
Wish me luck.
I do.
You'll have to help me out here, Dave.
OK.
There's just the 24. There's 6 furlongs and they are off. And the favourite, Bielsa, breaking from stall 3, has given them a bit of a start. He's mid-division on that far side. They're splitting into 2 very, very even-sized groups. I reckon you've got probably 10 staying far side and maybe 14 down the near side. Setting the pace is Hey Josie under Kevin Stott, who won the last race. Also up there, Recon Mission. Also up there is, in the blue colours, is Stone of Destiny, I think. And on the near side, the orange colours of Air Raid, leading the way from Konchek. Also prominent on the near side.
Summergan's going well, Bruce.
Where's Summergan?
He's in the near side. He's going really, really well. You probably don't want to play your hand too soon.
He's quite slow. Here comes. This is the favourite on the far side. Bielsa. Is Bielsa on the far side? Who's that leading on the far side?
It's just still Hey Jonesy, just in about. Here comes Spanish City for Dave Jennings. Angel Alexander's in there pitching, looking for a couple of others. Summer's gone clear. Hey Jonesy.
This is Hey Jonesy. Kevin Stott with a double. This is a 50-to-1 shot.
This couldn't be a Bruce.
Where's
Millington
Summergan?
He's coming on the near side.
Here he comes. Summergan down the near side. Come on, Summergan. It's going to be Hey Josie. Hey Josie. Summergan's not going to get there, is he? Hey Josie and Summergan. Hey Josie and Summergan. He hasn't got there, has he?
Oh, I tell you what, it's a stride after the line. He's in front. Bruce Millington gets out of his seat. The cameraman at Ascot thinks it's Hey Jonesy.
Hey Jonesy, what a story. Kevin Stott has just won a Group 1 and now he's come out and won the Wokingham.
We're watching the slow-mo replay
Look at
here.
Summergan, what a hero he is. You were calling him and I go, well, where the hell is he?
Well, it's just because you knew you were on him. The Spanish City for Dave Jennings running absolute bud. It's really close here, actually.
Down the near side is
Gulliver. It's going to be really, really close.
No, I don't think so. I think Hey Jonesy's won that.
What's it saying on the exchange? Neil Hubbard in the photo.
Yeah, 1.19 Hey Jonesy, 1.18
That's a
Hey
run.
Jonesy. Yeah, it looks like it's his race.
Oh my goodness!
Summergan is 6s.
You talk about cliff horses. Tom Segal, if you're watching, Tom, you see the replays later, highlights of this. Man, I hope you're on. Tipsters have been called all sorts of names for putting this horse up. They thought this would be a group sprinter for them. They tried to make him into a Guineas horse at the start of his career. He's just stayed there. We've got 2 stories here, basically, for you. Bruce Millington has either landed a treble.
That's not the story. The story is Kevin Stott and Kevin Ryan landing a double within half an hour of each other. That's absolutely astonishing.
And the big narrative
That's
here,
just brilliant.
As I said just beforehand, I think it's a bit closer than what you said on the photo there. The finisher is, it's just after the line. He's in front. What a Wokingham!
Well, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's no difference there between the 2 sides.
No, exactly. No, the group's been perfect.
Honestly, I think that they would have said with Hey Jonesy in the race. Look, we've got Bielsa, the big race favourite. Is that him in about 3rd or 4th?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So my Stone of Destiny's an absolute stinker in the same colours. But listen, it's very, very close.
Now.
They haven't called it, but it's suspended the market. The other story is that he was due to ride Bielsa.
Hey Jonesy's got it.
Hey Jonesy has won the Wokingham Stakes. Wow. I mean, what? Okay, Neil, let's come to you. I couldn't even tell you what pre-race odds it was. Massive.
Really interesting because Hey Jonesy was really strongly backed in probably the last 5 minutes before the race. He's like the 3rd bottom one on the list, so you know what that's like. He's around horses whose BSP is 180, 53, 80, 60, 48, and his BSP is 20. So he was really strongly backed before the race. He was matched at a high of 75, but that wasn't in the race because he jumped and just went. As soon as he hit the lead, he was into tens.
The amazing thing is,
just spoke favourably.
This horse, Neil, only beat one home in the Buckingham Palace on the opening race of the meeting.
I mean, would have put him with your Dark Visions and your Scarlet Dragons, to be honest, as a bit of a cliff horse for people. But Summergand, other than the photo, he was matched at a low of 1.15. It's
a day of firsts, isn't it? Kevin Stock gets off the mark in the Group 1 Diamond Jubilee. Would that be Kevin's first Group 1? I'm tempted to say it is.
I'd assume so, but you never know. Sometimes they just pop up with one, don't they? Sun Chariot or something. You think, well, how come?
I think we've ended up, in terms of the charity bets, I think we ended up with 3rd and 4th.
Well done, Neil.
Oh, yeah. Spanish City and Gulliver.
I'll tell you what, chaps. Take out Hey Jonesy. The two of you have done really, really well there, because Bruce is on Summergand as well. You couldn't see him in the run. I was expecting veins to come out.
Look at Summergand. He was second last.
He was travelling real strong, and I
backed him to win, not finish last.
I think if you go back to the run, I said you don't want to play your hand too early. Hey Jonesy on the far side has just kept going. He only beat one home over 7 furlongs. Jack's Point was second in that race. He's beaten him there by about 3 or 4 lengths. This is a horse that you will see on probably social media, people coming out and saying, oh, please don't tell me Hey Jonesy's won. I'll know loads of mates of mine that will probably I do hope that they did the Scarlet Dragon, the Dark Vision, and kept with him. Sound like the market was with him. If you go back to this time last year, he finished half a length off Marie's Diamond at Haydock. He's a classy animal. And what you were saying, Bruce, about the back class, he's got a top racing post rating of 112 when it clicks for these horses. And here's something we're going to say for the initial time this week. First time blinkers.
Is that the first one, is it? Wow. Yeah. They've done the trick.
It's just really interesting, like that money. Yeah, the majority of the money on him has been matched at around 50, 55, 60, 65s. And then the next big batch of money matched on him is 20, 21, 22. So we've backed all the way down just before the off. And his BSP was 19.9. So, and you know.
That's a big gamble then, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah, that's a proper gamble that's been landed on him there.
Just to tidy up the places, 5th is Silent Echo, 6th was the favourite, Bielsa.
So if you're each way, well done. I mean, a little bit more juice maybe for that horse. He was just off it a lot earlier than he often is in his races. So I think he has one on good to firm, but that probably could have done without the drying ground. King Power obviously got a sprinter to go ahead with that. I'll be looking at Air Gold Cup, Stewards Cup, of course, at Goodwood. This is the sort of race we're looking at. Wokingham. Whew, the cavalry charge. That was madness, wasn't it?
Summergand's a great horse, isn't he?
Brilliant.
I've got a brilliant run there, and I mean, I'm not too bothered. Like I say, I'm trying to stick to my ethos. Don't get excited about betting.
But you've obviously
stay nice and level.
Place in each way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine.
Let's go back to the top of the show when you said this could have been one of the worst festivals you've ever had. Hey.
No, it's fine. And I mean, again, when I say worst festivals, what I don't want to give people the impression is that we're about to be evicted or anything like that.
No, I meant your radar.
Very sensible. I've been sensible, but I think the whole point is, if you're a punter, whatever you're staking, if you come into a big meeting, Cheltenham, Royal Ascot, Glorious Goodwood, York, wherever, you want to win, because I know that everyone says a 2-1 winner is a 2-1 winner, whether it's at Southall or Cheltenham, and that is obviously true. But you put so much study in, don't you? And you follow racing for these weeks, these big weeks. So you want to win. So you hit the bar a couple of times. And the terminology you use, it's no good, I've had a terrible week. And it's not a terrible week, because, I think we've all realised that you don't want to start getting yourself into trouble with betting. But it's just disappointing if you do come out of it having seen a great week. You love the opportunity to actually say, well, I also made some money.
Your opinion to be proved right,
correct,
which is what it's all about. Certainly Cheltenham, we knew every hoof that was running, didn't we? This week, I never had a laptop at Cheltenham on this show. I'm going to try and discard it for Glorious Goodwood. Maybe I might need it for the Epsom Derby, I don't know. But it's been one of those weird years, and we're just trying to remember everything. We're getting going. We're learning so much. That is going to be a huge pointer for the Stewards Cup. Surely Summergand can get one.
I don't know. I mean, the handicapper's not going to relent with him, is he?
It's just the way he's. Let me counter that in that's probably a career best, and he has come from way back, hasn't he?
He really had. Like I say, I don't know where you were getting this summer game from.
I just kept zoning in on him.
But why? He was second last when you started cheering him up. I mean, it's a brilliant bit of in-running sussing by
everyone else was, which is very unusual for me. I'm not an in-running punter. Why? Because I get a bit too emotional. But everyone else was rowing away, including the winner, including the Fav. And the only jockey that was sitting still at that point was James Doyle. It was whether he would make up the ground. And I guess if you're into your sectionals and stuff, you'll probably be all over him for the Stewards' Cup. Actually, I'm going to just quickly see how he's got, what his Goodwood record is. I'm pretty sure he might
think it's
even
okay.
running that.
All tracks, all venues, all continents come alive.
He was fourth in it last year off a mark of 100, so he's £1 higher there. He's going to nudge up a little bit for that, but he's got a top racing post rating of 107. That, I think we have to say that's a career best. He was fifth in this race last year.
I love him. I love him. Great
David
horse.
O'Mara, a nod to him. No winner on the week for David. But
what about Kevin Stott? That's nuts, isn't it?
I mean,
from 40 minutes, he's gone from one of the bit part players of Royal Ascot to nabbing the Group 1 and then winning the Wokingham. I mean, so he's 6 furlong king now.
If he was in tears with Hello Hume Zane, this horse probably means such a lot to him as well, doesn't he? He's been called loads of names. They tried to stretch him out into be something like a Guineas horse. He was running in trials of that. Very smart 3-year-old. It's just been duck eggs and things like that since. And he's been the hare and the donkey, the sitting duck, whatever you like, all the cliches. And Kevin Stott, you're right. It reminds you of Tor Hammer Hansen earlier in the week. In the Ascot Stakes, the closing race on the first day, £5 claimer, winning his first race. Amazing. Best name in racing.
Yeah.
Hayley Turner, now the winning most female rider of all time on 2, and then lightning struck twice. Holly Doyle, one of the rides of the week, unquestionably, on Scarlet Dragon. That brings us nicely onto our last race, doesn't it? Where we've got perhaps the punted horse of the week.
Before we do that, let's just reflect on Hay Jonesy's Royal Ascot record, because this was his 4th run at Royal Ascot. 2018, 5th to Echtidar, only beaten 2 lengths in the Commonwealth Cup, and then 9th in the Wokingham last year, and obviously only beat 1 home in the Buckingham Palace here on Tuesday.
I remember saying to you a while back on a podcast, I said to you, he's a wise guy's horse. And I remember you putting me up and going, what's a wise guy's horse? And it is that back class. I remember Alistair Down, he was what I would call a wise guy. He was punting. I remember he used to look for jumpers that might just be able to bounce back and have loads in hand at a handicap or whatever. Hey Jonesy, the Cliff horse. Oh my goodness gracious me, Kevin Stott. Jocked off the Fav, if you like, because why? Sylvester de Souza's retained owners by the favourite of the Wokingham. You're probably thinking, oh, there goes my Royal Ascot winner going by. A Diamond Jubilee, a 6-furlong double on Hay Jonesy. And what a finish it was as well. He probably might have thought he was beaten as well, wasn't he? And the klaxon would have gone at the track. It's a little bit of a shame for him, isn't it? There's no crowd. But he's punching the air. We can see on the cameras there as well.
Neil, if you were... if you were Chris Stickles at the end of this, would you say, right then, to all you lot who said there was a draw bias, that was my final offering on the straight track, and look at that. The 2 groups have been basically perfectly intertwined. Well done, him.
It's the jockey's fault, isn't it? It's always the jockey's fault. If they'd have just stayed where they were drawn, there probably wouldn't have been a problem all week. It's just that they all want to be where everyone else is, don't they? But it's where the pace is, isn't it, a lot of the time? But that last race worked out perfectly, didn't it? Just a bit of housekeeping in terms of earlier on in St James Palace. Gosden has said... what's his name? Palace Pier will go to the Jacques Lemarois next, which is in early August. So that's the plan for him.
That's boring, isn't it?
Yeah. So he said he could probably reach 1.25 miles, but 1 mile is all he wants at the minute. So he's Jacques Lemarois. And as for Alpine Star, said that she can probably get to 10 furlongs, but we doubt that she'll stay 1.5 miles.
Oh, come on.
So they're not sure about the Oaks. They haven't ruled out the Oaks. They're not saying they're not going for the Oaks.
Go for it. That's a shame, isn't it, Neil? Don't you think? I mean, the only thing I would say is that there are loads of good targets for her, the Nassau and various others, if she wants to just carry on beating up 3-year-old fillies. And if you do look at this year's Oaks, you've got 3 issues there, haven't you? You've got the fact that... Love is in there looking dominant. Frankly, Darling looks really, really good. So those are 2 problems. And then you've also got the 2-week turnaround, which is also a big issue. So, these are difficult campaigning challenges for the trainers, aren't they? And, the whole point there is that they're not really into this before. You don't get these races acting as trials for the Oaks and the Derby. It's just peculiar, isn't it?
That's exactly it. It's like the pattern's not what it is in a normal year. So there needs to be a little bit of I don't know, flexibility and creativity, I suppose, with some of these race planners and where they want to go. They're not saying for Alpenstar she's definitely not going to go. They trot out the normal thing. She's very relaxed, which gives her a chance of getting the trip. But yeah, they're just not too sure whether they'll go for the Oaks yet. But it seems pretty definite that Palace Piers just off to France in August.
Okay, and that would be, if we're able to travel to France in August, and you've never been to Deauville, I would urge you to go. It's not an expensive trip. You can get a cheap ferry across from Portsmouth to Cannes, and then you can get a bus to Deauville. You can get a cheap hotel. I promise you, you will not miss it. It is the most fantastic place. Have you been to Deauville,
Never
Dave?
been.
Honestly,
Never
you
been.
must. Have you been, Neil?
I've got a similar story to you with Ranwick in terms of I was over on holiday in France, and it was before I really got massively into racing, but it was just like, oh, there's a race course there. What's that? And we sort of walked past it, and there was a meeting on, and it was Deauville that was on. So I didn't
you've
actually
been
go
there
to
then?
it,
No, you
seen the
tick.
race there. Yeah,
Deauville,
so if
tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're getting Ranwick, I'm getting Deauville.
Did you like Deauville? It's a beautiful town, isn't it?
it's
It's a
lovely.
gorgeous
Yeah,
town. Honestly,
great.
if you're a racing fan, Dave, like I
Yeah.
say, you can get there. You get a train down to Portsmouth, you jump on a ferry across the continent, and you get a bus or a train to Deauville. It's the most beautiful part of the world. If you hit the weather right, it's absolute racing heaven.
You would have been editor. Do you remember Des Stoneham and Alistair Down? I'm sure talks about where to go and eat. That was, of course, he does.
Yeah.
But I remember that was one of my favourite articles about foreign racing. I think the way that they spoke about where they it just sounds so. I don't know. It's like someone out of a great detective movie of old, isn't it?
It's
Where
fabulous.
absolutely
It's a
brilliant.
really classy, chic city. The only thing with that thing about where to eat in Deauville is they all go to the Drakkar, which is this,
Right.
and you've got the lads, all the Cornwall guys. They have this top table, and they sit there and hold court there,
Okay.
and then everyone else wants to be seen in there. But the trouble with that is that there's zillions of people. It's the most non-social distancing restaurant I've ever been to. They pack them in,
Yeah,
but there's
right,
better
small
places
tables.
just over the road. But I promise you, if I give you one tip, and like I say, I'm not saying go to Garrison Savannah in Barbados. This is not expensive. Deauville is a beautiful place to go racing.
I've been to Garrison Savannah.
Have you?
Yeah, you been? Yeah, sure.
I went on my honeymoon, but they had the last meeting was the week before, so I couldn't even get a bus and see a race on.
I went on my honeymoon as well, and I was lucky enough to go. If you've ever been to Barbados, let us know if you have. Garrison Savannah, it's like a dog track, isn't it? And it's like literally makes Chester look like Newbury, basically. And it was the most crazy experience. But you see all the ex-European horses that Gay Smith has had and all that. You know, there's a lot of expats over there that have got their holiday homes and stuff.
Is it true that racegoers run onto the course after the horses and chase them down, like doing pretend whipping and all that?
They do the locals, if you like. You know, in Barbados, you go to Oistins on a Friday night, don't you? Whenever Garrison Savannah is, the industry types, if you like, the people that are really propping up Barbados, the island, what do they call them? The Angels, don't they? They call them on Barbados because they think that's, you know, it was where the land met. You know, and so they call them God's Angels, basically, on Barbados. It is their highlight of the week by a mile, and they are lunatics.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
I'd love
fantastic.
to go.
Yeah, you need to be on the front
go.
runner if you ever go drawn low, basically. So there you are, Garrison Savannah. Okay, so I can't believe it. We're down to our last race. Would you absolutely believe it? We are 12 minutes away from the Queen Alexandra Stakes, the longest race run anywhere on the racing calendar each year. 2 miles 6, and Neil Hubbard, let's go to you. It looks like he's gone. Who dares wins? If you're in trouble, you've got to be brave.
Yeah, 2-horse race. The market is suggesting 1.98 at the top of the market. Who dares wins, and the Grand Vizier at 4.3. Obviously won the Ascot Stakes here last year.
Yeah.
Nate the Great 6.8, and then your 20s or bigger the rest, really. So it does look a 2-horse race, but Who Dares Wins there's been a couple of non-runners, which has accentuated the shortening of his price. But ever since Scarlet Dragon, for the same owner trainer, went in yesterday, this thing's been steadily backed.
The question is, Neil, I asked you this, are you laying the greatest horse we've seen in a Gold Cup since Yates? The answer was no. Are you laying the Alan King treble?
No, we can't do that, can we? I think it is a 2-horse race, though, so it's probably a bit dull, isn't it? But
No, it's not. We rev this. This is the Get Out Stakes.
Yes,
Everyone's going for it on Who Dares
absolutely.
Wins. Raise yourself, Neil. One more
Yeah.
race, my friend. Come on.
That's it.
Who
Yeah.
Dares Wins. That's the attitude.
So are we backing it, Neil? Are we backing Who Dares Wins?
Yeah, we are back in Who Dares
Good.
Wins.
Come on then.
Yes.
Let's get in. How
Come
much?
on then.
So we'll have 100 quid on at 1 point, well, whatever he is now, 1.97. I think that's fine. Yeah, so he's basically just shy of even money. So to finish on a high.
I
Hang on,
mean,
what's happened? Where is it? What did
where's
I
it
do?
gone? What have we done? Place bets? Or it's just disappeared like nowhere.
Oh, there we are. It's back.
We're back.
Good. Okay, we're on.
Value
100
Vorderman
quids.
has found it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're greened up there, as you can see. That's your profit on Betfair in the column there. Neil Hubbard's having a really, really good day. Could this be Tom Marquand? I mean, look, the narratives are there, aren't they? The story, if you're writing, I suppose, if you're getting ready to write your Queen Alexandra report, you're thinking, well, it's just going to be so easy, isn't it? Holly Doyle, of course, partner of Tom Marquand. Holly Doyle for Henry Ponsonby and his cohorts rode Scarlet Dragon, a really well-known horse for Alan King. Second winner of the week for Alan King. He's had one first, second, nowhere in the Coventry, and a winner as well. Brilliant week for Alan King, and he has ended up on what I think we could say, definitely one of the hot pots of the week. Who Dares wins, Northumberland Plate winner at Newcastle. He's run in Potemps handicaps, running Coral Cups. He's run over fences, and he was a novice chaser at the start of the year. A brilliant horse to own. And listen, I was chatting to Kills earlier. He said he really should be odds on. We all agree. Dave Jennings as well. They've all given a big tick for this. And I know you love it out there, punters. They're like, sometimes why do tipsters? I get asked this a lot actually. Why do some of your tipsters try and look away from the obvious? And it's because value is the key, isn't it? And if you see something that you think is bigger than you should, that's really where you're tipping. Over the course of time, that's where you come out on top. They love it when they go for a short one.
Punters and tipsters love it when they get the opportunity to get stuck into something. Like Keels and David Jennings, you know, they're not by instinct people who are going to lump on even money and 4 to 5 shots. But if they see one and they fancy it and they think it's too big, they'll step in. That's what you've got to do as a punter, isn't it? There's 3s on shots that are too big.
At the start of the week, Keels said to me, he said, I'm not going to get involved, but he said to everyone in his tips at the start of the week, Batar should be 3s on. He did mention 6s on, yeah.
6s on.
He did on the feature show, he did.
I think this is interesting, though, because I think the second one in here that we'll talk about, the Grand Vizier, he's not, like, totally out of this by any stretch.
No, not at all. And those connections are shrewd, aren't they, you know?
He is. I mean, we talk about sprint kings and you like, but Ian Williams, I know some owners with Ian, and he's just apparently such a great guy to have a horse with because he'll tell you about other horses in the yard. There's no saving it for them. They've got their WhatsApp groups and all that sort of stuff. He's great fun. Whether you're at Wolverhampton or whether you're at Royal Ascot. He took out the Ascot Stakes, he said, last year. Do you remember he beat Build Me Up Buttercup in that? It was on ground.
Mullins.
And he inherited this horse, didn't he, the Grand Vizier? It was from Haggis, that's right. I remember writing about the race now. That's over 2 miles 6. The ground's not going to be a problem. He was right up there all the way. He hasn't run since October last year, but let me tell you, Ian Williams there are a few pairs of training staying handicappers and stayers in general. Who was the Magic Circle, of course, wasn't it? But, you know,
Didn't he get that off Rafe?
Yes, he did, and he went to the great doctor, didn't he, Marlon Kukash, of course, who didn't have Chester this year. So, but the Grand Vizier is back basically to try and do a double that's been done. Richard Kingscote's on. You know what they're going to do? They're going to set out to make it a proper test, aren't they? I would imagine 3 to 1. They don't want you to back this each way. The one proviso that you've got with this horse is he better with a bit of cut in the ground? I think probably.
And then, but there is also a third element to this race, isn't there? Because Andrew Balding's had a great week, Ashim Murphy's had a couple of wins, and they team up with Nate the Great.
Yes.
Who's a 4-year-old who, you know, has it to find on ratings and doesn't have that kind of charismatic profile of the other two, but, you know, is in there pitching.
He ran in a Chesham, Nate the Great, and I think he was favourite for it for when he was trained by Archie Watson. I'm just going to cheat and go down his profile here. So he got touched off in the Chesham by Arthur Kitt in 2018. And he's been one of those horses ever since people have wanted to try and, again, a little bit like Hay Jonesy, a little bit of a cliff horse for people, I think. And they went for him at Newmarket on his return in June. That was over a mile 4 on good ground. And it just was outpaced. He looked like a horse that wanted a trip. And Andrew's obviously seen this race and thought, right, this is the port of call. We just have absolutely no idea whether he's going to stay.
There's wanting a trip and then there's wanting a trip, though, Dave, isn't there?
But to give you a guide on this, Neil, he's had 6 runners in the race, Andrew Balding, and he's had 2 wins.
He won it last year, didn't he?
He won it last year, of course, with Cleont. Yeah, Cleonte, whatever we call it, you know, for King Power Racing. This is usually, isn't it, one of the races where you're probably trying to beat beat the traffic, aren't you?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on my way home.
That's completely changed now this year, and there's not usually a horse. Well, not usually.
There's no such thing
a
as
horse
traffic anymore, is there?
Well, exactly. Traffic. That's what.
I got a little bit on the way up. I think I found the only bit of traffic in Britain coming up here today.
Usually, even when Willie Mullins has one in this, I mean, actually, that's a good point. Who did Willie have in this last year? Because they tend to go for the double, don't they? He had Max Dynamite 100 to 30. So even then, we're talking about 130 shot. The only winning favourite in the last 10 years was Simonon for Willie Mullins back in 2012.
Yeah.
That was 11 to 4. Cleonte was 7 to 2. So well punted. So look, the Baldings, you're just throwing it up in the air if they're going to stay. But they've obviously seen the horse. They might have had this in mind right from the start. He did look outpaced over a mile 4. We don't know. The market suggests he's got a chance.
Well, on the top one, the 9-year-old Fun Mac.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the one thing he won't go short of is a rousting from the saddle, because Jim Crowley needs to win this to be top jockey. It'd be a very peculiar horse to win on, a 9-year-old. But again, another one with a ton to find on the ratings. I just think with with Fun Mac and with Nate the Great, you might get one of these front two beat, but are they both going to underperform to the extent that, you're going to have to improve like mad to get past them, aren't you?
Yeah, just a quick word on Fun Mac. He was a beaten favourite when he was last seen last year. He's a 9-year-old now, you're right. Jim Crowley will be doing absolutely everything because he could well just usurp Frankie Dettori, flip-flopping again for the top jockey. Hugely prestigious award to win. He's been 5th and 8th in this in 2017 and 18. He's not getting any better, is he? So, and ultimately he's better with a bit of cut underfoot as well, but he's classy also on his day. Neil, what price are we looking at? Who Des wins?
1.9, 1.91, so that's around the 10 to 11 mark. So a little bit shorter than we backed him out, but pretty solid there at the top of the market. Same as the Grand Vizier. Not a lot going on, I don't suppose. Yeah, just very popular, the top two, really.
Now, this could be a Graham Good call, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could actually. Yeah, I will bear that in mind. Yeah,
Graham Good call.
I will bear that one in mind.
This is like the cross-country race at
Cheltenham. Oh, this is going to be a piece of cake compared to the Wokingham. I must admit, do you know what? I must admit, I had a shocker in the Wokingham. I really struggled there, and I needed you to bail me out. You basically came along and took over there.
Well, don't let that get you down. You've had a brilliant week. Actually, let's just because look, we are around about.
I'm totally frazzled.
We have the Greyhound team that come in the Racing Pals Greyhound channel. Bruce is saying he's frazzled, but let's talk now because they are just still going around in the paddock, and it's a 2 mile 6 race. We all know where we're kind of going. Are you with Who Dares Wins or are you against him? Your last chance this week to get your social comments in. The team will put it up. So, Bruce, what a week. Before we go to the unflappable Neil Hubbard, just a personal thing. I've genuinely had a great time this week.
I have.
It's easy to say it, but I think I've never known you to be on such form, actually. I don't mean that in any other way than what it should sound.
You're normally a right boring bastard.
No, it's not so much that. At the Guineas meeting, you came in, we hadn't seen each other since lockdown. We hadn't really seen anyone since lockdown, and you had an air of calm about you. You were just like, you know what? We can't. Let's just learn. We're all finding our way here, and we're not going to take it too seriously.
We hadn't seen humans for ages, had we? None of us talked to our wives by that point because it was about 6 weeks in. So yeah, it was mad, wasn't it?
Yeah, as Ross
we were
Briley
relearning our social skills.
Yeah, we've become Ross Briley's family, so that's how it was. Thankfully, Ross has been allowed back up to Yorkshire. But we've had a great time. Your calling this week has been fantastic.
Thank you, mate.
The highlights reel. I mean, come on. There's Scarlett Scarhill, absolutely fantastic. I never thought I'd be calling my old editor Scarlett Scarhill. Let's put it that way. Value Vorderman, absolutely. What was the one? What was it you called me, David Attenborough?
David Attenborough. Yeah, when he thought the dodo was a bird that lived for a long time. It's been extinct for 3,000 years.
So you think you're frazzled? I still have 4 races to go at that point, but it's been a long, long week. It's been absolutely fantastic. Everyone has loved it out there. Everyone's loved you, Bruce. So happy days. You'll be back, right?
Dave, it's been great, and I've done 3, and that was quite enough. You doing 5, mate? That is a hell of a performance. It's been great working with you, and I hope we can get back together in the studio before too long. It's been great fun.
It's the Derby meeting next, just to remind you that. A word for the content team and the guys that are working remotely as well. Gethin Evans, this was his baby, and Elliot Hackney, who's been in the studio in no particular order. Dan Walsh and Rob Lee as well. They've been bringing all this. It's been quite a slick production. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Apart from in here, and you getting decapitated,
I'm nearly getting decapitated. What you couldn't hear at one point about, maybe you could, because there were batteries being slid across the floor.
Couldn't hear it? You're joking.
I said it's the batteries in my ear that
Sounded
have
like
gone.
it was a horse galloping across the studio.
Rob Lee came in with 4 batteries. I was like, all of a sudden I'm playing marbles with
It
him.
was like, you know, at Wimbledon when they change ends and the ball boys have to send the balls down the side of the court. Rob was like that. It was like a 10-pin bowler.
On his knee, absolute 10-pin bowling. That's fantastic. What have your highlights been out there as well before we go to the unflappable that is Neil Hubbard? Let us know. We love to get your feedback. What's your highlight of the week, betting-wise? What would you like to see on the highlights reel? The guys have a lot of fun putting that together. We've got something new here. We've got something definitely innovative. It's interactive. It's the interaction we want. Neil Hubbard, tell us about your week.
Yeah, been really good. Thanks, Dave. It's good to actually get back talking horsing, talking racing. Really good. It was nice of Barry to let me do a couple of days. And yeah, it's been really good fun. So it's been nice to split the fun with Barry like that. And yeah, it's been a really good week, hasn't it?
Oh, you'll be back. You'll be back. You did the debut show at Cheltenham. And one of my favourite lines in the whole entire week was on Thursday when Ross Bridie came in. He said, can we go back to Neil Hubbard, get him up on the screen? He said, I feel like Neil's about to ask me for my mother's maiden name and my credit card.
That's right. He said it was just like a call centre worker.
And if you can get a smile out of Neil Hubbard, it means it's funny. He doesn't often break it. Neil said he'd had his first shave since lockdown as well, which is a Life of Brian character, you know, something like that.
We've got a market move quickly, haven't we, Neil?
Ooh, come on then, back
here,
to the
evens, who dares wins.
Yeah, he's
drifting out.
drifted out a little bit here. Grand Vizier has come in for a bit of money, but Nate the Great, yeah, 5.7 now, having been as big as he was just bigger than sevens when we started talking. He was 8.8 this morning, so he's into 5.7. So that's yeah, it's probably just people looking for a bit of what they perceive to be value against the big two here, I guess. So yeah, the weakness with the favourite, and Nate the Great for Andrew Baldwin is the one attracting support.
Yeah, like I said, he's now rated 94, but he does have Racing Post ratings in the hundreds. We have a social comment. You've been listening. Your last chance to get it in. Who is it going to be? I said maybe not the last one. Soulful Music 100. That could have caught me out. Great entertainment through the week. Many thanks. Happy days. Great to have you with us. You'll be back, no doubt. We've got Derby coming up and the Oaks. Unbelievable. After Royal Ascot. Would you absolutely believe it? So quite got my head around that.
Yeah,
one.
the Ribblesdale being an Oaks trial. It's nuts, isn't it?
And masterfully, we are looking like we might have 2 serious classics coming up, mightn't we?
Definitely. I'm really excited about the classics
Yes.
now. I mean, the Derby, I think, have we had all the clues? We've had all the clues we're going to get now, really,
Pretty much. Have they had the Ballysacks yet, or was it just a Derrinstown in Ireland? I can't remember, mate. There might be one still to come in Ireland, but yeah, that's it, pretty much.
So we better go for glory with a Derby Oaks double. I am going to go. I'm going to stick with Frankly Darling because I just think she's been great in those 2 runs. I know Love was really impressive, but the form wasn't massively franked. Alpine Star, if that had gone for it, I'd have been interested at 10. So I'm going to go Frankly Darling. And for the Derby, I like If He Goes. And I know apparently all you pedigree disciples are all think that he's a miler, but Vatican City, I think, is the value to serve it up to English King. So I'm going to go for Frankly Darling for the Oaks and Vatican City for the Derby. Who are you going for, Dave?
Well, I'll give you a word on them first. I'll tell you what, this afternoon, in the back of my mind, I've had Frankly Darling. It's when you mentioned that you got on after Newcastle for the Oaks, because it looked like, you know, it could be the enable thing. Paul Keeley's backed it at a big price as well. Some of my mates were on straight. I got a couple of whoosh messages there. What I like about her performance this week in the Ribblesdale, again, seems like a long time ago, she's one of the only horses that sat on the pace and won convincingly. So they've got. Listen, once again, Gosden's got a lot of horses for that. The Derby, yeah, I can't be having Vatican City on my mind because I've pedigree for me, but he is now the top Ballydoyle horse for that, and they tend to win it. English King for me. Berkshire Rocco didn't harm the form whatsoever. I don't think it quite went his way. I just love the way that he travelled through. Ed Walker, with a huge player in the Derby. I think whatever beats him, I think will win. Let's put it that way. And also in the Oaks, I probably will stick with Love, to be honest.
Neil, who are you going to go for?
I'm trying to think of the fillies who ran on in the Irish 1,000 Guineas. Was it Fancy Blue?
Yes.
Or Peaceful? I forget which one it was.
Peaceful won it.
The blue cap who ran on.
Peaceful won it. It was Fancy Blue, yeah.
So
for Donica O'Brien.
Yeah, Fancy Blue probably for the Oaks at a bit of a bigger price.
Yeah.
And then the Derby, not really very excited by the Derby at this stage, I must say. Although I did actually think Russian Emperor ran really well
Yeah.
earlier in the week here.
It looks like he wants a trip, doesn't he?
Sort of slow, maturing sort of Aidan O'Brien 3-year-old that wouldn't. I mean, he's quite high in the betting for it, but I think that says more about the depth of the race.
He's probably then top-ranked horse
Yeah.
as far as the betting goes, isn't he?
Bruce, they're going in for the last.
Okay.
The Queen Alexandra. Ready your voices, Willow. So we're going to watch me on the screen.
How long does it take them to do 2 miles, 5.5, 6 minutes?
Like, well, about that, I would imagine.
About that, isn't it?
And
Anyway,
we can have
they're
a
off.
Leslie chat, can't we? I mean, it's,
Well, no, we need to keep people abreast because they might be watching us and not watching the pictures. God help them. Right then. So they make their way from the. Is it the 7 furlongs? No, it's the mile start.
Yeah.
They make their way from the mile start all the way. They do a mile and then they do a full lap. It's 2 miles and 5 furlongs. They are going so slowly. They are almost reversing. There is zero pace on. What pace there is being applied by Mooka Magic for Gay Kellaway with Ben Curtis. The Wokingham and this, they look like different species, don't they?
They've got you in mind, I think.
I know, they've been very, very, very helpful.
They could have near enough started both these races at the same time and let these go out into the country while they run the Wokingham.
Even by Queen Alexandra, this is really slow, actually. I mean, they're literally. This is like something.
That sectional 14.62. I can do that.
It's like a novice chase at Southwell, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
something, isn't it?
31 miles an hour.
Okay,
Anyway,
the order.
Adrasto, Jamie Snowden and the Doyler are cutting it out. The third favourite, Nate the Great and Oisin Murphy are in second. In third is Merca Magic. Then there's a little gap back to Who Dares Wins, who's keeping them in his sights. The Grand Vizier has decided to sit in that one's wake. On the inside, you've got Fun Mac with Jim Crowley desperately trying to wrest Top Jockey back. And then behind those, we've got... Who cares? Do you care? I suppose you might have backed it to freebie. That's in 7th. In 8th, you've got Affluence. And bringing up the rear is Monsieur Co. So they've got half a furlong and then a whole lap and 14.25 now. Any market moves, Neil?
Absolutely nothing happening.
Okay.
No, so what price is he?
Who Dares Wins 1.91, 1.93. Grand Vizier 4.1. Nate the Great 7.2. Fun Mac 19s. Pretty much as you were.
Anything to add, Dave?
As the pace of the race.
The tactics are the tactics on Nate the Great are really interesting here because we're talking about Willie won't he stay or whatever. Well, they're riding him as if it's not going to be a problem whatsoever. Usually, you would be saying, right, the sedate pace is really playing into his hands, but actually, he's taking a bit of a strong, keen hold. What price has he gone, Neil Hubbard?
Who was that? The Grand Vizier?
No, Nate the Great.
Oh, Nate the Great 7. So he's the same as his BSP, 6.8, 7, so pretty much the same as what he was. So the market pretty neutral on him so far.
And the Grand Vizier and Fun Mac, are there any love for them at all?
Grand Vizier, same, 4.1, and Fun Mac, 19.5. So pretty much what they were when they jumped.
Great, thank you, Neil. Let's take it back to Bruce Millington for the call. The final race on the week at Royal Ascot.
The pace has increased. They did that last furlong in 12.85 as opposed to 14.62. So they've upped the pace. But it's still pretty sedate and it's still Adrasto leading the way from on the outside, Nate the Great on the inside. It is Mooka Magic, and then in 4th is the Jolly Who Dares Wins,
going on.
being followed through by Le Grand Vizier. Up the inside is Fun Mac, and then the 3 Rags are bringing up the rear as they go round what I suppose is the penultimate turn.
The get-out horse, Who Dares Wins, isn't he brilliantly named? Will Tom Marquand replicate his partner Holly Doyle by taking out the last race on the Friday? It's also the Saturday, they're racing for the same connections. He is in the perfect stalking place. I'll tell you what, Jim Crowley will be fancying his chances a bit here on Fun Mac.
Yeah, he's got closer, hasn't he?
And he's travelling.
Fun Mac's into 15. He's in 5th place. Okay, right, 6 furlongs to go. Let's have it. Adrasto still in front. Merca Magic still vying for 2nd place with Nate the Great. Who Dares Wins is absolutely flying along in 4th. In 5th on the inside is Fun Mac. In 6th is Le Grand Vizier, who is the 2nd favourite. I don't think we need to worry about the rest. Nate the Great now just beginning to move up onto the flank of Adrasto. Who Dares Wins is eyeballing them. Look, is the Grand Vizier not going great? He's holding his pitch.
Right.
He's holding his pitch. Yeah. Fun Mac's coming under a ride, but it's still this outsider Adrasto as they've got 4 furlongs to go. And now push comes to shove. And I think the favourite now is Le Grand Vizier.
Yeah, he's always got a little bit tight on the bend. They're going for it. Who Dares wins, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be the top two in the market, Bruce.
I'll tell you, Adrasto, they've still got to get past this. It's got a length. It's
Come on, Who Dares wins.
Here comes Who Dares wins, and on his outside
Such
the Grand
a game
Vizier,
horse.
and up the inside, still staying on when his Mooka
What's
Magic.
this
Here
coming?
comes Who Dares wins.
Come
Can
on.
Who Dares wins gets it done? Who Dares wins takes it up. Le Grand Vizier in
Get him
second.
up.
Battling
Come on,
on
Tom.
the inside. Something. Come on, Le Grand Vizier and Who Dares wins neck and neck.
Richard Kingscote and Tom Martin, Bruce. It's going to be Who Dares wins, I think.
wins.
Come on,
it.
Who Dares
Who Dares
wins.
wins. Oh, my
The
God.
voice has gone. The voice has gone.
I'm gone.
Oh, Tom Martin. That's the horse. If you watched it, what price must he have gone in running? It was neck and neck all the way. Two favourites, that's all you needed to know. Over 2 miles 6, they lined up in behind. It was so exciting. Bruce Millington's voice finally went. Neil Hubbard, what price did he go?
Yeah, so Grand Vizier hit 1.25 in running. Who Dares never ever bigger than what he did jump off at, really. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, but ultimately, yeah, his price didn't really move. Nate the Great hit 5. But yeah, I guess Grand Vizier 1.25, but it was like the market got it right. It was a 2-horse race, and that's what it ended up being.
Mooka Magic back in third for Gay Calloway and Ben Curtis, who got off the mark yesterday with Dan Darlow as well.
Actually, a shout out to Adratos at the front there. His BSP was like 44, but he hit 2.4.
Did he really? Yeah, he looked like he was staying on all right, didn't he?
Yeah, halfway down that home straight, he was still there, wasn't he? He was still boxing on.
An 8-year-old rated for Jamie Snowden, rated, what is he, a 142 horse at a chaser. So look, there'll be...
That was good fun, that wasn't
That was
it? I
good
know it was, in terms of quality, it's an egg and spoon race, but it was good fun. And Alan King, what a Royal Ascot he's had. He's had 3 winners and a second. What are you doing, man? You're a jumps trainer.
Absolutely, give him the ammunition. He could do it. Definitely one of the best dual-purpose trainers of my era, that's for sure. Ian Williams as well, the Grand Vizier, he came back and he did it again, didn't he? The 6-year-old. It gives these older horses a chance to shine, have their moment in the sun. Tom Marquard's
loving that.
Is that Tom's first Royal Ascot winner?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he's giving that the big one.
Yeah, so
Holly
fantastic.
Doyle did it yesterday, so it'll be champagne tonight for those two. That's fantastic. What a fun way to end a brilliant, brilliant week.
Did we dare take the short odds about Who Dares wins in the last race of the meeting? Were you down? Did you go for it? We've got a couple of social comments. Let's see what we've got coming through before we sign off. Rob, the guys in the gallery are absolutely gone. You can tell they've had it. Here we go, Commander von Roerich again. Highlight of the week was Bruce rumbling his words on the finish line of the Wokingham. Priceless. See, this is what people like. Good work, fellas. Really enjoy the show, says Nick Palfrey, all week. Really adds the enjoyment of these big meetings. Well, great. Happy days. Listen, you keep wanting to watch it. We'll keep punting out the content. Okay, then. This was it. Royal Ascot 2020. We've just landed on even money shot. Happy days. Go and pop the corks. If you haven't been already, you'll be popping a cork tonight, deservedly so, Bruce Millington.
I will, and so will Neil, because that was his charity. He had a oneer on for charity, didn't he? How have we done today? Let's have a look at your profit loss, Neil. You've done well today, haven't you?
Can he crack a smile? That's what they want to know.
I think so. I'm always happy, Dave. Don't worry about it.
I know this, Neil. I absolutely know this, but you're the most deadpan person I think I've ever worked with, but which is a big compliment to you, really. But you've been absolutely on fire. You were on Thursday, Gold Cup Day, Ladies' Day. You got us over the line. Neil Hubbard, thanks for coming, old boy.
Very welcome. I think looking at the P&L there, Barry's been placing some other charity.
I know. I quickly clicked off because there was all sorts of football going on there.
Yeah,
I think I stumbled across Barry's personal punt.
Yeah, exactly.
GDPR people all over it.
Barry, you're not supposed to be on the programme today.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think we got 4 winners in the end today, which was pretty solid effort on what was a pretty trappy-looking card. But no, happy days. So we'll get all of that sorted and we'll settle that all up and we'll put that to the same good causes that the Britannia Stakes money went to on the Thursday. So all in all, a good end to the week.
Neil, see you in July. That's a certainty. Let everyone know what you're thinking, Neil. Lots of you probably having drinks on Neil as well. He does read your comments after the show. So that's it from us.
It's been emotional. I've loved it. Thanks ever so much to everyone who has tuned in, who's watched us and who's left comments. Again, thanks to Elliot and to Rob and to Dan behind the glass. They've been outstanding. You've been a star, Dave. 5 days of that takes some doing. I couldn't last that long, mate. That's a marathon.
I will
Great
go
job.
out on my shield this evening. I've managed to nick a couple of winners along the way, which is really what it's all about, and having fun as well. So that's it, 2020 Royal Ascot. Thanks for being with us here on RP Live with the Betfair Exchange. We'll see you for the Derby.